We kick things off with a scene of despair and chaos as the monsters just decided to invade the world. People rallied together, fighting tooth and nail to protect what they loved, their home. Among these brave souls was our hero, Casselian Lawandian, who faced the threat with a fury worthy of an anime poster. Years passed with him piling up monsters and bodies without knowing what fear felt like. The blade in his hand was his only companion, until the day came when he had to take on Aaron's not-so-little brother. That dude was tough as nails. The battle was nothing short of brutal, but in the end, our hero showed who's boss and took that guy down. But like all good tragedies, in the aftermath of the fight, he also fell. However, fate, that sly trickster, had other plans. Lawandian's soul wandered through an endless void until it stumbled upon a human boy from a planet called Earth. The kid was named Su Dogan and looked like he was on the brink of death, clueless about how he got there. Before he made his final exit, he had one last request, but Lawandian cut him off, saying it wasn't the right time. Truth is, the guy just wanted to die in peace. He was fed up with life, having lost a ton of things, including his home and family. He failed in his last battle, but even so, Su Dogan, who wasn't too keen on living either, just wanted a better future for his family. It seemed like Lawandian finally got it and decided to listen to the kid's wish. With the excitement of a kid in a candy store, Ogum mustered up the courage to ask for his family to live in peace. And just like that, our protagonist accepted the role of protector for the kid's family and ended up on Earth, now in the body of a teen named Do-jun. He has the mission of infiltrating the Nansa Gate, which is ranked C. And that's not just for the fancy name. The gate's only open for registered heroes. Then comes the automatic scanner that starts beeping, demanding the ID that our hero clearly doesn't have. But not caring about any of that, he just barges into the protected area, setting off an alarm that screams about the supposed breach inside the place. He starts narrowing his focus, looking for monsters to punch. That's when he runs into the group of heroes. These guys were licensed and totally on a mission, thinking our dude had gotten lost. They offered to help since they were headed towards the exit. However, Doi just stayed quiet, throwing a weird vibe into the mix. Soon, even these heroes realized something was off. He was dressed casually and looked like a fish out of water among that crowd. Sure, it's true that nowadays people dress pretty chill, but what's the deal with that backpack he's carrying? From what they can tell, he looks like just another clueless guy who got ditched by his group. But what's up with that? Doi finally opens up, acknowledging the suspicion and saying he was there all alone. No heroes in sight. The heroes sigh, getting where he's coming from. They've seen plenty of people get hyped to be heroes after watching a few TV commercials, but that kind of motivation can end in disaster if you jump in recklessly. First, you gotta get certified as a hero. Then you have to go through some serious training. Not to mention that this gate is rank C for a reason, right? If you're just starting out, you might want to go for a rank F gate. You know? After Doi's lecture, he makes it clear he doesn't need anyone's advice, especially not from them. The heroes are taken aback by the kid's blunt and cold response. They were just trying to help, and now everyone's a bit pissed, but the leader tells them to cool it. He doesn't want help? Fine, let him be. He'll learn the hard way. The leader's confident that the kid will find out just how brutal this place can be, way different from what TV shows. So, Doi soon encounters a giant troll staring him down, ready for a snack. The monster lunges, but misses its target and ends up smashing the ground. Instead, he moves so fast that the troll didn't even see what hit it. So, with a devastating force, he brings his fist down and takes the orc's head clean off. It's like a scene straight out of Spider-Man, with this guy making a total mess of things. Now the monster's face down in the dirt, and here comes the good part, the loot. Baby. He grabs the sword the troll was carrying, but doesn't stop there. He chucks the sword at another monster and pulls out a shiny gem that's actually a pretty crappy magical stone. So insignificant that he had never even thought about it before. But now that he's broke, he's got to pay attention to this stuff. Out of nowhere, more monsters show up, pissed off about seeing their buddy decapitated. One of them whips around and throws a rock so fast it blasts the head off one of the other monsters. The other two just keep charging like they're looking for a glorious death, and our hero is more than happy to help as he's causing chaos. Cut to those heroes crossing into monster territory. Their minds are still stuck on their run-in with the kid. The woman with orange hair looks worried about the dojo and is anxious about its future. The leader, on the other hand, thinks it's pretty unlikely. If he's an intruder, he'll be found by agents from Central Control pretty soon. Those agents are always rank B or higher, and this gate is just rank C. The chance of Jum getting in trouble here is almost zero. As long as our boy doesn't go charging in like a lunatic at the monsters, his chances of dying are pretty slim. He's almost sure that the arrogant kid must be shaking in his boots, just waiting for the agents to come and bail him out of the mess. Oh man, the story is basically the opposite of that, and our hero is the one literally making those punching bags tremble with fear. One punch and they're done, my friend. The dude is so fast they can't even touch him, let alone squish him. He shows up right behind one idiot and delivers a kick so hard it literally obliterates the guy's head. Dude, with all these losers on the ground, he grabs one of the swords and starts harvesting those sweet magical gems. After a while, he finishes packing his bag and he's all set to leave. But honestly, he's pretty disappointed with today's hunt. It's basically dead weight in his bag, all those low-level gems. Then, out of nowhere, one of the agents finally spots him and alerts his partners before our guy can fully turn around. That suited guy is already giving him a serious look. First, they explain that they're from the gate control center and suggest he show them his hero registration card. If he's not registered, he's going to have to go with them to the control center. Man, our guy's not really comfortable with that, which just makes the suited guy even tenser and colder, insisting that he cooperate and follow the procedures. But the only response they get from our kid is an annoyed look plastered on his face. And all this drama is killing his vibe. But whatever, he just turns to walk away, and since words aren't doing anything, the suited guys start threatening him with handcuffs if he doesn't cooperate. Physical force could be used too if necessary. One of the more impatient guys tries to grab our boy's hand and threatens him with some pain if he doesn't cooperate. And what's worse, all the blame is going to fall on him. So it's better for everyone to settle this with words, not violence. But it looks like one of them is already fed up with this crap and grabs the poor guy's hand back. The poor suited guy feels a chill down his spine. The other two idiots whip out their magic-infused batons. Actually, they're level 4 magic staves, powerful enough to take down an orc. But those things don't have enough power to hurt our boy, so he twists the jerk's hand, making him cry like a little kid. Oh man. Then he gives them a final warning. They better scram now if they don't want to lose the last shred of dignity they have left. Eventually, those guys are fully pissed off, but they're going to have to retaliate with violence. They try everything to take a swing at our guy with their magic staves, but no one can. Our guy delivers a crushing blow right to some poor dude's back, then another one to his gut, and then he zeroes in on the guy in glasses. He's the last man standing. The last dude already senses trouble coming. He's tensing up. Then, out of nowhere, he disappears into thin air, making the poor guy freak out as he sees the guy literally vanish. Then, out of nowhere, he gets a sneaky punch right in the stomach. The dude stumbles backward in pain, looking like Dojo is done with. All this nonsense and the agents are being super annoying, so he starts considering registering as a hero because let's be real, as long as he avoids shady or illegal stuff, no one's gonna be hounding him. Then our guy asks about this thing called a rift, and that just completely confused us. Quick context on how the world works. So, there are all these passages that connect to another world filled with weird monsters. These things are scattered all over the place, like, it's insane. The precious stones they're mining from monster corpses turn into new energy sources, so you get it, right? They're super coveted. Every government-controlled passage is open to heroes, while the so-called gates, passages that the government doesn't control or that are closed, are known as rifts. Now back to our boy, who finds it ridiculously annoying that these suit guys follow him around, accusing him of trespassing. It doesn't matter which gate he goes through, the poor guy is just trying to explain that if an unregistered hero enters a gate without permission, the control center automatically gets notified. The agents just hanging out around there are dispatched right away. So as our hero is thinking about going into a rift, the agent makes it clear that these things aren't as easy to access as that gate. Breaking into a rift is going to come with serious consequences. 2-1 couldn't care less about this talk though. He grabs the poor guy by the face and tosses him aside like he's a bag of trash. And boom! Saturation. The poor agent is regretting not calling for backup. This is way over his head. Before heading out, Does takes one last look at the downed agent, thinking about how weak this guy really is. The weakling seems to have a broken arm and is busy shouting threats, promising to get our guy and lock him up. The scene then shifts to a digital complex in Gazan, located in the Chelchon district. This giant building is now known as the Heroes Complex. This is where all transactions involving magic stones or anything at the gates take place, and these days, this place is busier than ever. Does, our guy, is heading to a shop that buys and sells magic stones. As he walks in, he's greeted by a Gen Z dude, glued to his phone, scrolling through Reels and TikTok. When Does says he wants to sell some magic stones, the store owner immediately starts talking up his business, claiming this location offers the best prices in the country. He insists they're the best in all of Brazil, you know? Does. Slaps down all the low-grade gems, caked with monster blood on the counter, making the store owner look like he just got punched in the mouth. But he doesn't say a word and keeps the transaction going. While the stones are being processed, some folks in the shop ask Does if he wants a coffee. A little while later, he's sipping coffee casually while the shop owner cleans the dirt and blood off the stones like it's just another chore. Shortly after, the guy starts calculating how much Does is going to owe. He counts 12 low-grade stones, 16 medium-grade, and 5 high and low-grade. After deducting the 40% commission that Does has to pay, it comes to about 5.5 million Korean coins. But our hero is feeling a bit uneasy. That whole 40% commission thing feels off to him. I mean, he's the one who hunted and put in the time, right? The shop owner, acting all high and mighty, thinks he's being generous for only charging 40%. He's so confident that he even offers Does to take his stones back if he's not happy with the price. After all, this is the best offer, or at least that's what this guy claims. Desperate, the shop owner grabs Dojum's hand before he can leave and demands compensation for the evaluation and the coffee he drank. But this guy wants 30,000 coins for the evaluation and another 10,000 for the coffee. As if that wasn't enough, he says the blood he had to clean ruined his entire tablecloth. Seriously, with all that, Doi-sum owes about 350,000. Come on, give me a break. But Dojum isn't budging on those crazy demands, no matter how much this guy insists. When the threats don't work, that guy brings in his C-class heroes who act as his bodyguards. Right then, one of the goons bursts in through the back door asking why they were called and if there's a problem. They're ready to handle it. Dojum locks eyes with the shop owner, who matches his glare with equal intensity. Then it cuts to a shot of the shop owner's terrified, sweaty face. He thought he was hot stuff, but he's shocked when Dojum takes out his 3 goons without even breaking a sweat, showing who's really in charge here. Our guy then walks up to the counter and negotiates the commission down to 1% without even batting an eye because, let's be real, when someone like Doi-sum looks right into your soul, there's just no arguing. So with that, the deal is sealed. Dojum walks away with a fat stack of cash for the work he did, or rather, for the punches he threw outside. His grandma and sister are left in awe at the money. Grandma even doubts that Dojum's got real cash, but he quickly clears it up, saying the money came from a loan to a friend who started a cool business. But Grandma doesn't buy it. After all, this guy doesn't have many friends. Meanwhile, Doi-sum's sister is super excited about the wealth they just snagged. His brother, all affectionate, gives her a little pat and fuels her dreams of the luxurious life they're about to live, and the little girl jumps for joy, feeling rich as heck. Seeing her so happy, he feels like he's really fulfilling a promise he made one day. Remember what the guy who used to own this body said? He just wanted his grandma, half-sister, and young to be okay. That poor guy disappeared before Dojum could even say a word, and when he woke up, he realized he had become Dojum. Now, his mission was to make sure this little family lived safely and comfortably. To do that, he's thinking about buying a safer house in Korea, which is going to cost a whopping 110 billion. Making the money shouldn't be too hard, especially once he regains his original power. This world is pretty similar to the one he came from, the one that got blown up. The only major difference is that the creatures and gates here are way weaker than in the world he watched crumble. And for a guy who's been called the god of the sword, this place is just a sandbox. So far, he's only been fighting with about 10% of his original power. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. The dude gets up and decides to answer it. When he opens the door, he faces 2 thugs outside. These guys are there to collect a debt, and Dojum owes 11,048,000. Looking closely, Dojum already knows these guys are loan sharks. Even if his debt was only 5 million, which was what he spent on Grandma's hospital bill, these creeps are charging outrageous interest, demanding 10 times the amount in no time at all. They already know he's making money from the gates, so they want him to cough up the cash since it's all documented. But the only payment these guys are getting is a punch, one that's going to shatter that big guy's jaw. That punch sends the thug flying, while his partner just stands there stunned at what he just witnessed. Then, 2-1 shoots a deadly look at the skinny guy, remembering that more than 9 million has already been paid. So, when they do the math, those losers should actually be paying him interest. With another punch, he makes the punk cry like a little dog. Yeah, 2-1 tells him to let his boss know he's coming over for a visit. The scene then cuts to a bustling mall. There, Sweet Rum Yang is all excited in a stuffed animal shop. Dojun took her on a fantastic shopping spree. Today, she gets to pick whatever she wants, reminiscing about the original Dojun who brought her feelings back to life. The scene is beautiful, with Dojun treating Young with such care, even though she's his half-sister. He just wants to keep doing that, ensuring he pours all the love he can into this little girl. Finally, she picks out a stuffed animal she's been eyeing, a tiny, super cute bunny. She selects it carefully, trying not to be too extravagant. But of course, Dojun decides to get her a much bigger stuffed animal instead. He doesn't want her to hold back at all. It's her day, and she can choose whatever her heart desires without even thinking about the money. Then they indulge in some good food while enjoying their meal. An unfamiliar voice suddenly calls out our hero's name. It's a middle-aged woman, followed by a bunch of guards. This chubby woman seems to be another loudmouth who loves to take jabs at our guy, just like his mother who brought him into this world. Naturally, these sharp comments infuriate our hero more than anything, while the little girl is completely clueless about who this woman is, or why she's talking smack about her so casually. The woman quickly focuses her attention on the girl and asks her name. The girl introduces herself as LaRue Yang, which makes the woman realize she's Dojun's sister. Out of habit, she throws a jab at the girl's clothes, calling them messy, which really gets under our guy's skin. But for some reason, he's holding it together so far. This lady is shocked at how composed Dojun is keeping himself. Then, this girl decides to take it a step further. This piece of work has the audacity to ask the child what brothel means. That was the last straw. Dojun blows up and calls her an ugly woman belonging to the orc tribe. The woman's eyes go wide and her mind goes blank as she's caught off guard. Right now, we need to give a bit more background to understand why Dojo is only tolerating this woman up to a certain point. Wise Dojo was born as an illegitimate son and grew up in poverty. At the tender age of 7, his mother passed away, and he barely made it to his father's house. With his father marrying a new woman, he was shunned by everyone. The situation only got worse when his father's legitimate wife gave birth to a child, and both of them were completely ignored. Things got so bad that he was kicked out of the very house he lived in, so he ended up living with his half-sister at his grandmother's place. While our protagonist reflects, he feels pity for Duan, who had to endure all of this, and still tried to keep a smile on his face, as if there wasn't any pain in his life. But now he wants to change everything. It looks like this woman is his half-sister, which explains why he's been trying to hold back, but he can't take it anymore. He remembers how he shared a roof with this orc woman, who is just so disgusting. She's also really stupid, making brutal comments about how she's a failure and has an inferiority complex. That's the only reason he projects his insecurities onto others. Everyone at the mall is watching them as if they're the center of attention. The orc woman is totally annoyed and about to lose her mind, but then Duan's stepmother walks in. Seeing her mother, the orc woman rushes over to her like a whiny puppy, complaining that this boy has insulted her with words. But the mother gets irritated at the sight of her daughter whining and shoots her a cold look. Then she turns her attention to our boy and greets him with all the grace she can muster. She invites him back home to have a little fun, but Dojo knows full well that his stepmother is fake. After all, she's the one who caused the most misery and unrest. At 12 years old, the woman keeps reminding him of a bunch of things he never wanted to remember, triggering his PTSD. And getting into total serious mode with a tone colder than your mom's jokes, our guy just tells this woman to scram. Well, that's a slap in her dignity, getting dissed by someone younger than her. She just turns around and walks away with the last shred of dignity she has left. Seriously, she didn't expect him to come back so sharp. She's wondering if he's the same guy who would just look down when she slapped him for no reason. Her daughter follows her, with their bodyguards trailing behind, as well. The two ladies seem to think that their girls totally ruined the moment our duo was having. He wanted to make one thing clear. His dojo, which couldn't even defend itself, was history, and it was about time his trashy family recognized that. Then, we cut to a Mercedes speeding down the road. Inside the car, we see the mom and daughter. The daughter is furious, like seriously. The mom is just sitting there quiet, instead of putting the dojo in its place. As she vents her frustration, mom orders her manager to explain why the dojo is still standing. Well, the guy has no idea how this dude is still alive. It doesn't match the reports. The woman screams about the nonsense this guy is spouting. How on earth could he still be alive? The poor guy swears he'll investigate this again and make sure this time he gets it done right. The trashy daughter catches on to the sinister schemes her mom has always been plotting. She gets all shaken up hearing talk of killing and dying. No. Then suddenly the mom asks her if she feels anything for 2. 1? Well, that takes the fat squirrel by surprise. Honestly, she's worried that if grandpa or dad find out, they'll get in deep trouble. The mom grabs her daughter by the mouth, like zero sympathy, and warns her to stay far away from her biz. This woman is dead set on taking out 2 without a second thought, especially after that bold move he made responding to her mom. Getting rid of him seems like the ultimate revenge. A decade ago, the world went totally chaotic with the emergence of the Rift. These terrifying dimensions unleashed worlds and monsters that came from the portal, ready to wreak havoc. The violence was relentless, and ultimately tore the world apart, leaving entire cities in ruins and engulfed in flames. But as the forces of darkness emerged, so did the heroes, the brave warriors. With them came the first discovery, mana stones, rolling out from the bodies of defeated monsters. Now, the scene cuts to Dojum headed somewhere, thinking about how mana stones changed everything regarding the world's energy. Because of this, the countries decided to focus on the rifts appearing. Everyone wants priority to harvest resources. So, given the crazy state of the world, all compensation hinges on the gates and the heroes. That's why being a hero is raking in the big bucks. The only way to secure a decent paycheck is to become a real hero. 2-1 finally arrives at his destination, which is the establishment capital HCS. Upon entering the building at first glance, the boss and his goons just look like run-of-the-mill thugs, trying to scare people with their ugly mugs. But 2-1 is calm and collected, not the least bit stressed. The boss puts out his cigarette and remarks on our guy's audacity, not only for beating up the goons, but also for showing up at the door. He makes a comment about the organization, saying that it was actually 2-1 who suffered a big loss. The boss finds this ridiculous and demands an explanation from our kid. Dojum says that actually, he came to collect the compensation he deserves because, deep down, he's been through a lot of stress, both physical and mental, thanks to those guys. Then, hearing Dojum's serious words, the boss notices something's changed in the kid. It's clear he's no longer the pushover he used to be. Because of all this, the boss suspects that Dojum must have awakened something through his experiences in the rift. Even knowing this, the guy stays arrogant, complaining that Dojum's newfound confidence is going to be his downfall. The hypocrite calls our kid excessively confident, and, to buy more time, he brings in a bunch of sour-faced thugs to intimidate 2-1, of course. He can gather all the strength he wants. But when it comes to facing the god of the sword, those guys are just bugs. The funniest part is that the human thinks his Dojin is nothing more than a D-class hero, that his organization is gonna stomp someone as weak as that. Meanwhile, Dojin is just chilling on the couch in the background, stared at by 5 guys without even flinching. He tells the boss to sit back down. The boss is like, "Wait, what?" with a calm expression, still surprised that Dojin is still talking, and claims it's not over yet. Upon hearing this, one of the goons decides it's time to challenge Dojin in a playful way. Our guy takes off his glasses, adding to the confusion, and then, bam, he throws a Mike Tyson-level haymaker right to the guy's face. The dude gets launched from the impact, leaving his friend speechless. But it doesn't stop there because the beatdown spills over to everyone. While Dojin takes down another goon, he makes sure to point out a few things. He mentions some shady business from the boss and spills everything he knows about the fake identity scheme. After landing another hit, he tells the boss he's looking to register a hero identity so he can cash in. Dodging an attack from the last thug, Dojin hits back with triple the love and puts everyone to sleep. His special routine works 100% of the time. Dojin keeps laying down his demands. He needs an identification that won't land him in trouble. Later, the boss is in shock. Our guy remembers he's only got 1 day to forge that identity. Some of the guys didn't even get involved, which is a huge compliment, because they're the type of NPCs that would challenge even God. The boss is nearly crapping himself as he tries to gauge the level of 2-1. At least this guy seems to be B-class. And the human is so lost in thought that he happily accepts the job. Finally, our hero Dojun grabs the boss's shoulder in a polite way, but the look on his face says it all, like, "I'm here to collect you." He wants to know if his stepmother Hong Reju ordered an attack against him. Of course, that's exactly what happened, as was clear from the conversation he had with his daughter and her assistant earlier. The boss was pretty speechless, and the guy let out a desperate scream of pain. Even the henchman seemed frustrated with what was going down. The boss vents and spills his twisted strategy. This cruel Machiavellian woman literally wanted to judge his whole life based on his bank account, pushing him to the point where he saw no way out but to take his own life. After hearing the guy's laments and pleas, he questions whether that was also the reason he was locked behind the gate. The boss then plays the victim, saying he had nothing to do with it. He even reveals that he wouldn't get paid if Dojim died inside the gate. That's a pretty plausible explanation that makes Dojim start to think. He mentions the name Kang and a hoo-hoo, which, by the way, is the name of the guy who brought him into the gate. Juwon wants to know every detail about this guy by tomorrow. So with those 2 demands on the table, he leaves politely. After that conversation, Dojim enters a deep state of reflection. The real Dojim had just one wish: to protect his little sister and beloved grandmother, no matter the cost. But don't worry, because the God of Swords is here to settle the scores. And guess what? The next day, our dude is officially registered. He's still stuck with a rank B classification, unlike all those other stories where the protagonist is always down and out. When he taps his card on the machine, the system recognizes him, confirming his identity, but he gets a warning that this rank is still below the tough mission he's about to face. This leaves him pretty pissed, thinking he should have done something more to secure a higher rank, even with the system warning him not to enter gates above his level. Now let's talk about the Night Isle gate. It's basically just a rank B gate, but that doesn't mean a hunter of that rank can actually survive. Heroes are always advised to stay a rank above the gate for safety. Anyway, that dungeon is rank D, so it's pretty spread out, and hunting solo is going to be tough. But the good news is, it's got tunnels, so it won't be too complicated to hunt here. But for our guy, the words risk and danger don't even exist in his vocabulary. What might happen is that he faces a swarm of monsters in tight tunnels. 2. One smiles as the first opponent, a giant snake with a creepy purple scale. For most heroes, this would send them into a total panic. But for him, it's just a good luck sign as he gears up to start the fight. Oh, and just a heads up, the snake has plenty of friends, and their tongues remind me of something out of Harlequin. They try to attack, but it's all pointless because our guy is a killing machine, ripping out and collecting mana stones. The killer Black Viper is a monster with paralysis poison that drops anyone with the slightest touch. So, 2-1 launches forward, like a missile, and lands a crushing blow. Before long, he's already dismembering the creature, leaving a river of blood in his wake. With that creature down on the floor, Dojin checks his gear. The gloves he bought are holding up against the poison just fine, and they only cost 300 grand. Back to the hunt, Dojin focuses on 4 more ugly, limbless lizards, exploding their heads with brutal speed, and more blood sprays until the lizards are sent off to the great beyond. 2 of them join. The others, trying to find magic stones, ripping them from the monsters' bodies, but to their disappointment, no sign of magic stones. That's just how the world works, with those monsters having only a 3% drop rate for mana stones. So, he's going to need to hunt hundreds of these to get anything good. As he continues on his path, he runs into this old bonehead. You might think it's the boss, but Dojin has a different idea and asks the giant snake if it's the boss monster. Dojin thinks this is a good move since the big guy showed up. So you don't have to worry about getting lost anymore. Jumping into an all-out attack, he plans to wrap this up fast and head home. But then the unexpected happens. Even though he throws a brutal punch, it barely phases the creature at all. The human just got a tattoo on his forehead while in midair, and with no chance to dodge, the monster slams him into the wall with its tail. He ends up crashing to the ground, feeling like he just got zapped with the force of the boss monster. The creature shows off its venomous fangs and sways like it's ready for a feast. It tries to bite him, but luckily our hero dodges its attempt using the momentum from his evasive move. He counters with a powerful punch, hitting the creature's body and causing more cracks in its tough shell. After that second hit, one thing became clear to him. The boss monster has an incredibly resilient exterior, making this fight way tougher than against any other snakes he's taken down before. Its hide is so tough that he can't break through with a single strike. This flips the situation, forcing our hero to rethink his battle strategy. In his original strength, the sword god would wipe the floor with this beast, but suddenly, something catches his eye. It's the sword of the warrior who lost his life fighting the boss. And now you'll understand why he's called the sword god and not the fist god. Even though the weapon's pretty beat up from the battle, he grabs the sword, believing that a sword only shines as bright as its wielder. With this thought in mind, and the blade ready in hand, he charges at the monstrous serpent. That creature springs at him once more, launching itself with insane speed. Our hero leaps high into the air, swinging as if the creature should feel honored he's going all out to kill it with a sword. Even though the sword's in rough shape, he gets pumped and lands so many cuts that he leaves the serpent's body emptied. The serious fight wraps up in a pretty hilarious way. The snake collapses while our hero's sword disintegrates. Good thing he took out the creature before it could pull any funny business with the dead boss monster. In a brilliant move, he rips out one of the creature's fangs, thinking it might come in handy for a short sword. He just needs to refine it. Considering that a reward for his journey, he heads for the exit. When he steps outside, it's a starry night. He ended up spending more time at the B rank gate than he expected, and given how everything turned out, it just fuels his determination to restore his power to its peak. Plus, he's glad his old buddies won't see him in this weak phase, because let's be real, right? That would be super cringe. After the hunt, he's planning to appraise and sell the magic stones he brought along, showing off his large stash. The shady receptionist treats him like trash, warning that the commission fee is 40%. Even the clueless guy catches on that something's off about that ridiculous fee. He grumbles, referring to himself as a regular guy. The receptionist pulls the same stunt as before and claims their rate is the lowest among all the traders at the gate center. The fee is at least 5%, no taxes. For the sly appraiser, that's a great deal since it gets the heroes a nice chunk of change. Noticing the guy's beaten up face, what's funny is that he still repeats the same old spiel even after getting wrecked. So, disguised human says a psycho wiped out his guards before leaving him like this. One guy thinks it's the receptionist's fault for keeping C-rank guards on deck, because let's face it, rank isn't everything. Skill counts too. The rank is actually a false representation of someone's abilities, just updated to keep up appearances. Even though the guy is dropping some valuable advice, the receptionist just wants the hero to shut up and get out already. And that's exactly what he does. He offers to help the receptionist in case he needs anything. As he leaves, our guy walks right past the receptionist, looking colder than ice when he catches a glimpse of her. The receptionist feels a rush of fear. She points to two guys, one shouting that he's the psycho who made a mess, freaking out while trying to stare them down. Our hero is actually pretty impressed. He notices the receptionist's skinny frame compared to his height, but the fact that he just took down some guards has the receptionist on guard, asking if he's trouble. But one thing I like about this dude is he doesn't get offended over any silly stuff. He thinks Dojo is misusing his powers as a hero and letting himself be intimidated. Now and then, the receptionist is enjoying the scene, knowing this guy is a hardened hero with 7 years under his belt. If anything goes down here, this dude has plenty of connections he can call in, throwing the name of two without a second thought. Our hero turns around and just walks away, which only makes the receptionist feel insulted because it seems like the guy's being a jerk. Dois asks if the receptionist wants to get back at him. Seeing this, the veteran hero feels provoked. However, being the responsible hero he is, he knows it's not worth it to fight other heroes since it usually ends in deaths. Remembering that, he relaxes and turns his back, leaving the receptionist speechless. Dois turns to the evaluator and asks if he has any problems to sort out. Before the guy could respond, he throws a bag full of magic stones for him to evaluate in exchange for cash. These precious babies are all high-grade magic stones, raising the question of who this guy is in the receptionist's mind, calculating their worth to be around 150 million. At first glance, that seems like a lot, but for Dojo, it's pocket change for a day out hunting. He loses the cash, but the receptionist remembers the commission he needs to calculate first, which probably makes our hero look pretty spooked. So, with just a 1% fee on the small deal, our hero finally chills out and tells the guy to take it easy with the rest of the cash. But, meanwhile, in the hilarious evaluator's mind, he's itching to smack this guy for his audacity. Speaking of which, the receptionist is already warning that he needs upper management's approval to release such a crazy bill. Without wasting any time, João demands that he go get that approval right now. So, the guy quickly calls his boss, whispering about everything going down. But before he can negotiate a softer deal, Zhuo snatches the phone from his hand and goes straight to the boss, asking him to hurry up with the cash. The boss agrees to release the money but just asks for the phone back. When Zhuo hands the phone back, he accidentally smashes it against the wall. Oops. My bad, bro. The employee is in agony seeing his phone broken and shattered, while Juwon tells him to get the cash ready quickly since everything's good now. The receptionist complies and starts preparing several bags full of cash. In the end, the guy feels like crap for being forced into this situation. 10 minutes later, causing a fuss, the boss storms into the store angry because the employee isn't answering the phone. The funny part is the receptionist gives up and decides to embrace his firing. The boss then sees the shattered phone against the wall and immediately realizes things didn't go well. He grabs the phone and calls Juju, asking her to come quickly. Ju Young, on her part, is a young celebrity with pink-purple hair. She's so fierce that people call her Ju Young and treat her like a real star. Plus, she's rocking a super stylish look. When she arrives at the store, the receptionist is left speechless, and she greets him with a big smile. Seriously, there's a huge reason for all this hype around her. She's the 4th S-rank hero in the country. Man, that's unbelievable. Rumor has it that she's the boss's niece, but the real question is, what's this girl doing here? So, confirming the rumors, Young Hyung explains that he came at the uncle's request to look after our somewhat reckless hero. Curious about the whole situation, the elegant S-rank settles in and gets ready to hear what's going on. So, the scene cuts to our guy meditating in the sun, totally ripped. Sure, he spent the whole day hunting, but the rewards were a complete joke. With all that, he's worried about the future. First things first, he needs to reach a level where he can clear S-rank gates. Honestly, that means he's got to train to regain the strength he used to have. The biggest problem our guy is facing right now is that compared to the previous world, the mana here is low. That means even if he busts his butt, trying to gather mana, it's gonna take at least 3 years to get anywhere near his former power. He can aim for better gear for battles, but the catch is, any decent equipment costs a fortune, you know? So that's a no-go. Suddenly, he feels a chill as he senses someone really dangerous nearby. He grabs the little girl, a Yang, in the blink of an eye and yells for everyone to freak out inside the house. He slams the door shut while his grandma awkwardly asks what's going on. The place shakes, with a heavy tremor, making her shrink back and nervously ask if it's an earthquake. Even so, nothing is falling apart, but our hero realizes what's really happening. It's not just an earthquake. There's something way worse. That's when he feels a sharp, violent energy outside. A rift just opened up in his world, right above the house. Running, he tells his loved ones to stay inside because outside, things are critical. At full speed, he dives into the rift, and the last thing he hears are his grandma and sister screaming his name. Cut to the Hero Association, where everyone is already on high alert because of the rift emergency. As for Mappo, this pops up 63 days after the last emergency. So, seeing the White Lion Guild closer to Mappo, the manager wants the team to contact the guild and warn the heroes in the area to deal with the situation. After taking a closer look at the location of the rift, he realizes it opened right above a residential house. That's a serious, situation for them, because if a civilian gets caught in the rift, it's pretty much a death sentence, not to mention the rift isn't going to let anyone else in, and if the people inside die in 10 days, they're sending a wave of monsters that will wreak havoc and destruction in the area. The monster wave will be so uncontrollable that the place will be completely unsafe. The manager is curious about who the crazy person was that went into the rift, and they soon find out it was their dojo's resident. According to his grandmother, he jumped into the rift to protect his family, so with that info, everyone kind of thinks he's not really a hero. This complicates things a lot because the chances of a civilian making it back from the rift are almost non-existent. People are panicking, but also feel helpless since there's nothing they can do. Then it cuts to the stepmom of Duajon, totally furious when she hears about his new awakening. She can hardly believe it. Her assistant reports that even without being registered in the Hero Association, they came to check on him and confirmed he's an awakened from the last incident at the gate. That frustrates her because Kang Chi was supposed to finish the job, but instead, he just made the target stronger. Going completely off the rails, she slams her hand on the table, asking why the hell. They couldn't just kill this guy. Her anger only builds when she finds out they also got paid for the botched job. Filled with frustration, she starts yelling at the manager, sending a direct message to Kang Shirohu, and warns that if he doesn't take care of Dojum personally, he's going to have to deal with him and pay 10 times what he owes. Her assistant suggests they might not even need him anymore since they discovered a new rift right above Dojum's house. After confirming that Dojum jumped into the rift, it's clear his mission's over. Then, Hong Riju even smiles at the news. Finally, a bit of peace for her, but I don't think so. She relaxes, and for the first time, she looks normal. Now, she tells her assistant to assess the situation until more information comes in. Meanwhile, our hero has just landed in the rift dimension and finds himself in a forest, the same one where he used to be happy in his youth. The Patir forest looks just the way he remembers it, right down to the smallest details. The mana inside still carries that familiar weight. He walks along the path with a smile as he reconnects with the colossal tree of the world. This tree is pure mana and divine essence. It's the core of the world's stability. It was right here that the old world began to collapse, when it was burned to the ground, throwing everything into chaos. But here, in the rift dimension, the tree stands tall and perfect, just like he remembers. Even without knowing exactly why, it's clear he can recover his lost mana by absorbing it from the tree. Meditating on the powerful flow of mana, our boy is getting super strong. He stays in the same position for hours, without eating or drinking, and of course taking care of his bathroom needs too. After 10 days like this, solely focused on his breathing, things start to get complicated at the end of the 10th night. These strange creatures known as Bukina come looking for him. They've shown up to burn the tree, just like before, but guess what? Our hero is here to stop that tragedy. The creatures charge at him, and the poor guy wishes he had a sword and some water to take them down. The fiery monsters roar and the pressure rises, but our hero is so packed with mana that he doesn't need a weapon. He is the weapon, and those hands, classified as excellent, rise up against the monsters, wielding enough power to take one of them down. The second creature is so stunned that it doesn't even know what to do. Let's break down what just happened. What he did is technically mana release. It's not quite telekinesis, it's a bursting attack that uses pure mana like a slap in the face. He hasn't done it like this in ages. He had been all drained of mana. But hold on, the mouthy creatures aren't done yet. They launch a counterattack, firing energy blasts. The explosions come rushing at our warrior, who seems like the strongest guy in the world, and his mana is so potent that it shields him from any damage. Full of mana, he charges at the creatures. And now he's claiming he's defending the world tree, and with that, he's ready to have some fun, putting into practice what he's learned. The creatures launch another attack, but he grabs two of them and shuts their mouths. That charges up his ability, and it explodes in their mouths, resulting in roasted meat flying everywhere. The creature bodies drop, leaving behind precious magical stones. But that's just the beginning. There's a lot more to come. 2 is living the dream, grinning as he unlocks the ability called Eternal Ember. After taking down those monsters with a smile, he starts slicing through enemies, smashing them and collecting tons of mana stones. The slaughter feels like a walk in the park, and he wipes them all out at once, hitting the jackpot with how many stones he's got. Among them, he finds a shiny coin or a seed that gleams in gold. That's the Eternal Ember, right there in the palm of his hand. Now he feels like he's regaining control of his power, crushes the chip, and unleashes his flames. The way he's handling the Ember is kind of like a chill Sukuna. Normally, he should keep collecting mana from the World Tree, but he's already hit the max absorption limit. So, the alternative is to absorb the Ember, turning all his mana into fire mana, which is exactly what he's doing, unleashing a torrent of flame energy. Back in his old life, he didn't care about the Eternal Ember. He didn't think it was necessary. Now he needs to absorb all of them, and it's going to take about 10 minutes to finish. Luckily, he collected a bunch of them, and now the goal is to absorb as many as he can. The scene has caught everyone's attention. Reporters are on the scene while agents secure the area. Bang Xianggu is pissed off at the audacity of this guy who jumped into the rift way too early. This guy totally gives off vibes of being a copy of Shin Jong-gu from Solo Leveling. Our protagonist, sporting blue hair, is Kim In-ju, who even gets Dojun's moves to save his sister. But if one doesn't buy into the whole thing accusing Don Juan of being greedy and out of touch, he mentioned it would have been better if Don Juan had offed himself in a more typical way. That's when our hero realizes that if he dies in that crevice, it's gonna turn into a full-blown amusement park for monsters. The guy starts questioning these cracks popping up after the rain in places like China, Switzerland, Turkey, the UK, and Brazil. That's one of the reasons why Gilmar is stuck trying to handle so many cracks at once. This kind of phenomenon doesn't happen every day, and some countries manage to keep it together just fine. There are some guys here who are really pissed off because their situation could easily spiral into total disaster, all because of this dude. With Angu so riled up, begging for that crack to boot the unfortunate guy out, but talking about the big purple giant. 28 days have passed since he first showed up. The identity of 2-1 is still under wraps for privacy reasons, but for now, they're just calling him the regular person. Meanwhile, the rest of the world doesn't even know who 2-1 is. The head of the money lending organization is starting to connect the dots. His assistant even confirms the report to see if his involvement is legit. Kim Myung-gi-tae is there, being the right-hand man to President Wang Shang, his obi, and he's super curious about what the chances are of Dojo making it out alive. The assistant is almost sure that the regular person has less than a 1% chance of surviving, but the mere thought of Dojo being treated like a regular guy brings a playful smile to this dude's face. Man, that's the same person. That so-called regular person literally put his men in the hospital bed. They're overestimating the skills of the only civilian who went into the crack. And now, Shang-Chi is also wanting to know what the chances are for someone to survive as an awakened individual. Even Shang-Chi admits that fighting skills aren't the same as survival skills. Seobi wants to protect Dujun's family, but not for noble reasons, you know? This greedy guy is actually thinking about selling the organs of the family members if he doesn't come back. And if he does come back, he'll blame Dujun for the debt he's taken on for taking care of them. He's the perfect embodiment of a leech. Then it cuts to the mesmerizing world tree. Here, our boy is speeding through his training arc, his body now brimming with mana. He's so focused he doesn't even realize how much time has passed, but he's grinding away, absorbing hundreds of fire stones. This stuff boosts his fire mana to the max and lets him manipulate it however he wants. Plus, his resistance to flames has improved as a side effect. Looking back at his past self, he feels like he's surpassed his former ego. He embraces the world tree and shares a tender moment, thinking, what a beauty. It's always been there for him, even back in the day, and now more than ever. That's why Dujun is super grateful for everything she's done. As for the mana stones, he fashions a little pouch out of vines to keep them all safe. With the stones collected and secured, Dujun realizes he might never see the angelic tree again, but he still hopes their paths will cross if the divine tree is ever in danger again. Because when that happens, he'll be ready to protect her with his life if it comes to that. That night, Dujun finally steps out into the outside world, feeling solid and steady. Luckily, he doesn't sense anyone around, figuring most people must think he's gone, and that the monster wave is going to hit any minute. He picks up on a strong presence nearby, and deciding to investigate, he rushes toward it. A little later, he comes face to face with two Argentinian guys. One looks all pissed off, and the other seems pretty chill. Now he realizes they're probably representing the association from their outfits. That means if he gets caught, things are going to get really tense. To deal with this situation, our hero conjures up a fireball and hurls it into the air. Like a bomber, this thing blasts through the building and blows everything up, all with a bang that's gonna make some noise. Rui, if he's a goo-goo, goes into total alert mode when he hears the explosion, realizing it's fire. The two decide they're after the one responsible. There, they run into a crowd in panic. What the hell's going on here? In the middle of this chaos, our guy is just in awe of his firepower. So far, his aim has been on point, so this is gonna do wonders in the memory of his, old buddy Chusuke. He wonders if the wizard would be impressed with his current level of flames because, you know, Chusuke was known as the strongest fire wizard on the continent. They had a solid bond, right? Then suddenly the sharp senses of a dumb go off, and he starts looking at the rift, noticing it's acting weird, and right before his eyes, it vanishes into the mist. The two agents rush over to see what's happening. When they arrive, they can't believe the rift is gone, disconnected from his world. Meanwhile, our guy is on his way to the next destination, totally chill about it. By morning, the news had spread like wildfire. The rift that had been open in Mapu for a month finally disappeared. It was announced that the rift vanished 29 days after the 2-1 entered, proving that the Hero Association was completely wrong to freak out over the monster wave. Plus, they have to deal with a fire that started just as the rift disappeared at a junkyard. Now, this led most people to believe that the 2-1 is dead, with no idea of what's really going on. Our guy is there, hiding, watching everyone argue about the kid's life and death. To him, the whole rift disappearance thing is a heartbreak, man. He feels crushed that he can't talk to the World Tree anymore. Without being able to protect the World Tree, he realizes there's still one thing he can safeguard. Then, the scene cuts back to HCS, the capital, where the idiots are partying, celebrating the death of the 2-1. Thinking he could easily get rid of his grandmother and sister, Bloodsucker is the kind of guy who squeezes people dry until there's nothing left. This bastard was back there talking about how they should let the little sister grow up to use her in different ways while they just keep talking nonsense. A familiar voice chimes in asking to speak to the boss. The scene cuts, and we see Bloodsucker there, singing and happy, thinking that 2-1 is finally gone for good. His assistant is reviewing the next day's schedule, and it looks like he's free most of the time, except for one lunch appointment. Hearing this, he beams, because he knows he's going to party at a nightclub under Madame Kang's watch that night. But then, he walks into the building. As he climbs the stairs, he realizes his men are being tossed around like toys. My dude, his blood is splattered everywhere, and this is all because of someone he thought was dead. Our guy throws that loser to the ground and tells Bloodsucker to crawl back like a dog. This sinister order sends shivers down the company president's spine. Our hero steps up like a true leader, taking his place in the chair. He repeats the command to the clueless Shang, who's still grasping the seriousness of the situation. Without hesitation, he starts crawling, relentless as ever. Dujum tells him to bark, because he deserves to be treated like an animal, right? The command is so intense that Shang Seobi starts crying from humiliation. It only takes him a second to manage a bark, but our guy isn't anywhere near satisfied. He personally makes sure this bastard will bark several times for everyone to hear. The president is being reduced to less than human, just like how he treated others. Joel points out that channels like him only pretend to be obedient until they find a chance to stab you in the back. Bloodsucker, begging, is trying to set the stage to be a loyal dog if necessary, but 2-1 is already fed up and slaps the bastard hard across the face. This force is enough to leave this guy gasping for air and spitting blood. The assistant watches everything unfold until he's called in. Then 2 people name him the new head of the company, suggesting that this kid should stop bowing down to a jerk like Changi-Subi. Knowing these fools are ready to stab someone in the back, he orders the assistant to take out Changi-Subi however he wants, giving him full freedom. Of course, that's too heavy a task for a decent little errand boy. He apologizes, saying the leader has a lot of connections, so things could get messy if he's the new boss instead of Changi-Subi. On his behalf, the president begs Dojum to give the guy another shot, but Dojum isn't having any of that. He suggests wrapping Changi-Shelby's body in a barrel and disposing of all the evidence by tossing it in the ocean. Then, seeing that the bosses aren't willing to comply, our hero changes tactics. Crazy One threatens the whole team, saying he'll toss them all outside like monster food. Even then, just bringing that up makes them plead for their lives. He promises he'll never betray them again, and that he'll always serve Dojum. This gets our hero thinking. He could easily smack Changi-Shelby and end this, but something in him has changed. Realizing this, Dojum sees he's softer than his past self, relentless. So this time, he agrees to reach out to the guy. I just know Changi-Sobi is about to be in deep trouble, praying he doesn't piss off Dojum. Again, he shakes the hero's hand, promising unconditional service from now on. But hold on, something's off. Why is his hand on fire, smoking and burning? Yeah, even though Crazy One has calmed down a bit, he's still ruthless. Man, looking into this guy's eyes, he reminds the scumbag that this is his last chance. Then, Dojum rips off his hand, leaving it as a charred mess. After that meeting, he walks out, completely ignoring the president's screams of pain, and leaves a final warning. If any of them cross his family again, he'll personally make sure they meet the afterlife one way or another. Extremely slow, now her new job is to protect the family. Officially, the guy known as her dojo disappeared like a pencil when the crack opened up. But in reality, he's just over at the McDonald's on the corner, or maybe it's a Burger King. And the government, the Hero Association, and the media, they don't really care. They just swallowed the news like yesterday's leftovers. Everyone treated the civilian who went into the crack like he was already 6 feet under. Even if he showed up claiming, he was alive, no one would buy it. That dog, under judgment Wang, is helping our guy find a new home. Dojo finally managed to get his sister a decent meal, some quality fast food, and the girl was happier than a kid at an amusement park. Now she can go to kindergarten with the other kids and enter elementary school next year. But when the topic of school came up, little Young's mood dropped like a rock. Gross! She stayed the same, like, what the hell, dude? He was in shock when his sister told him the other kids were bullying her for being an orphan. Hearing that broke Jum's big brother heart. If she doesn't want to hang out with those mean kids, then so be it. So finding out she really didn't need to go to kindergarten to get hit made Young super excited inside. Jum's already plotting a plan to get his sister into a private school. That night, Jum found out that Kim Myong had been hiding his grandma and sister in some motel while he was stuck in the crack. The little glasses-wearing jerk almost broke his back trying to apologize. Then he tried to convince Jum that the motel was part of his company, so it was safer than any other place. You know, today, Jum's too drained to deal with places. So he heads to the room and visits the grandma again. Little Ryun jumped on him like a bear, and Grandma held his hand, just happy to see her grandson back alive. At first, the tough warrior was a bit dazed, but when he felt the warmth of family, he accepted the love, with a smile. The little one and Rune are loving McDonald's. So the family's been devouring tons of fast food over there. Today, he was asking about his brother's super tough gig as a hero. When he asked if he liked being a hero, Young casually responded that it's not all that great for heroes to be strong and stylish because they live in constant danger, facing horrifying monsters. Sometimes they even end up dying. The little girl and her brother just want him to stick around with their grandma and her for a long while. The brother is so used to his daily routine that having someone worry about him is totally new. Back in the cruel past, he was the last human standing. He fought against monsters and creatures that were straight out of his wildest dreams, and along the way, he lost a lot. Now, with a second chance in a different world, something worth fighting for has popped up next to him. Feelings he thought he'd forgotten are coming back to life. In this world, who knows, maybe he can finally find happiness, or at least he can live a quiet life filled with love. While he's feeling all warm and fuzzy inside, the Hero Association of Korea is like a pressure cooker, about to blow. The big boss of the Korean Hero Association is super stressed about the latest rift situation. Their best guys went out to investigate, but didn't find anything new. Feeling iffy about the state of the territory is leaving the boss pretty confused. Isn't it crazy to think that the rift that disappeared could pop back up at any moment? His assistant is trying to nod along with his thoughts. He's worried about uncertainties, but at least he thinks no one got hurt. Tai Wang is like one of the 100 most respected and brave heroes in the world. If he wanted to, he could get elected with the highest number of votes in history for president, but thankfully, he's not interested in leading the nation or being rich. What he really wants is the safety of the people. In other words, this guy is the real deal. Even if it takes time, he wants the investigation to dig deeper, covering the entire area around the rift. The residents there have already agreed to sell their properties to the association, so it shouldn't be an issue. As a consolation, Tai Wang wants to offer these folks more than the market value for their homes. It's the least these guys can do after all the trouble they've caused. All the trusted sources are saying there's been a breach in several countries. The way things are going, something's definitely up. The US and China are already managing their breaches, but one country is in really bad shape, the United Kingdom. Even though the trusted heroes and veterans have been sent to clean up other breaches, people are just in shambles. The month-long mission to wipe the UK's breach off the map has finally fallen apart. It's a humiliating defeat. The breach wave in the UK officially kicked off in the city. Its people continue living their everyday lives like nothing is happening. Amid the chaos, there's your dojo, blending in with the crowd. Today, they're heading to their favorite store in the Heroes Complex. As they enter the store, the guy at the counter instinctively greets them, but chokes on his words when he sees our hero's face. The dude practically froze in fear. But guess what? The manager is in the store today, so he won't have to deal with this sadistic customer alone. Phew. The manager, who was casually reading a newspaper, suddenly closed it and started to pay attention. He already knew this guy was the same one who had been pushing him to buy some really bad quality crystals. The one, too, with a nonchalant attitude, took off their backpack and dumped everything on the floor. Actually, it's probably good the manager is here to help speed up the sale of those magical crystals. The manager continued waiting for the other batch of poor quality crystals to scatter across the floor. How clever. He definitely wasn't interested in such a small deal, right? What he really wanted was something much grander. On the flip side, the one too isn't a fan of being sent away. The manager, like any reasonable human being, can't allow that. Just accepting a 1% cut would be way better if the kid would just leave. My dude, the one too, declared that refusing to do business with him would be a mistake. Just wait. The manager would regret it, but in his typical disdainful manner, he kept telling the kid to leave. Get out! Without even glancing at the bag. That was the last warning he was going to give. Before things went completely south in response to that hostility, Dojong kicked the backpack down, spilling everything inside it. The two of them, being experienced crystal traders, immediately recognized the properties of those rocks. Honestly, that bag was packed with magical hero crystals and a pair of scissors worth way more than you'd imagine. This sly guy had an inkling that those beauties were quite valuable. He knew he had premium material on his hands. Check this out. The hero's magical crystal was used by a notorious Mexican drug dealer named Cozumar. One night, an accident in a lab changed his life and the world's perspective on those tiny stones. The magical crystal made Cozumar awaken as a hero. Just think about it, right? Since then, that stone has become invaluable for anyone looking to awaken, be a hero, and improve their mana. A source of energy this rare is considered top tier, you know? But man, to show his power, Dojong told the idiots to pack up their stuff so he could bounce. Then, suddenly, the manager completely changed his tune. He even took our hero to a VIP area and offered him some drinks while the cashier polished the crystals. He was getting kicked out, yet here he was, glamorously sipping a cold drink. His demand was now 0.5% of the total. Damn, it was already low, and now it got worse. But he kept saying that respect is important. Seriously, bro. In that way, the manager showed some real excitement. One guy literally threatened to cancel the whole thing. So, in past negotiations, he had accepted 1%, and now it's like, screw it, now it's 0.5%. At that point, the manager, feeling down, bowed his head and made the most sincere apology he could muster. But one guy was already fed up with those empty apologies. At the counter, the cashier was cursing Dojong, thinking he was a rude idiot. Realizing that his pitch didn't convince the young guy to make a bigger offer, the manager decided to put on a show and give a long lecture about the crystal markets and pricing, but one guy didn't have time to listen to that, blah blah blah. He stood up and made the manager panic, feeling like he was about to lose the best deal of his life. I was trying to escape. The manager offered 9%, but it didn't work. He started lowering it to 8. It was that tough chess game, you know? The negotiation game, and it went from 8 to 7, then from 7 to 6, and finally down to 5%. The thing is, at that rate, the guy's shop wouldn't make any profit. While the manager was panicking, your boy jumped in and he grudgingly agreed to settle for 1% out of respect for the past. Inside, the manager wanted to scream and curse this extortion. He just couldn't let the product slip away. The next words from your boy almost made the manager lose it. On top of what he brought today, he still had 7 more bags of those priceless crystals. So, what happened? The contract was quickly drafted and signed. A few minutes later, the 67 billion deal was all wrapped up, and the money dropped fast into our hero's account. Damn, at this rate, that 110 billion gold didn't seem so far off. The big issue was that getting more high-grade magic crystals through normal channels was a huge waste of time. If he could find a way to travel through the rift zones without breaks, he'd be raking in treasures like crazy. While he was looking at his phone, suddenly a government message was sent out to everyone in the country. Dude, they finally announced the outbreak wave from the southern region of the kingdom to the public. Everyone already knew things were about to go sideways. eyes. In the meantime, everyone was banned from traveling there. What a drag, right? After reading about that crazy real-world problem, the Dojin totally lost the urge to keep paying attention to the store manager. Back in the day, no matter where he was, he probably would have jumped right into the action to try and seal the rift himself. But he's not that guy anymore. Now he has some more rewarding things to take care of. That night, dinner was on the Dojin, and they were ready to grab some meat. Little Uni was drooling watching that marbled pork and beef sizzle on the grill, and wouldn't stop coming back for more. Meat and its juicy sides on the table. Grandma, worried about not blowing the budget, slowed down and asked Nito if everything was okay. After all, it cost $250,000 for every 100 grams. Dude, that's pretty pricey, man. But Doju immediately brushed her worries aside. After a good haul on the crystals, they could eat as much as they wanted without it hurting their wallets. The first bite made Uni fall in love with that insanely luxurious meat. It was simply unreal. Doju kept throwing more meat on the grill while Grandma watched, looking a bit anxious. I mean, there was more fresh rib, pork loin, sirloin, and flap meat coming to the table, and it was total chaos. At this rate, the amount was just ridiculous. How were the 2.5 of them going to handle all that food? But Grandma had no idea about a main character's appetite. To ease Grandma's mind, Uni convinced her to try the fancy meat, and since she couldn't say no, Grandma gave in. One bite of that luxurious meat sent all her worries flying out the window. After that, the happy family enjoyed their extravagant dinner, filled with laughter and little trinkets. Mr. Dojun, noticing a stylish young woman who had just walked into the restaurant, saw the customers' necks nearly snapping as she passed by. The woman headed straight for Mr. Dojun, grabbing his attention. She just wanted to chat with him, nothing more. Before she could explain what was up, Dojun woke up, annoyed that she interrupted the family vibe. If she wanted to say anything, she'd have to come back when the fancy meal was over. A guy named Jang Young pulled out a business card, thinking her name would change the vibe, but to her dismay, Dojun just kept grilling and devouring everything. That's how the renowned S-rank hunter swallowed her pride and patiently waited in the waiting area. Like a star sitting among ordinary folks, it was clear she would be the center of attention. Men and women were looking on excitedly at the woman who embodied pure heroism. She wasn't just ranked 4th among the national S-class heroes. Many would even place her among the 10 most beautiful women in the world. Everyone there was thinking the same thing. What the hell is taking R1 so long? She was ignoring the chaos around her, recalling previous intentions. As far as she knew, her Dujun had entered the gate 2 months ago and came back alive from the ordeal, and now he was suspected of having awakened. He had been presumed dead in the map fisher incident, but there he was, alive and having dinner with his family, and he seemed to be doing pretty well financially, right? Besides all the nonsensical dramas, a sharp look from the kid put her on high alert. A guy who just awakened couldn't possibly be rank S in under 2 months, could he? Even the oil magnate who shoved cash into magic stones took around 5 months. Rationalizing, what was Dujun thinking about Jung? He must have some hidden special ability. Finally, Dujun, Grandma, and little Uni filled their bellies and became a bit happier. Near the exit, Jung decided to approach to have a chat with the mysterious young man. But just as she was about to say something, a group stormed into the restaurant with an air of superiority. Dujun's eyes sharpened like a knife at the sight of the man who had arrived. That damn guy with a smug face. He never expected to see Seok Dujun alive and well after the whole deadly gate incident. It was none other than the lunatic Kang Chiu. The guy seemed to enjoy Dujun's presence, almost like a cockroach. He even recognized the binder with just a glance. In the middle of the restaurant, the tension rose and silence fell over the place. Dujun decided to ignore the jerk's shallow insults and called for Jurian. Well, Chiu was taken aback seeing a rank S hero chatting with a cockroach. Dujun asked her to take care of the family for a bit. He just wanted her to call a taxi for them to go home. It would be much more convenient if he was out of the way while he went to collect an overdue debt from a stray. And he reassured Grandma and the little girl that everything was going to be just fine. She waved goodbye to them, but her worry was pretty clear. June stood there awkwardly while the taxi drove off. As soon as they left the restaurant, a loud slap echoed inside, with the family off the scene. He could finally drop the nice guy act. He moved so fast that, the guy didn't even see it coming. All the dude felt was a stinging pain in his cheek. Embarrassed by such a humiliating hit, he clenched his teeth and charged back to retaliate. One of the waitresses screamed, trying to break up the fight. She feared the desserts would end up wrecking the entire restaurant if this escalated, but what sounded like a reasonable request was met with aggression. Luckily, she didn't get hurt too badly. A calm guy told everyone to leave and clear the room for their safety, but the main character knows. Chew, he's easy to provoke, right? That dude is a big idiot who can't even throw decent jabs. What a joke, right? Because of that, he ended up getting another surprise beating. And well, a punch right in the face. Damn, that guy was shocked. Kang Chu is that bastard who locked up Dojum's original Sky and sent him packing, even without being directly offended. Our hero harbors a deep hatred for that guy and is itching to have a word. Ju, or the goblin-faced henchman, was mocking the wicked stepmother of Dojum and all that drama. So Dojum realized getting info from that idiot would be a piece of cake and quickly grabbed his phone. He hit the record button. A clear recording of the confession would make his life a lot easier, but once again Chu messed up by being distant. He clenched his fist, cursing Dojum's mother, and attacked with rage. He was dead set on taking that guy down once and for all, claiming he was going to kill Dojum for good. But poor Chu, his attacks were way too crude, and they couldn't match Dojum's smarts. So Dojum took the punch like it was hitting a bouncy wall and sent his fist back. It's crazy. Kang Chi had never experienced anything like this. So normally he'd use brute force to steamroll anyone in his way, but now he was up against someone way out of his league with that pea-sized brain of his. Suddenly he was thrown to the ground. Dojin followed through with the motion like a hunter playing with his prey. The punches that shattered Shingu's skull echoed throughout the restaurant, while the terrified waitress tried to call the cops. But before she could finish, a delicate hand snatched the phone from her. Then, with a bright smile, Yung held her and said everything was under control, and she didn't need to call the police. The girl felt relieved seeing someone who seemed to know what to do. In the meantime, the punches and slaps kept raining down on Kang, who didn't even have a chance to catch his breath, let alone scream. From what Ji could see, this guy was a B-rank hero. Not many could take him down this easily. Given that beating, Dojin could be considered A-rank, but just looking at the fight, it was clear. It was way out of balance. Without a doubt, before things got out of hand, Ji asked Dojin to ease up a little. She just wanted to make sure Kang wasn't going to die there. So, Dojin decided to listen and tossed the limp goblin's body onto the floor, wiping his hands as if nothing had happened. Seeing that there was some drama between them, Ji asked the young man what he knew about Shu. While Dojin might not have the full story, he knew enough about the bastard to want revenge. Ji warned him that Kang Shu was connected to this Kang Hyang, a rank S hero. Dojin knew that and didn't care much. He'd never seen anything so crazy and reckless. The guy puts himself in danger and doesn't even bat an eye at a rank S. Zhang explained that Hank Pio really looks out for his lazy cousin, and that this restaurant incident was going to piss off a rank S. And when that happens, it's going to get bloody. Doggy in her concerns. Seriously, this guy's the last person who'd fear a rank S. He was more worried about how much Junjun knows about his life than anything else, especially after he just took down the goblin. The anger flared up as he went after the S rank, and the young woman stared back firmly. It's a Young, not some pushover. A simple glance won't shake her. Changing the subject, she apologized for barging in and showed him her schedule. Her uncle had asked her to come and have a chat with him. Once she learned about the magical crystal stash he had sold, she wanted the rest. She was ready to buy everything he had at any price. Dojin warned it wouldn't be cheap, right? That guy has a ton of, treasure stashed away. She was confident the goods from an S rank were beyond anyone's wildest dreams. If he took care of it, he wouldn't oppose selling that info. There's just one condition for negotiation. Nothing crazy, just a little favor since it's someone as famous as Haeyang. Then the scene cuts to another part of the city, where the sound of bottles smashing and fights breaking out can be heard. The wicked stepmother started screaming upon hearing news about the son she thought was dead. People were losing their minds. She was convinced the kid was a goner, but now she's hearing that Dujun survived like some kind of cockroach. Look at that bald guy. He's going down for sure. Is there even a boss like that? It must be a joke. You can't blame this guy since they don't have much info. Even the Heroes Association believed Lodogim was dead. The stepmother wants action, not excuses. She wants him to do something. And to make matters worse, she got news about the meerkat that Kangxi took from Dujun. Now it's safe to say that Dujun knows exactly who tried to kill him. Hearing that she could be complicated, the wicked stepmother swallowed hard and nearly trembled in fear. But you better believe she's not afraid of two. What has her more worried is how things will play out when her husband or father finds out about her dealings. She could cover it all up, but man, if the media catches wind of this, the group's stocks will plummet like a rock. So she's already had her people intercept the media without wasting a moment. If they slip up, Group T and Group W will cut all deals and promotions right away. And first of all, the police should be in her pocket too. So with that, the folks at the evil stepmoms got everything under control. Knowing the crew has some skills took a load off their shoulders. At least the bald director hanging around whispered that no matter how hard they tried, what they were doing wasn't really solving the issue. So, with that in mind, the bald guy might have a plan to end this headache, and it involves bringing in cousin Kang Shi-wo, the infamous Kang Young Pyo. That evil stepmom knows exactly who Hank S is, a total bum in the hero world, but everyone knows he's the next powerful cousin. Honestly, Shiryu is just a punk doing all kinds of dirty work for his cousin. They're both pretty nuts. If Shiyu gets caught by the cops, the media will blow up. The superhero situation is about to get messy, and really, she's already taken steps to handle this PR disaster. That evil stepmom decided it was time to act. She wanted to meet with Kang and a little fella ASAP, and that Hang Chang sub from HCS Capital is allied with the enemy. The bastard is taking care of Dojum's family now, which is why the stepmom needs a prosecutor on the phone in a minute. Anyone who jumps ship has to pay the price. The next day, the focus shifts, and we see the hero group entering one of Korea's 37 rift zones. Out of those, 5 are being turned into safe gates. The rest can only be invaded by heroes part of associations with plans. Today, our heroine and a junk are leading the team solo with her rank S. She has almost unlimited access to any gate. So amid this crew of heroes with cool weapons, there's a young guy in a worn-out hoodie. Juninho picked the Cleon Guild of Young and Inju, rank A, as a temporary team for the hunt. Being part of a rank S hunt is super rare, so everyone's in shock. Juninho casually said he just wanted to have some fun and stretch his muscles, but honestly, he set up the whole situation to give that young guy back there a chance. A cleaner opening at the gate until 2-1 hit the right price to sell the rest of the magic crystals. That way, he could get into the restricted zone, and the crazy guy just wants to make some cash hunting in sketchier areas. It's true these rift zones are packed with treasures, but heading into one of those without fear is just plain madness. But for her, it didn't matter. She just needed to get her hands on those magic crystals. After a few minutes of trudging through a dark tunnel, the WAB group finally emerged into an area full of trees. Inju, unable to contain her curiosity, started bugging Jironyu, asking who the young guy following them was. The river introduced the little doggo as someone she knew, but nobody bought that excuse. And in June even suggested he might be Queen Jujum's boyfriend. Tired of all the chit-chat, she dropped half the truth and confessed she was there because he owed her a serious favor. It's not every day that an S-rank hero owes someone a favor. While everyone was chatting it up, a massive shadow covered the sky. Everyone turned to look up, and there it was, the Beast. Being a guild that ranks the heroes of Cleon, they rushed to draw their weapons and quickly take their positions. The first encounter was nothing less than the feared cockatrice. As the invasion experience kicked in, Joel took charge and started giving orders. Jinju and Dorawan held the defense, while Sungu aimed for its legs. But before they could finish organizing everything, a figure soared through the air with a leap that would make anyone jealous. He went straight for the flying creature, ignoring any strategy and launching into a direct confrontation with the cockatrice. The heroes of Cleon were left speechless. They'd never seen anyone so bold. He began charging energy in his fist, gearing up to deliver the first blow, while the guild master was feeling nauseous from the bad luck. The tension was thick and uneasy. They had just entered the gate and already faced a troublesome enemy. Before the group could get their act together, Jum had already tossed his bag onto the ground. While Jun was still counting the papers, he was shooting through the air like a rocket. He was a real speed demon. Then, with a leap, he took the aerial advantage against that bird up in the clouds. He owned the field like a boss. His fiery energy was thick and blazing like a furnace. My dude, that giant bird didn't stand a chance to react or block the upcoming attack. By the time it realized what was happening, it was already catching a direct punch right to the beak. And just like that, the bird hit the ground. 2-1 landed right in front of the crowd, and guess what? I'm not exaggerating. The cockatrice, on the other hand, was on the verge of death, with a visible fist mark on its face. The Grilda crew from Keon just couldn't believe the power of his S-rank technique. They were about to witness something insane that would leave everyone in shock. 2-1, without mercy, lifted his leg and started stomping the bird, turning it into a real meat mush. Yeah, it sounds dramatic, but taking down a cockatrice takes some serious strength. With every stomp and kick, the sound of skulls crunching and blood splattering left the group in total disbelief, like, "Whoa, dude!" And now, they all were more than curious to find out who this guy was. Honestly, Jarila wasn't quite sure what to think. The one thing she knew was that her Dojin was a human with some serious strength. People say he's strong. It's like saying he's a freaking elf, right? There are only a handful of heroes who can pull off what Dojin just did. Killing the cockatrice with one hit, that's no small feat. Ju, on the other hand, wasn't sold on it. She mentioned her sister, that woman who's in the elite ranks of exceptional heroes. Still, Ju couldn't shake off the thought that they had some crazy, powerful guy among them. She just sat back, watching it all unfold and admiring what was happening. Jurian noticed the absurd power and determination of the kid, her curiosity growing. She turned to Inju, switching plans on the fly. For now, she wanted to head to the center of Kondojim, leaving the rest of the group hanging back on the outskirts. Juninho carefully approached the young guy who was already chipping away at the cockatrice's body to grab the loot before it could say anything. He quickly warned that he wasn't sharing the spoils with anyone who didn't help take it down. Luckily, Jium didn't care about the magic crystals. She just wanted to suggest he dive deeper into the gate, to a creepier spot that was more his style, if you catch my drift. So, with a grin, he jumped at the chance to hunt and loot more. Jium knows her way around the light in this gate, so she's clearly taking the lead. Dojin just needs to stick close to her so he doesn't get lost. Without a word, she took off like a shot, making a sound like thunder. Dojin just watched calmly as her figure disappeared into the horizon. After slinging his backpack over his shoulder, he got ready to sprint, charging up his muscles. With a quick step, he unleashed a kick that was like an explosion, almost sending the Cleon Guild heroes flying. This guy moves like a bullet. He's running like he's the very light itself, man! So, leaving everyone in the dust, those two monsters had the other heroes turning to their leader, asking for a new plan. Of course, trying to keep up with those two is impossible. Today, it's time to accept they're just helpers and small fries, but still, there are plenty of monsters to hunt in this gate. Out in the real world, people praise them as powerful rank A heroes, but in front of this guy or a true rank S, they don't even deserve to be remembered. Jurian is the dude who's putting the whole Cleon Guild to shame. Speaking of those two, their sprint through the forest is on fire. While keeping a frantic pace, Jurian was always checking to see if Dojin was right there with her. Not seeing any sign of him, she started to ease off, thinking maybe she'd overdone it a bit. Then, out of nowhere, Dojin appeared beside her, asking if they could pick up the pace a bit more. Jurian's focus shattered and almost made her trip. Dude, she was shocked. She'd never heard of that before. Is there someone who can keep up with her in a race? This girl is in the top 2 in the country. But when Dojin makes his move, she really needs to check that list. No doubt about it, because he's leaving her in the dust, man. Then, a few moments later, he stopped and started teasing her, matching her speed while the burst of energy tried to catch its breath. He looked ahead. In front of them, a colossal mountain range reached up to the sky. When he asked what was so special about that place, Joaninha got serious. That spot is the lair of the boss monster Tirp, the Casiriano. Look, the Casiriano is a 20-meter monster, and you definitely don't want to think about taking that thing down. Normally, you need at least 3 rank S heroes who know what they're doing to stand a chance against that beast. Otogen knows that this guy, the Casiriano, can drop a magical crystal of unimaginable grade, a treasure below the highest level there is. He's not about to let that chance slip away. Of course, Juriam is totally against this crazy idea, but look, Dojin is going to face that bastard whether she's with him or not. Jurin watched as he bravely moved forward, wanting to scale the mountains to take down that beast. She felt she had no choice but to follow this living madness. So something really dark was waiting for that duo inside the boss monster's lair, with insane confidence to take down a creature that could wipe out 3 rank S heroes in a fight. That shook that young girl. And you know what's crazier? When she gets there, she runs into the same creature, the Casiriano, already dead on the ground. Wow, the fight was over, and she had no clue what had gone down. Our guy, almost casually, pulls his knife from the beast's corpse, leaving her completely speechless. The creature he just took out isn't just any monster, and she mentions a hero known as Parque Raleigh, who's famous for hunting monsters like the Casirianos. Even though he's also rank S, during his first hunt for the Casiriano, he had to bring at least 30 rank A heroes with him. Dude, even with all that preparation, the rank A heroes couldn't do anything and got wiped out trying. Rayleigh Park, the survivor who lived to tell the tale, clung to life until the very last second of his battle with the boss. Then, in the next match, he decided to go after revenge against the same monster, but this time he was backed by a rank S and 100 rank A heroes. At this point, he was practically a small fish in a big pond. The fight was brutal. The guys unleashed a hail of attacks to pierce the creature's wings and ground it. The Casirian from back then was overwhelmed by a storm of assaults coming from the heroes. What happened in that fight with the Casirian was that he ended up being defeated, but only a handful of heroes made it out alive. The rest were slaughtered by the beast's own fury. The damage was so severe that Rayleigh's guild, Weed Life, still hasn't recovered, 3 years after the incident. And so, this one seemingly ordinary guy took down the same Casirian monster without breaking a sweat. You know what's even funnier? With that intense stare, he made a comment that really annoyed the young girl. She wouldn't score any precious loot just by fighting the air. Man, that comment might have rattled her, but suddenly she was more focused on the ridiculous strength of the guy in front of her. If she hadn't seen the battle herself, she wouldn't have believed it. That terrifying Casirian was taken down and obliterated in a single blow by one man. Meanwhile, our boy Dojim successfully harvested the incredible magic stone from the creature's body. He looks at 2 others, one of whom is starting to realize he doesn't need command anymore, so from here on out he's going strong, all alone. And this request is without taking a single one of the dragon's valuable items, like claws and teeth. He doesn't even pay attention to that stuff, clearly turning his back on her. He left the ranked player totally stunned. Instead, he prefers to focus his energy on collecting monster crystals. He even lets her keep all those valuable items as payment for herself. He looked at the creature and concluded he didn't need anything from that beast either. It's already night, and the rest of the group is in shock, unable to believe this guy managed to collect 3. They've got all kinds of magic stones. Wow, it's just unbelievable. Even for their guild ranks, pulling this off would take at least 20 hours of work, and with the quality of these items, they wouldn't even manage it in 3 days, let alone in 20 hours. This raises questions about that guy's identity, and everyone's focusing on Juri, the one who brought him in, and she seems just as confused as they are. So, going by her word, the ranking master doesn't get how Dojin managed to take down the Casterian without any gear. With this one achievement, he's at the top of the hero charts in Korea. That kind of power is unmatched. They say our guy is made of different stuff. My brother even thinks a ranker believes he might be the strongest in the whole world at this level. Wow, that really shocks her. Speaking of Jum, he comes back exhausted with more bags. In just one day of hunting, he's already collected so much stuff. By now, the group is starting to think no one will believe them unless they tell the world. Jum's divine power is just too insane to wrap your head around. And speaking of that, they've got a clear heads up not to spill anything about what happened out there today. In the end, everyone agrees. Because honestly, no one would believe it anyway, right? Nope. The beautiful rank S gets close to our guy and starts chatting him up. From a distance, it looks like they're flirting. But wow, that's just the group trying to convince themselves that this is the start of a romance. They even think he's the only guy in the world who seems like the perfect match for Jun Yun, considering his colossal prowess. The guild master quickly realizes that these two aren't an ideal couple, and it actually looks like they're arguing by the expressions on their faces. She can't believe this guy actually exists. I mean, picture someone overlooked, a river among all these people. And the craziest part, he just shows up, hands over a bag, and slips away without saying a word. That leaves the guild master even more surprised about the state of the backpacks and what he collected. Joran backs up his own words. It seems like Dojin's scared of becoming a celebrity overnight. If the world finds out he destroyed the Caesarian with this, it's gonna be a huge headache for him. Blaming her left both of them speechless. But guess what? The irony is that the law of attraction becomes real, and Ryam got curious to learn more about this mysterious young guy. This girl is totally in love. Switching gears, let's take a look at the famous S rank mentioned earlier. The loser's in beast mode right now, going hard on his punching bag. His assistant is jaw-dropped by the training, because it looks like he's about to explode from rage. As mentioned, he's the guild master of Sweet Life. The assistant tries to calm him down, reminding him that a bit of endurance will serve him well in these tough times. Even the guildmaster agrees that those who underestimated him are gonna feel his wrath. Soon enough, the day will come when everyone admires his strength as the most powerful guildmaster. In full fan mode, the assistant keeps talking about how House is annihilating Casterians, and what sets him apart from the rest is that he's willing to go so far as to say his name will be in the history books as the hero who defeated the Casterian with the smallest group. Wow, they're gonna know about our hero. The funny thing is that this title will never be taken from Dojinho by anyone unless Albert Einstein rises from the grave to perform a miracle. My dude, the guildmaster shares all the excitement with his assistant, going on and on about his own achievements. Meanwhile, his guild has faced major losses compared to what it was 3 years ago, yet the only thing that makes him smile is knowing he's the one who can take down the Caesarian, a fact backed by his one-eyed servant. Changing the subject, the scene shifts to Kang's office with a jeep reading a report about Dojun's wild night with Chiu and how he wiped out his cousin. Chi-Um's plan was straightforward, trap the guy forever, but instead, there was an unexpected twist that sparked something completely different. Things get even crazier when our hero finds out he's been hired to take down Dojin, who's the executive director of the NGO. And Ju is one of the richest guys in Korea. Man, it doesn't make any sense for him to decide to shoot someone in front of Yoon Pyu. Then Yoon Pyu realizes that Dojin is actually his stepson. As crazy as it sounds, the kid was taken in by the family when he was 7, but got kicked out when their biological son was born in June. Yoon Pyu laughs, saying that no amount of money can deal with that kind of rejection. While they're talking about the cash for the mission, our hero learns that the payment for the assassination job is a measly 3 billion, which to him is pocket change. But the wildest part is that Chiu is barely hanging on in his fight against Dojun, covered in burns and bruises. Even worse, his condition is so critical that he's gone blind and will be disabled for life. This just makes Dojin's tactics even more brutal, making Yoon Pyu recognize how ruthless he really is. Still, Yoon Pyu thinks it's messed up and finds it entertaining to imagine mutilating X by crushing his skull. If people thought this guy was the most hardcore, even more than his cousin, it's now clear that he's even worse. During discussions about the battle, they mention that Jun Ryu also made an appearance and helped Dojin out. For some reason, Yoon Pyu gets nervous and goes to investigate the situation. He doesn't get what Jun Ryu and Dojin are up to, and unfortunately, even his assistant knows nothing about their intentions because everything was kept under wraps. You're kidding. Yoon Pyu grabs his servant and starts shouting at him. He needs to find out what's going on in this relationship. He's thinking they might have made some kind of deal, you know? The assistant, totally shaken by Yoon Pyu's reaction, runs off to find out more, while Yoon Pyu is just pure rage, smashing everything around him. He's a bundle of nerves, scared that Ryu Jun's men are going to come after him to finish what his cousin messed up, but he's more than happy to take the burden off her. After all, she's loaded. This girl is practically on the same level as Thomas Andre from Solo 11, so for him, it's all profit. Meanwhile, we cut to Doginho. He's heading home after everything that went down today. He thinks it might have been better to stay in the crack than at the gate. But here's where it gets tricky. He needs to keep things on the down low with Ju. He remembers their talk when she said people would start asking questions about who the guy is that killed Casiriano. Dropping that info would be a disaster. So for now, her plan is to keep everything under wraps. And if he wants to be famous, she'll take care of releasing the scoop to the media at the right moment. He should toss her anything valuable he has, but that also means he's got to find another way to get into those cracks, because trusting Julio is a recipe for disaster. Still, the night should be nice, since he'll be chilling in a swanky house that Shang Subi sorted for him. But when he gets there, he's greeted by a pile of shoes at the door, which means there are some unwanted guests around. Stepping into the living room, he sees a bunch of guys in suits, and his boss chatting with family members. One dude looks like he's more miserable than some character from Jujutsu, just staring at Dongi like a hawk, you know? Then Hyung Neong rushes in, all smiles to greet her brother. Meanwhile, Dojun is just standing there, totally lost in all this nonsense. Prosecutor Park Sang-hyung makes a dramatic entrance, immediately tying Dojun to Chang Shub, putting our boy under some serious pressure just because he got mixed up with that loan shark gang, the corrupt bastard. And here comes Dojun, being calmly escorted to this emergency holding cell because of Wang Shang Subi's scheme. He gets called in and sits down in an empty interrogation room. From behind the door, he hears a pompous voice on the phone. The prosecutor who arrested him assures that both Wang Xiang and Chu Dojun are behaving themselves. Before hanging up, the prosecutor thanks him for taking care of his daughter's studies abroad. Then, he makes the mistake of dropping the name of Director ONG. Well, in the sharp interrogation session of Dojo 1, getting a little closer to their quiet inmate, the prosecutor starts to philosophize about why he became a lawman. He talks about how he always dreamed of isolating the trash from society and protecting the good people. Slapping a big stack of paperwork down on the table, the shady prosecutor puts on a show of just how much dirt he has on Dojo 1. He claims these accusations are more than enough to lock the kid away for a decade. Plus, he's got tons of statements from Hang Seng-shub that incriminate a whole bunch of folks, but Dojo 1 doesn't even flinch, remaining calm and completely ignoring those threats. Since he didn't react to the prosecutor's expectation, the guy decides to insult inmate Rodu Oju. Then he asks, "So I take it's bad that your Jew is behind this ridiculous scheme, huh?" The prosecutor almost freaks out but denies everything and swears he's never heard of her. But Dojo 1 figures those corrupt-y bastards are running the show. He fesses up to avoid the hassle, but things are just getting messier. Then, with that death glare from Dojo 1, the prosecutor boasts that in his line of work, people aren't easy to deal with. Juwon's response reveals a bit of his murderous intent, shutting the idiot up. The prosecutor, nearly shitting himself, feels that deadly look. It was a direct threat, but he doesn't want to back down and tries to smack Dojo 1 in the face. However, right before he makes the biggest mistake of his life, an intern steps in and asks the prosecutor to step out of the interrogation room for a moment. Apparently, they got news that there were some crazy discrepancies in the records of Seo Dojun. The building's hero detector classified the young guy as an average Joe. So after checking everything again, they end up in the same spot. Like, how is that even possible with all the trouble Dojun has caused? Maybe they were wrong to label the kid as awakened. From the jump, the prosecutor got all that information from the defendant Jews Group T, so in theory, it should all be reliable. Now, Dujwom has become an unsolvable puzzle. So how can they charge someone they consider normal in situations like these superhumans? Earlier, our hero June was giving the prosecutor a hard time, thinking the guy was a total loser, just really incompetent. If he wanted to, he could have just busted out those damn handcuffs and wrecked everything in sight. And the consequences? Oh, he could always grab his grandma and take her to a much safer place like a bunker, you know? Maybe even out of the country, man. But just before he decided to go all crazy with violence, Hung Jun, all sharp in his suit and tie, walked into the interrogation room. Looks like she was aware of the injustice going on and came by to check it out. When they asked him why he got caught, Jun was straight up honest, saying he had no clue why. Luckily, Ju Ryu advised him not to act rashly. She's definitely the only one who really knows what this guy is capable of. Things are tense, but using force now would only make everything worse. Ju Ryu didn't wake up today wanting to mess with the legal system, but she's certain Dojun is innocent of the charges against him. Seeing an innocent person suffer unfair punishment from a false accusation right in front of her, she feels obligated to fix this situation. Jo thought the Heroes Association would start a separate investigation. They would soon definitely discover Dojun's fake hero license and properly investigate the Mapo Rift incident. Then Dojun asks Juju how her family is, and she realizes she looks like a secretary when the kid stares at her with that intense look. Juju finally caved and said her family would be fine. As she walked out of the interrogation room, now as Dojun's legal representative, she made it clear that this debt wouldn't be forgotten, even if she didn't show it. Jurin was loving that this guy was counting on her this time. She promised she'd handle this as quickly as possible, and believe me, she wasn't joking around. The strategy Jurin decided to follow wasn't a traditional defense to prove Dojun's innocence. Instead, he exposed the numerous crimes and shady dealings of prosecutor Park Shawung, leading to that jerk's dismissal. Now that creep is out of the picture. The investigation went as smooth as silk. His dojo was finally cleared of any wrongdoing related to the suspicious activities in other recent cases. But, of course, he didn't get off completely scot-free, as expected. The investigation continued and confirmed he had used a fake hero license, but thanks to a solid defense, he managed to walk away with just probation. On their way back home, the radio crackled with news of some unknown monster attacking everyone. The creature was described as a mantis-like beast, about 5 feet tall, with bizarre eyes and a leaping ability that could send chills down anyone's spine. In that moment, he realized the creature was a Makazian and nearly lost control of the car when he heard the name. Information about these newly discovered monsters is super classified, tightly held by the association. They only know it's a Makazian because, well, they've got a true rank S hero. I mean, monsters don't just get named out of nowhere by some random nobody. After taking down the creature, it drops magical stones filled with condensed energy and unique info. If you analyze that data, you can learn a lot about the monster and even its real name. Nowadays, they use science and technology for that analysis, unlike the other side of the world, which relied on magic. In other words, our hero is pretty familiar with monsters from both worlds and knows their names and everything about them, as if they were childhood friends. He nonchalantly mentioned that Makazians can be easily controlled with the fluid from a red flower ant. That fluid is harmless to humans, but acts as a paralytic toxin for those Martians. Just spray it on the pest and they freeze right up. That's when things got serious for a moment. Every move he made just deepened the mystery. Who exactly is his dojo? No matter how much she pushed, the dojo never revealed its true identity. In reality, his mind was wandering somewhere else, plotting a plan to avoid future headaches. The only solution he could think of was get that damn Hong out of the meeting. Speaking of which, Director Hong is on edge, nervously biting her nails, full of anxiety. She's racking her brain trying to come up with new plans against her husband's bastard son. And with someone like that in the mix, the pressure's just skyrocketing. The director's assistant hasn't been much help, poor guy. Even after exhausting all options, they can't figure out what kind of connection this S-rank hero has with that guy. If they make one wrong move and offend someone like him, not all the money in the world will save their skins. More importantly, Hong Jong-hyun was shocked by the prosecutor's report, which said he flipped. Jong-hyun registered as a regular citizen, not as a hero in the tests. So, based on everything they know, the kids somehow become visible, like he's hit something sinister. Maybe he has some ability to trick hero detectors, who knows? Hank Helju is losing money with this crusade of hers, and all her team can offer are just guesses. Furious, she finally decided to call that damn Hank. Kang came back with an offer of 20 billion, no 30 billion Korean won, on the table to settle this once and for all. When he got the call from the bastard, he immediately demanded double what she offered to sort this out. Even her subordinates thought it was ridiculous to ask for 60 billion for a job that should be straightforward. This guy might be the son of a good mother, but he's a damn clever one. He figured out that Hong didn't have many options left and that there was no information or alternatives besides this. And let's be real, her company makes so much that 60 billion less wouldn't even matter. And then there's Jumyu in the mix. So with Kang and Upyu risking it against another S-rank hero, doubling the initial offer actually seems reasonable to him. The subordinate agreed that Jumyu is indeed a dangerous opponent. So, hearing his employee praise the S-rank really bruised Kang and Upyu's egos. He cursed at the subordinate. It was like an insult to his fighting skills, going up against someone like him, who thought he could take that girl down in less than a few minutes. So our hero, the subordinate, was under serious pressure trying to calm the boss down. Then, out of nowhere, Yang Pyo switched topics, talking about his issues with the Heroes Association. He was also on a negotiation mission as Korea's representative to tackle the bug problem, you know? But the association had already announced they were going to pick heroes to send out to the public. It was like they were making things tough for everyone. A villain thought the association was worse than the criminals themselves, and the operation was set to go down in 3 days. Time was running out. South Korea was going to send its best heroes. At least Young Pyo had a meeting lined up with some guy named Takashi. All this time, the weakness of the monkey-like creatures was still a total mystery. Being the first to figure that out would get anyone, and good with the crowd. And speaking of these monkey creatures, those bugs were spreading everywhere. The British heroes were in the fight too, trying to hold back that relentless invasion of the giant creatures. They had put together a decent team of heroes, but you get the idea, right? They were using blades like crazy. The frontline fighters were giving it their all to deal with the one giant monkey that was terrorizing everyone. This praying mantis was fast and immortal, taking out slow heroes with a single hit. But of course, the heroes weren't going to take that lying down and went on the offensive. The group looked pretty badass, like a formation you wouldn't want to mess with. Some of them used magic, trying to tear apart the insect's heavy skeleton, while others charged in, smashing it and spraying its blood all over the streets. With all of that, they finally took down their first monkey creature. And just to make sure the thing wouldn't come back to life or pull some crazy stunt, they stylishly chopped its head off. The heroes scored a victory, but man, just one monster wiped them all out, and to make matters worse, a few more monkey creatures showed up to deliver the final blow. In that exhausted night, the best heroes of the kingdom met a brutal slaughter. These guys gave it their all to stop the inevitable, but there wasn't even clear intel. They were completely at the mercy of the enemies. The monkeys were a real pain, and they were advancing southward. There were about 60 kilometers between those bugs and the capital, while the monkeys were one step away from wiping the capital off the map. A rain of shiny junk fell from the sky, and when that stuff hit the bugs, they started convulsing and feeling excruciating pain. After struggling for a few seconds to hold the line, the monkeys began to fall one by one. In the sky, the source of the rain turned out to be a helicopter observing Luva Adeos's army from a distance. The heroes from Korea and Japan formed a true cavalry, each one shocked by a simple solution proposed by Junjun that worked immediately. Next to Junjun, our hero Kang and Pew couldn't believe their eyes, suddenly snapping everyone out. Of their days, Junjun yelled for everyone to jump out of the helicopter and finish the job. Then, with newfound respect for that S-rank heroine from Korea, the cavalry began descending toward the ground. Days after that mission, the whole world heard about what went down in the kingdom and who really shined. So back in Korea, the media and chatterbugs flooded the airport. Everyone was buzzing to see the national pride, and reporters were itching to land an exclusive. On July 1st, she, the Hunt Queen, found the monkey's weakness and led the charge to the end. It was her who saved a nation from despair. Rumor has it that before the departure, there was even a celebration from the royal family for all the heroism. As Ju Ryu finally set foot in the airport, it turned into a flash and applause festival. Like a true celebrity, she was already used to it. A long time ago, even for Ju Ryu, that kind of reception was one for the books. What about Kangero? The worst part was already believed to be responsible for most of the Mackayans' deaths on the expedition. His entire team was made up of 200 heroes, and the stellar performance of the Korean heroes was why the UK was still standing. The news covered every detail of the monkey hunt. The public learned about the weakness of the red flower ant's sap. As our boy walked through the city, he caught a glimpse of the news and stopped for a second. He felt happy that Junjun had used his intel, but when the camera focused on Kang Jupyu, the mood soured. That cocky bastard on the screen was one more loose end he needed to tie up. Inside some random fancy restaurant, his buddy Juwon was sipping coffee with the woman of the moment, laughing it up and generously showering little Uni, the grandmother, and even our boy with gifts. She told him not to open anything right then, saying it would be better to check it all out at her place. But ignoring that, Dojin ended up finding some cool clothes among the gifts. Juman just wanted to return the favor with a thank you for the tip that unknowingly helped save the day. For her, the clothes were nothing compared to what she received. She figured out Dojin wasn't going to spill the details on how he learned about the Mackayans' weakness, but still, she asked. As expected, digging into that guy was like searching for a needle in a haystack. Changing the subject, Dojin dared to ask about his future plans. He's not the type to preach world peace or anything arrogant like that, but if he's going to attack Hangul-ju, the situation is going to get really tense. To Ruim's surprise, Dojin's immediate plan was just to buy a new house because things were tough. The safe house where his family currently lived was rented, right? While our rising hero and the former sword goddess reconnected, the other hero who stood out on the kingdom's expedition was just chilling. Kangwei Pyu was at his pool party, surrounded by beautiful girls as far as the eye could see, but that scumbag can't stop thinking about jujitsu, the girl he's got his eye on. He's starting to think it's weird that she won't say how she figured out the weakness of those disgusting bugs on the flight back to Korea. And some guy even tried to bait her to see if he could pry any info about her Dojin out of her. He claimed Jurian was the hero when Dojin got involved with a corrupt prosecutor, which was pretty intense. Plus, she was also there when Kangsu got torn apart. Knowing some guy was trying to provoke her, Jurian quickly shot down that idiot who started all the trouble. Before this encounter, he even tried to off Dojin and totally failed. And this guy with a creepy smile just nodded along. He also blamed his cousin for being blinded by dirty money. But hey, Uncle Yu is still your favorite cousin, right? He can always use that family tie as an excuse to get back at your Dojin. For a moment, Junyu almost got caught up in the game and revealed some emotion in front of this dude. She quickly distanced herself from the drama and said she wasn't going to interfere if anything happened. Clueless, the guy was floating in the idea that she really had a closer connection with Dojin. Ignoring him for the rest of the flight, Jun Ryo put on her sleep mask and took a nap. And this guy couldn't shake off the feeling that she wasn't being completely honest. The paranoid Kang is still on edge about your Dojin. Back in England, where it all began, Lang Sudum is still in ruins. The chaos from the monster wave is still very visible. That association of British heroes sent a small team of heroes into the rifts to at least secure some magic stones before the next wave hit. The guards outside were discussing how they could have stood out as Rankers D. If they had known that the Makayanos could be taken down with so little red flower ant sap, if the forces had blocked the wave earlier, they could have raked in a ton of magic stones. You gotta understand, when a rift opens up with a wave of monsters, it never turns into a gate. And for the second wave, it's pretty likely that the type of monsters will be totally different. The known factor is the craziest part. All of a sudden, the rift shook a bit. The invasion team had just entered to collect the stones. Only 5 hours had passed. Even so, the rank D guards stepped up their vigilance since there were always desperate folks trying to steal stones near the rifts. Instead of the usual flow of people coming out of the rift, the whole vibe felt off. Something, or someone completely different showed up. The scarred humanoid face of a guy. They shouted that he wasn't a hero. Before the poor guards could even call headquarters, they lost control and started floating in the air. The crazy guy took a step, and it looked like he teleported, dragging the guards effortlessly. That top guard tried to defend himself with 3 knives. That weapon was a classic from the kingdom. The blades even hit their mark, but several green lights made them vanish like they never even existed. Then, in a raspy voice, the man complained that those guards were way too weak. He clenched his fist and commanded the green lights to move. As a result, the guards got sliced up like it was a horror movie scene, you know? A dark miasma poured out from the guy's body. With that miasma, he took control of the whole area and grabbed the guards' smartphones. He checked the date and calculated that it had been 10 years since he last set foot on Earth. Even so, his mission hadn't even reached 20%, you feel me? After all the effort to open those rifts, it's time to admit that it went south. Nah, he just needs to amp up his mana concentration to get back in the game. But before that, this planet needs a serious cleanup, and it's time to wipe out the weak. Let the slaughter begin, my dude. Meanwhile, back in South Korea, in the Paju area, a young guy is on a chill agricultural expedition, totally unaware of what's going down on the other side of the world. Just carrying a backpack, he's wandering around, exploring a restricted area. Suddenly, he feels strange vibrations in the ground, like something's about to happen. Just as he expected, a battalion of monsters, nasty worms, they started showing up, hungry for meat. The creatures were covered in metal spikes and had mouths full of sharp fangs. Super gross. But today, one of them was just chilling in the middle of the party like it was any ordinary Monday. Instead of looking at those monsters, he focused on the ground and the holes made by the worms. But now, with a crooked smile, our hero was wondering how many worms would survive his attack. And then, with every ounce of concentration, he sent out a mana explosion down the hole, breaking the eerie silence of the area. After a few seconds of pure anticipation, the long-awaited explosions finally spread throughout the nearby hiding spots. Then, with a pile of debris and scorching flames, every worm underneath was writhing in desperation, desperate not to be cooked alive. 2-1 is the kind of guy who prefers to work smart instead of breaking a sweat. While he was focused on farming free stones, a highly important meeting was taking place in the city. The ISO, vice director of the Hero Association of Korea, along with his boss Nathan Rigang, were discussing the young man who had been causing trouble. And of course, they were talking about Seong Do-jun. According to the reports, this guy's strength could barely be compared to that of an average hero. President Park Seo-jun found it absurd and even threatening to have someone like him roaming the country, and they want 2-1 to explain himself to the association. According to the vice president, all the bizarre happenings around 2-1 started with Kang Shi-woo's evil plan after he awakened at the invasion gate, where he was supposed to have died. Do-jun changed in a brutal way. Later, he found himself in a pinch and dealt with a new rift on the map all on his own. Of course, he occasionally gets a little worked up and pulls off some extra tricks, but there's always a reason behind it. In short, Seong Do-jun's power is simply overwhelming. Nathan Wang thinks the wild horse is harder to tame. What started as a beautiful discussion was Do-jun's request for an official hero license. He managed to score that privilege. Special treatment to skip the usual red tape because he's got a guarantor, and guess who his sponsor is? The hotshot of the moment. It's a whoa moment when you hear about this connection with the Golden Girl. The old folks at the association nearly fell over when they realized they couldn't afford to offer the killer whoa that's been making waves. The request for your 2-1 for the hero license was sped through immediately, and just like that, he became the 8th rank S hero in South Korea without even stepping foot in the association. Now with his new status, he can hunt in any rift zone he wants. After he crushed it in the Paju rift zone, he made his way straight to the director of the association. The grumpy old guy couldn't help but laugh at the fact that the new rank S hero of the country is already earning his stripes. I mean, it's not every day you hear about a hero tackling a second-grade rift solo without a guild or ally. It's totally insane for just an ordinary person. Now, I saw the vice president who was all over the 2-1 deal, advocating for them to reveal the kid's identity to the public. But I caught wind that the director shot that idea down right away since it was pretty greedy. My NGO is saying they should at least ask the guy what he thinks before exposing him to the public eye. The vice president is insisting that in this stressful age, giving people more symbols of hope in the form of a new ranked hero would ease the pressure on everyone. And this vice president is trying hard to sell this idea to the director in Taiwan, but the old man prefers to play it safe and wants to meet the young hero in person before making any decisions. Speaking of him, Toyota Jun is on a rampage of mass worm killings. When he's not unleashing mana explosions, he's resorting to good old-fashioned brute strength. As he slices through a poor worm, other monsters are already swarming him. While it's a challenge for regular heroes, his moves moves are more predictable than school drama. With his arms powered by blazing mana, he swung a hit that burned and decapitated a dozen worms in one go. My dude, are you out of your mind? He landed back on the ground, surrounded by a pile of dead worm carcasses. It all went down around him. 2-1 positioned himself atop the pile of corpses, flexing his power like a true rank S. His hands were still burning from the side effects of the technique. He let out a sigh and waved his hand to extinguish the remaining flames. As expected, the mana consumption rate from hunting high-level worm monsters was no joke. To tackle this issue, his dojin decided it was time to find a suitable weapon. Of course, the ideal place to score some gear was the Gazan Hero complex. 2-1 picked a low-key shop. When he walked in, a beaten-up guy was behind the counter playing on his phone to pass the time. The bell over the door jingled, but the guy didn't even bother looking up to see who entered. He just asked if the customer had a reservation. Dojin ignored the lazy question and tossed his backpack on the counter, asking him to make a weapon from the materials he brought. The guy got annoyed, saying he doesn't serve walk-ins. Dude, this guy is so lazy. No doubt Dojin had already been turned away from every shop on the street, all of which were fully booked. This was the only place that picked up his call, yet here this guy was, refusing to help. He just wanted to keep playing on his phone, totally ignoring everyone. So, with his patience running out, Dojin grabbed the guy by the collar, brushing aside the threats and curses, and asked who the owner of the shop was. The guy puffed up and answered proudly that he's the owner's son? If that's the case, I suggest you call your dad quick, buddy. Your dojin is here because he got a heavy recommendation. Then, after letting the guy go, he even threw in a smirk, but hurried off to another room to call his dad. An older man, sporting a modified welding mask, came out of the workshop to see what the fuss was about. His name is Shui Shui Wu, the master craftsman of hero weaponry. Dojin quickly mentioned he was there because of a recommendation, and of course, both the father and son knew that name well. Let's get more famous than the evening news, right, son? The old man was shocked to learn that a rank S celebrity was in the building. I know your work, but I'm not here to beat around the bush. So, he pulls out the materials from his backpack. Right away, the old master takes a look at the items and quickly realizes it's a piece from a giant black viper. Wow, it's been ages since he's seen something like this. Anyway, I want a decent sword made from this material. Our hero wants his weapon to be as long as possible. That's right, he's got this idea of a sword that reaches up to the sky, but the old guy isn't too keen on accepting the request, you know? The dude argues against the idea and explains that this non-metallic material will end up ruining the durability of the weapon. So, the wise blacksmith suggests that it would be more effective to make 2 medium-sized swords instead of 1 massive one. Listening to the proposal, the guy asks if the old man is admitting he's kinda mediocre in terms of skills, but he doesn't want 2 swords. No, what he really wants is to fuse them into one. What matters to him is the sword's length, if you catch my drift. Besides that ridiculous length, he wants the mana absorption rate to be max level, like totally overpowered. Meanwhile, the slacker can't keep quiet and decides to chime in because the customer's ideas are getting more and more insane. He brags about his dad, who can make weapons with at least a grade 3 mana absorption. Then he steps forward and grabs one of the swords on display in the store window. He does a critical analysis and sees that the material there is grade 5, which is no joke. And then, as if there's no tomorrow, he grabs the sharp tip of the sword with his bare hands. Without thinking twice, both father and son are left in shock, frozen, as our hero does something almost magical. His grip is so strong that the grade 5 material shatters like glass. The product that the store prided itself on producing is nothing but dust and debris, a total fiasco. The slacker thanks the stars for not crossing paths with the mysterious customer. The old guy can only watch as his creation is brutally destroyed. His dojo warns, Shui, what if he messes up the materials? Might as well quit the job now. He gets real. If I can turn a level 5 weapon into fine powder, just imagine what I could do to your face, man. After getting all the setup right in the shop today, his target is the freak of nature, a green cyclops with a single eye and super sharp senses. The cyclops starts screaming like crazy when he senses a hostile presence. While the other hunters show up with their fancy gear, our hero is just chilling in jeans and a hoodie. Since he doesn't have a proper weapon, he'll have to make do with those talented hands for now. But the cyclops isn't playing around. He doesn't let you attack him for free. He tries to stomp Dojim right off the bat, like a real jerk. When that initial attack gets all heightened, the damn one-eyed beast goes into a panic. Dojim jumps around like a madman to make up for the size difference, and his sword hand moves like lightning, slicing a juicy chunk off the Cyclops' shoulder. The pain makes the beast scream in an unbearable tone. Even I got a little scared. Desperate for revenge, he uses his monstrous strength, rips a whole tree out of the ground, and starts swinging it like a maniac, trying to hit a hooded monster. But unfortunately for the Cyclops, these wild tactics don't work on this guy, and 2 more brutal wounds appear on his his shoulders. It was a bloodbath, man. Normally, that would be the end of the hunt if 2-1 was leveling up against any other monster, but Cyclopes are a special group, you know? These creatures have such powerful regenerative abilities that they could withstand fatal wounds and still laugh about it. 2-1 had already planned for that crazy ability ahead of time, right? If the enemy has insane healing, you just keep pounding them with damage without giving the Cyclops a chance to regenerate. Our hero keeps stabbing, slicing, and cutting everything in sight. To top it all off, he decapitates the giant monster and lands like a superhero. It was a clean, albeit bloody victory over the green monster. Our hero sighs. Feeling a bit tired these days, keeping a mana sword active for too long is still pretty demanding and inefficient. He grabs his bag and sorts out a jar. Then he dips that jar into one of the grotesque wounds he inflicted on the Cyclops, like he's getting some fruit juice. Man, that was exactly the goal of today's expedition, to snag some of that top-tier Cyclops blood. He returned to the hero district at sunset, and as usual, the bum was chilling at the counter. He tossed the jar of blood without saying a word, and told Daddy's boy to take it to his dad. With that, the two black viper fangs could be fused without any hassle. After giving this brief explanation, he refused to say anything else and left the shop. All the basic materials for the weapon plan were already gathered, but he wanted a higher mana absorption rate and needed one more ingredient. And guess what? There's only one place on Earth to find it. While he was mapping everything to track down that secret ingredient, his S-rank colleague was taking an important phone call, and Juju was enjoying a relaxing vacation when she answered the call and heard My Brazil mentioned. Could it be Trump? A bright sun was reflecting off the water just right, but she couldn't even enjoy it because the call was super serious. After a mission in Europe, the Korean Association decided to send its heroes to Brazil, which means the Brazilian government and association gave up on dealing with the rift zones on their own. From what Young Jinju knows, Brazilian monsters are nasty and incredibly fierce, but the drop rate for magical stones is extremely high. With big money at stake, the Cleon Guild is getting in on it too. She even insisted that Jum take the mission and go with that friend she saw recently. Jum keeps thinking it must be the 8th S-rank hero in the country, the same one she met in the dungeon, and Ju is totally on board with this love that's blossoming. She thinks it's romantic that these two superpowered people went after a Caesarian together, just the two of them. After a lot of tears and drama, Rinju finally manages to get her friend to agree to the mission in Brazil. But she has no clue if that guy is actually gonna show up. So back at the little shop in the Gazan Hero Complex, our hero, old Shoyo, is just standing there staring at his own creation with that sparkle in his eyes. Damn, look what I made. And this dude never, in his wildest dreams, thought non-metal materials could be melted and fused with Cyclops blood. Now he's really stepping his game up. If it weren't for this kid who popped up out of nowhere, he wouldn't have even discovered. Such a bizarre technique. Now old Shoyo could make a sword as long as the dojo wanted. The sword is coming in hot! Woohoo! He even considered a maximum length of about 180 centimeters. Just think about that reach, man. If the dojo and the protagonist want a two-handed blade, but with an adjustable handle for one-handed swings too, this guy's clever, you know? He's thinking something that weighs around 5 kilograms. Just to give you an idea, during a tense moment, old Shoyo was surprised to see that the tough kid from yesterday was being super polite. What happened, man? The kid's even got manners. Go figure, maybe that weapon really is important to him, right? But old Shoyo chimed in, 5 kilos would be a hell of a weight to swing with one hand. And it's not like he would just swing it once or twice. It would be intense. But the kid didn't care, and he knows what specs he wants. He won't mess around. The old pro estimated that the crafting process would take at least a month, and mentioned that the mana absorption rate should hit level 7, but the kid wasn't satisfied. Level 7? What the hell, man? That level can't handle the full power he wanted. And being a good warrior, our hero really needed a final boost. A special ingredient. So Jojo, in the vibe, headed for the door and told the old man to just shape it up for now. He made it clear that the mana absorption upgrade could wait until he got the rest of the materials. Shoyo was pretty experienced already, having an idea of what material the kid was thinking about. He even shuddered and picked up on it. A few days later, So-doi's headed to the city to meet with a very important woman. It was an urgent mission, and Ji, the muse, delivered on her promise with a brand new car. Joan was over the moon, totally loved the gift. Eagerly, she held back a little, saying it was nothing compared to what he did for her. Just $1 billion car, bro? No way, it's secondhand, you know? When he smiled and thanked her, Jun laughed. The heroine went shy again, almost like she hit OMG mode. While he was checking out every inch of his new ride, Jun chuckled and asked what happened at that Hero Association meeting. She was curious. Dojinho, the cool guy, told her that when they met with the bigwigs, the older folks wanted to make their info public, but the catch was they wanted a crazy huge payment. He even acknowledged that the president of Nar Taiwan cared about the greater good, but politics is pretty boring at the end of the day. The deal ended up going nowhere. After all that, Dojinho, hopped into his shiny new car. I swear, he quietly jumped into the passenger seat. As she buckled up, she started talking about the association getting ready for an operation going down in Brazil. But as soon as he heard the word Brazil, Dojinho hit the brakes on everything, disregarded everything else. He leaned in closer and asked her sincerely if she was going. Flustered, she just stuttered out a signal, totally nervous. So, he invited her to go with him. This dude really pulled the S rank, Brazilian pickup line. Are you crazy? That made the heroine's heart race, her cheeks turning all rosy. Meanwhile, another woman was there, head over heels for her Dojinho. The rich one, or Renju, was right in the middle of getting played by the gang, just throwing more cash at them. He was insisting that director Honge shouldn't cut corners at such a crucial moment. He'd already put $3 billion on the table, but still wanted more. This guy hadn't even started the trick to finally take out Dojinho. Damn. Renju was losing patience and thought about just hiring someone else to do that dirty work. She figured there were plenty of deadbeats out there. Who would do this gig just for the cash without questioning it? Kang just laughed at her ignorance. He threw in some free tips. This guy had just found out that his dojun became the newest S-ranker in the country. Crazy, right? He even said they were practically pals. What a wild ride, man. Director Hong couldn't believe that the kid she had sent away from the family turned into a superhuman. And that guy, Hong Pyu, he even put up a bunch of his own money to secure that info. If Hong Reju doesn't want to believe it, he should just wait until his dojun climbs that tower and knocks some sense into her. So, with panic setting in, Director Rong blocked Pugh, trying to keep him in check. She was losing it and terrified for her life. This crazy woman promised to pay whatever it took just to get to the bottom of things with the game. Kang just smiled and told her he changed his mind. Instead of more cash, he'd rather have a stronger business relationship with the director down the line, if you know what I mean. But at this point, Hong Reju would accept any form of payment. That's when he got a super important text. It looks like the heavens are giving this cursed woman a boost. The perfect chance to take down Heaven 2 just popped up. A few days later, the nation was in a frenzy over the news of a new international expedition for the country's heroes. All the S-rankers who accepted the mission were now on board a private luxury jet. Feeling the buzz on social media, everyone was pumped to see the 5 S-rankers saving a country on the brink of destruction. How wild is that? Some Korean users were bursting with pride, feeling like kings. One of the S-rankers was Jong Seon-ho, who brought his group to the top all by himself, and he only takes missions when there's cash on the line. Then there's Park, whose guild vanished. The money he could make on this expedition is crucial, you know? And Ju on the other side, she's the nation's big hero, super famous. And that Pew guy is going too because he heard taxes were gonna be injected for every magic stone on the mission. Dude, just getting a single mid-high level stone is a big deal. This could change the life of any regular person. While the other S ranks were getting all the praise and buzz online, this one figure generated more questions than rumors. His 2-in-1 was seen as a rookie making his debut on the international scene. Pretty basic, you know? Nothing crazy, right? With 5 top-tier heroes, Brazil is about to heat up and things are about to get real. After a long flight with no drama, the group finally landed in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The Brazilian Heroes Association gathered to discuss how things would go down. These guys are excited to welcome the famous Korean expedition team, and they're the quickest to respond compared to all the countries that asked for help. Some S ranks didn't even check in at hotels before jumping into action right away, but the background players were worried that the Koreans might uncover something they were trying to keep under wraps. You can't keep a secret forever, right? So they just needed to make sure everything was under total control until the collaboration was done. Brazil's national treasure of a hero, Moraes, was taken out by some unknown entity. It was a brutal way to go out, man. And it wasn't even by a monster. His black box definitely showed a human murder method, and no one knows what really went down near that Santarem rift. Meanwhile, the Korean team was getting a solid briefing on their action plan while everyone was on edge. Rio de Janeiro was messaging, looking for Jerome crew. Turns out the dude stuck on the plane and took a connecting flight to a slightly further destination. He was heading toward the rift in Goiás. Jury can't hide her worry. She just found out the guy's going to the weirdest rift alone. That team will undergo a 2-day local adaptation before being sent to the rift zones they signed up for. After the whole briefing, Jury didn't stick around any longer and jumped into a cab. Then, Kangeiro Pugh followed her to ask where she was headed. Since they weren't supposed to move yet, just to shake off the annoying guy, she said she was heading to Goiás for a bit, and one of the two found that pretty suspicious. The Brazilian Association made it very clear that the dangers there were extremely high. In the rift zone near Goiânia, it turned into a barren desert, you know? Rio de Janeiro and the Cleon Guild teamed up with their dojo to camp out for the mission he had planned, but they rushed over to this abandoned place. One of the two asked why they were in such a hurry, and then the other one said they were late. Man, it felt like they were bickering like an old married couple. Tired Tired of the questions, Jim finally mentioned that he was going after the blue croc. Wow, that was a pretty disappointing answer. Totally let down by his nonchalance, Joru reminded him he was 3 years older and demanded more respect. While they were sorting this out, the Cleon Guild just chilled, watching. The guild leader, Riju, had never met anyone brave enough to boss Joru around. As they ventured deeper into the rift zone, some members of the Cleon Guild hesitated to move forward without a plan, but having one of the two in the team gave them confidence. You can't deny her skills, but it seemed like the rookie was in charge. While the others were skeptical about the guy leading the way, those who had been on the previous raid into the dungeon trusted the novice to lead. Confused and a little worried, DM Rio wanted to know if Dojo 1 was planning to close the rift. He refused to have such an ambitious goal. They were just after materials to make the most of that barrier. After a bit more calm walking, they finally came across the first barrier. The Cleon Guild is packed with talented hackers, so each one sent their messages skillfully. Their hierarchy was clear, with concise calls to deal with the unexpected enemies, but the blue crocs blocking their progress were way more monstrous up close than in the pictures. All they could do was defend themselves. Things were getting a lot more dangerous with the whole group standing still. Finally, Sky, one of the two, moved. He whipped out his blade and told the hackers to step aside while everyone watched him. This guy didn't miss a chance to show off. The old show already knew he was after the heart of the blue croc, so he temporarily lent Dojin an award-winning sword. He locked his eyes on the target and fired off like a bullet. In a smooth sequence, he turned that annoying blue croc into shredded meat. He was already meters away from the beasts when they went down. Those who doubted him were shocked and speechless. This kid is totally insane, man. After that first challenge, the journey to the rift zone continued without many twists and turns. The sun set, and the group set up camp, clustered around the campfire. The Cleon Guild couldn't stop commenting on how Lord Su Dojin took down a bunch of blue crocos in a single blow, without even breaking a sweat. It's not public yet, but that's how he defeated the feared Kassirian. One thing is for sure, this guy is no ordinary hero. While the others were chatting, Jim was focused on watching his strange steak cook. Jury 1 approached and asked if he had already organized the heart of the blue croco. The coolers he brought were full of that material. Can you believe Jury 1 still doesn't understand what those hearts are for? We returned to his frying pan. She asked what kind of meat was sizzling there. Man, that was definitely not beef. She casually asked what was grilling. Was it a bit of blue croco meat? Like, what's on the menu for today? And he even said she could try the meat if she wanted. The guy is bold, my brother. Ignoring the disgusted looks from the crowd, Jim took a bite of the grotesque dish as if it were the best thing in the world. He chewed and swallowed as if he were at a barbecue, eating picanha. Look at this guy using a knife like a fork. Even Junryo was shocked, and she's seen some wild things. There's a stock of regular food, but the leader is eating cursed meat. After overcoming an initial disgust, Junryo grew curious. She took a piece for herself and stared at Dojun for a while. Like, should I risk it or not? Is it good? Is it, no, I will, I won't. Oh, I'm scared! A Jew wanted to stop her friend from doing something she might regret, but it was too late. A Jew took an extremely polite and economical bite of the rancid-looking meat, and after swallowing a small piece, the girl was pleasantly surprised by the taste, completely different from what she expected. Thus, two from the camp enjoyed the bizarre meal without exchanging a single word. Incredibly curious, Jew whispered and asked Mr. Dojin what his secret was. How does a little-known guy manage to enchant someone like Miss Jew? Sure, the girl is inexperienced and has never had a boyfriend, but she's not the type to give her heart away so easily. So what did Dojin do to make that girl experience his flesh? The mention of romance reminded Dojin of his time at the Imperial Academy. That was indeed a long time ago, before he turned 20. Speaking of romance, there was Miss Maisel Grine from the Grine family, the youngest of the Lasulian family. The Lasulian legend, which was a dream, and of course, his last cave in that crazy world, the brave knight Veronica. He got lost again in his memories until the whispered screams of Inju brought him back. As for his secret, he replied that Juwon laughed. It's the moth to your flame. In his mind, that phrase seemed very romantic. Inju, on the other hand, was astonished. She had never heard anything so corny in her life, a ready-made joke. And so the night rolled on with a playful vibe. Even Ito-jun was there smiling and having fun like a child. Back in Sao Paulo, Kange and Pugh continued living it up in their luxury hotel, Suite. He still wondered why Junho was in such a hurry, considering the date of the operation hadn't happened yet. According to his sources, she was moving with Junho's Sky and the Jangrim Guild. Jung Jinju turned to the assistant and asked about what profitable monsters might be in that area of Goyas. And from what he knew, there shouldn't be any worth mentioning. Everything was kind of messed up, all involving that damn Seo Dojun, with a sinister level of unpredictability. His worries disappeared when Director Hong, that nuisance, called him. As always, she called to ask if the job was done. Hearing how the patient was, she was. Kang asked if anything had happened. The girl was worried that her father might have found out that Dojun had risen to rank S. Her father was demanding that she return home now that the Group T president was getting involved. Hank Reiju was more anxious than usual. Hank Pugh thought her suffering was quite a comedy. Still, he finally found a partner who would fetch some good money and assured the director that Sky 2-1 wouldn't be able to return to Korea. Hearing this relieved her. Good thing, Kang. Opyu marked 1 point on the map and prepared to hire someone named Takashi because he's old school. Now, his Dojun isolated himself and his job got a lot easier. When the sun rose, the expedition team in Sanarem continued their journey with Dojun in the lead. In Juro, Rio informed Dojun to head towards the jungle because of the monsters. Among them, the most concerning is the lynx, a terrifying creature. Of course, Dojun knows all about the lynx, right? He's more than aware, but instead of giving the jungle some time, Dojun went straight for the most dangerous path of all. Jun knows there's no stopping this guy when he sets his mind on a goal, but she insisted he wear some earplugs. Luckily, she had prepared some. Antimo, earplugs are essential when facing a lynx. The beast's screams can paralyze your mind, you know? Dojun knew this, but refused to take the earplugs. Like, come on, I don't need this. Ju didn't give up and kept trying to convince him to use those plugs. The information and warnings came from the hero of Brazilian Treasure. After all, ignoring the pleas, Dojun silently and calmly crossed the dense jungle vegetation with no choice. In June, the Cleon Guild was drawn into this treacherous detour. After an entire day of non-stop walking, they finally reached the monster's lair. Under the bright moon, the lynx faced them like a predator watching its prey. It looks like a giant cat. Crazy. This is where the real party is going to begin. As the beast made its grand entrance, Inju screamed for everyone to cover their ears. It's about to get intense. While everyone panicked, Dojun just stared at the cat. And this guy looked like a wall, not moving, as if to say, "Not here, kid." The two predators assessed each other, but one is human and the other is a cat. Now the competition for who has more aura has begun, right? Who do you think will win this? That's it. If you liked the video, like, share, and leave your comment below. And if the video performs well, you already know, right? There will be part 2. Thank you. Goodbye. Under the radiant light of a full moon, the lynx's eyes shone as it attacked everyone with its paralyzing voice. Julian, Junginju, and the team were utterly helpless. They covered their ears with their hands, suffocated by the pressure of the lynx's lethal voice that affected their minds. But, unlike him, Seo Dojun was there, calm, planning his next move. Julian tensed as she saw Seo Dojun. She wondered why he wasn't covering his ears. Was he paralyzed? She shouted, "Seo Dojun, cover your ears!" But Seo Dojun had other plans. He picked up a stone from the ground, infused it with fire mana, and shot it with all his strength at the beast. The stone flew swiftly toward the lynx, which was perched on a tree branch, emitting its paralyzing cry under the moonlight. In the next moment, everyone stopped hearing that sound, escaping the pressure of the beast. Seo Dojun's attention was still on the beast, which managed to dodge the attack and flee. Without wasting time, Seo Dojun began to chase it. Junginju, who was right behind, he shouted, "What did you do to free us from that pressure?" With no answer, Julian and Junginju also ran after Seo Dojun. Julian was still dazed, thinking about what her dojo had done to make the beast retreat. As they ran, the team caught up with Seo Dojun, who had stopped for some reason. The lynx was not alone. As it ran, it joined its pack, which was ready to attack. The eyes and markings of the pack members gleamed like moonlight. Seo Dojun was still watching the beast that was attacking the team. The beast was furious, as one of its legs had suffered severe damage from Seo Dojun's attack. It launched a new attack, causing one of its eyes to shine brightly. Between Junginju and Julian, the beast mentally attacked Julian, causing her discomfort. The mental attack hit its mark, trying to control her, making her eyes and those of the beast shine in sync. In the final moment, Seo Dojun understood the situation and, coming from behind, closed Julian's eyes. Julian was startled, but Seo Dojun prevented her scream. He explained that looking into a lynx's eyes can paralyze the mind. Julian's eyes still reflected the effects of the beast. Seo Dojun asked Julian to close her eyes, and, holding his sword with one hand, the fire mana around his dojo surged. He infuses his sword with mana and says, "Is that all the power you have?" He swings the sword, making the flames dance like a rainbow in the air. 5 giant fireballs form around him. The presence of his dojo was deadly. Flames burst from his head and shoulders in a chilling hue. He unleashes his attack, Sword of the Shionyu family, first style, beloved Milaguro. In this form, his eyes and head were completely enveloped by the fire mana. He charges forward with the sword, injecting flames into the blade, creating a sphere of fire at the tip. Faced with such power, the lynx were terrified, but remained frozen. The fireball began to grow gradually. Struck by such power, one commented, "What kind of technology is this? I've never seen power like this." Another, with long hair, replied, "This is not technology. It's an extremely powerful attack from Seo Dojun." Seo Dojun's attack was on its way. With every breath, his mana increased. He prepared his final move, merging 5 fireballs into the sword and creating a flame sphere so large that it looked like a small sun. The lynx, who had underestimated Seo Dojun's attack, stood paralyzed at the sight of the immense fireball. Had they been able to react, the fireball collided with everyone, resulting in a colossal explosion. The light from that attack illuminated the night as if it were day. With that strike, all the lynx in front were eliminated, and a shockwave of energy made Julian and a Ginju struggle to remain standing. When the light dissipated, Julian and the others were in shock at the scene before them. With just one attack from Seo Dojun, the lush forest was reduced to ashes, leaving a massive crater in its place. The lynx were dead, their charred bodies scattered around. The team members were stunned, as they had never witnessed an attack of such magnitude. Everyone murmured a single word: impossible. Only one lynx survived, gravely injured and unable to move. Dojun approached the beast, which with its last strength tried to launch a mental attack, but it had no effect on Seo Dojun. Annoyed, he struck the beast and, in a single blow, decapitated it. Seo Dojun shouted, "How dare you try such a trick on me!" The eyes of the lynx remained open, reflecting the image of Seo Dojun, and Seo Dojun leaned down and said, "I need those eyes of yours." After the massacre, the exhausted team returned to the hotel after a day of hunting. On the way, Julian and Youngjin were completely focused on Seo Dojun. Youngjin, impressed by his power, began to think about him. Receiving Seo Dojun's attention, she saw him as a trustworthy man. Julian was also starting to feel a positive sentiment towards Seo Dojun. The scene of Seo Dojun defeating the horde of monsters lingered in his mind. Now, she also wanted to learn the art of swordsmanship from him. The rest of the team was also commenting about Seo Dojun. One of them praised his power and commented on the thrill of witnessing his attack. "Dude, he surpassed human limits." Another compared, "I think he's even stronger than Shafiro Phone, a rank S hero." A third one opined, "To me, he seems as powerful as Canilister, one of the strongest heroes in the world." While they were talking, creatures resembling the undead began to rise from a lake. One by one, the creatures emerged, each with claws as sharp as blades. The long-haired guy warned, "These creatures have no brains, so be careful with them." Without hesitation, the creatures attacked. As a punch hit one of the corpses, it shattered its face, and in the next moment, its head exploded. During the mission, Seo Dojun displayed his absolute mastery. His team seemed to be there just for show. Once again, he eliminated the undead with ease. His speed was such that no one could see him, but the results were undeniable. He dispatched the creatures as if they were mere mosquitoes, heads and limbs flying everywhere. The team was amazed and entertained, while one shouted, "Kill more! Kill more! This is fun!" The noise from his exploits caused all the birds in the area to flee in terror. After exterminating the monsters, they continued on their way. Julian asked Seo Dojun, "Where did you learn this art of swordsmanship? It's incredible. Those 5 red flames accompanying it are impressive." Dojun began to reflect on the swordsmanship he used to defeat those monsters. Julian asked, "Will you teach me this art of swordsmanship?" Seo Dojun replied, "Why do you want to learn this art?" Julian retorted, "Because this sword art is amazing and I want to learn it." Seo Dojun thought to himself, "This world is too peaceful. There's no need to learn. Even if you learn, you won't be able to use it correctly." Seo Dojun was lost in his own thoughts, which began to irritate Julian as he hadn't responded to her question. She said to her dojo, "You have freedom, but that doesn't mean you can ignore me. I am also a rank S hunter, and I am not inferior to any heroine. You can't just ignore me. I also want to use this art at least once in my life. Are you listening or not? Say clearly if you want. To teach me or not." Seo Dojun was already tired of Julian's ranting and stared back at her. Julian was also looking at him. The determination in her eyes was clear. Seo Dojun remained silent, which left Julian upset. "I understand how important I am to you." Young Jinju was watching the two and commented, "Looks like they came for a date." He said to his team, "Everyone get ready. We are leaving this rift soon." Everyone began to exit the rift one by one. Jungin-jo, the last to exit, said, "Thanks. To your dojo, we all got out without losses. Next time, let's clear this quickly." As soon as she exited, she heard a voice in Japanese. "I'll kill you. Who do you think you are to stop me?" All the team members were outside the rift, and young Jinju recognized the voice. Running to the front, Seo Dojun was firmly holding Julian, making her a little embarrassed, but he only wanted to protect her. In front of him was a Japanese team, whose leader, Ryoma Takashi, was a rank S hero and head of the Taikoku Syndicate Empire, with a past in the Yakuza. For those who don't know, the Yakuza is a famous Japanese crime organization, similar to the Mafia, involved in various illegal activities. Takashi said to Seo Dojun, I want to have a little fun with the cutie. Julian, get out of my way or you're going to get hurt. Actually, he was a friend of Kanki and Kyung Pyo, and he had been sent to kill Seo Dojun, but he preferred to take advantage of Julian, thinking he could easily handle Seo Dojun. Back to the story. Seo Dojun wasn't intimidated by Takashi's threat and began to confront him. Lu, get out of here or you're going to die. Seo Dojun still held Julian and replied to Takashi in Japanese. I don't think Julian wants to go with you. Julian, who was now in trouble, didn't seem worried. I completely trusted Seo Dojun and knew that nothing bad could happen there. She asked Seo Dojun, can you speak Japanese? Almost. And he replied. He thought, not me, but the true owner of this body, Seo Dojun, learned by listening to their conversation. One thug began to get irritated. It was the first time someone had ignored him like that. He angrily said to Seo Dojun, what did you say? The thugs shouted from behind. How dare you insult our leader? Apologize now. You don't know who he is? Seo Dojun replied with complete disdain. I have no interest in knowing. Seo Dojun's response left the atmosphere tense, and Takashi simply stared at him. Young Injo and her team, who were behind, were shocked by the situation, realizing the danger they faced outside the rift. Young Injo, a past client and criminal of Takashi, and known for his notoriety as the leader of one of Japan's top guilds, knew that confronting him could create problems even for Seo Dojun. To calm the tensions, she stepped between them and tried to ease the situation, but Takashi, doing it on purpose, said to Young Injo, girl, get out of here! You don't belong in this place! Young Injo was angry to hear the insult but managed to hold herself back. Her team members couldn't contain themselves and shouted, how dare you insult our leader? Young Injo asked her team to calm down, trying to control the situation. She introduced herself to Takashi. I am Young Injo, leader of the Korean Clio Guild. We need to settle this here and now. But he insulted her again. A guild I've never heard of. What can you do to me? Wait your turn after I have my fun with Julian. It will be your turn and we will settle this. He overstepped his bounds and began to pull Julian, but Seo Dojun stepped in front and placed her behind him. The next moment, Takashi landed a strong punch on Seo Dojun and, laughing, said, wait your turn. I'll deal with you later. First, I'll have a little fun. His dojo realized that this guy really came to kill him and was doing everything on purpose. His dojo took responsibility for the situation, stating, if you came for me, I take the blame, but I have a bad habit. I don't leave debts unpaid. Seo Dojun delivered a devastating punch to Takashi, who was thrown back, colliding with his men. He declared firmly, you started all this, and this was my legitimate defense. Get out of my way! This is between the two of us. Seo Dojun's words scared all the thugs while Takashi shouted from behind, you all get out of the way! I'll crush this worm with my own hands! Furious, Takashi radiated a red aura and an almost palpable tension, indicating that he was ready to attack. His dojo was equally prepared to fight, while Julian simply watched. He turned to Julian. Take care of yourselves. I'll handle the rest. Soon after, with a powerful blow, Seo Dojun defeated Takashi, who fell to the ground feeling the weight of the attack. Takashi was now lying down, tasting the flavor of defeat. The force of Seo Dojun's attack made the ground tremble as Takashi's head sank deeper and deeper. Takashi's team was in shock, incredulous to see their boss being beaten in that way. Seo Dojun's team was also surprised. They knew of their dojo's reputation as monster hunters, but they had never seen an S-rank hero being defeated so one-sidedly. Kai somehow managed to break free and retreat. He approached his men holding his nose and exclaimed, how is this guy so powerful? I've never seen anyone like this in my life. This guy doesn't match the information we received. The fury of his dojo remained, and their white aura was visible. Their eyes conveyed that this was Takashi's last day. Takashi, terrified by the strength of his dojo, began to back away. But who could stop his dojo? He appeared before Takashi, and with an intense gaze asked, who hired you? To kill me? I know who it is, but I want to hear it from you. Takashi's condition was precarious. Sweat was dripping down his face, but he refused to speak. His dojo grabbed his head and insisted, who is it? In desperation, Takashi merely trembled and pleaded, please forgive me, I'm leaving here. He was unwilling to reveal anything, and still trembling, repeated, please forgive me, I'm leaving here. His dojo replied, forgive you? That's impossible. Then he delivered a series of slaps to Takashi's face. When Takashi remained silent, a strong punch knocked him out. His dojo's team was still in shock by that display of strength. They were not surprised by Seo Dojun's power, but seeing an S-rank hero being treated like this. It was hard to believe, and a bystander, observing the scene, questioned how Seo Dojun still had so much power, even after facing monsters in the rift. Seo Dojun ruthlessly continued to assault the fallen Akashi. Junginju, realizing the gravity of the situation, told Julian, we need to stop him before it's too late. His dojutsu was hitting Takashi with such ferocity that blood spurted. Takashi's men were so frightened that they dared not intervene. Julian shouted for Seo Dojun to stop, but, he replied determinedly, This guy came after me, so it's my responsibility to deal with him properly. Don't worry, I'll take on the entire burden of this matter." Julian grabbed his dojo's hand, pulling him away, exclaiming, "What a big deal, you, the burden bearer. I won't let you do anything that puts you in danger." In response, Seo Dojun commented, "I've seen many fools like these. We must resolve this now, or we'll have worse problems later." Young Jinju grabbed Seo Dojun's hand, warning, "You shouldn't pressure yourself because of guys like these. Leave them alone." Julian added, "You've already taught him a good lesson. If you punch him again now, he'll die right here." Takashi's team approached their leader, but upon seeing him unconscious, they realized his situation was critical. A bystander shouted, "If you don't want to die, don't make the mistake of messing with us again." Takashi's team knelt down and pleaded, "We understand." However, Seo Dojun was still not satisfied. He wanted to show everyone who was in charge. In a cold tone, he said, "Just kneeling won't work. Bow your heads." Everyone quickly bowed and began to apologize. Seo Dojun watched and asked, "Don't you think you're forgetting something? When the Yakuza makes a mistake, you cut off one of your fingers." The members of Takashi, in shock, only bowed further and repeated their apologies. Seo Dojun then sentenced them, "Admit that you are liars, deceivers, and choices. After that, you can leave." Everyone bowed and made their confessions. They were furious, but could do nothing. Jungginju found the whole situation strange. She grimaced while the rest of the team laughed at the scene. Takashi was in terrible condition, his body severely damaged. Seo Dojun, Julian, and Jungginju were having fun at his expense. The scene shifts to São Paulo, where the Hero Association of Brazil is located. Inside the association, a man reads the occurrence report, incredulous. He asks Jung-ju and Julian, "Did what you reported really happen? I can't believe this." The scene cuts back. He thinks to himself, "Is it true that the S-rank hero Takashi was hurt this badly? But they say there's only one man behind this. In the fight, only Takashi was injured. So, did Takashi really lose in an individual duel? I can't deny what they say, but I hope the Korean and Japanese governments resolve this issue." In the meantime, he states, "Ruyan, according to the report, our Brazilian government cannot intervene in this matter. This was a fight between you, so I'll pass this issue on to the Korean and Japanese associations. The final decision will be his." Julian and Jungginju agree with the decision. Jungginju asks the man, "Why did you prohibit us from going to Santarem?" The man replies, "Didn't you feel anything strange there?" Junji asserts that he didn't feel anything different. The man asks, "But where is the team member you mentioned in this report? Why isn't he here?" Julian clarifies that he left for an urgent task. The scene shifts to a hospital, where Takashi sleeps in ward number 3. The arrival of Seo Dojun wakes Takashi. As he opens his eyes, he sees Seo Dojun, who is holding a bouquet. However, seeing the heavy atmosphere and Seo Dojun's piercing eyes, Takashi feels that those flowers are for his funeral. Seo Dojun, in a cold tone, says to Takashi, "Don't be afraid, I'm just here to see you." He then takes out a strange orb and holds it close to Takashi's eyes. The orb is, in fact, the eye of the lynx that Seo Dojun had killed. Thanks to the lynx's hypnotic ability, the orb exerts control over Takashi and asks, "Who ordered your death?" Takashi reveals, "I did all this on my brother's orders, who is in the Korean Guild." The writer does not clarify whether Takashi mentioned the name, but it is possible that Seo Dojun already knew. Before leaving, Seo Dojun scoffs and accuses, "They are scum dogs." Takashi listened and repeated the word incessantly. Seo Dojun was aware of everything. His face now showed intense rage. Then, everyone learned about the fight between Seo Dojun and Takashi. This information became headline news, reporting that his dojo defeated Takashi, leaving him hospitalized. Today, this is the top news in all the newspapers. With this, the identity of their dojo as a ranking S hero has been revealed. His grandson Wang and his assistant were discussing the situation. The question is it true that they resolved everything on their own? His assistant confirms, yes, the news is true. The incident really happened and is spreading among people daily. The Japanese Heroes Association admitted this as well and halted the investigation. Wang adds, "According to the report, Takashi also admitted his guilt, burying the case. Admitting guilt is unprecedented. Surely there's a reason why the Japanese want to downplay this incident." The assistant asks, "Do you think there's someone behind this?" Nedowank smiles and replies, "I don't know, but soon your dojo will be the center of attention in the world, and the balance among heroes will change, as Korea now has another ranking S hero." The scene shifts to a hotel in Brazil, where the Korean heroes have already settled into the new environment. This area is now familiar to them, and they are mingling with heroes from other countries. Everyone is sharing their individual and group plans. The mission will take place in a day, and today a pre-battle party has been organized. Meanwhile, Julian was preparing for the party. The party was in full swing, with his dojo being the true highlight. He was wearing a stunning suit, drawing all the gazes. His Dojo was chatting casually with others. Junginjo watched the party and noticed that after the fight with Takashi, the attention had turned to his dojo. The reason? He was young and defeated Takashi effortlessly. Julian, now appealing, was isolated on a couch staring at his dojo. A guy says to Julian, comparing himself with his dojo, "Aren't we just not normal next to him?" Julian, with a sad expression, doesn't respond, lost in her thoughts. A Guincho grimaces and asks, "Hey, Julian, are you listening to me? What's wrong?" But Julian remains silent. A Guincho, looking the other way, says, "What's making you so grumpy?" Meanwhile, his dojo was talking to two people, including a girl who clearly admired him. His dojo was interacting amiably, as if they were old friends. The girl was Gloria Tyler, an American-ranking S hunter, and one of the most beautiful women on the planet, yes, the most beautiful in the world. And a Ginyu, noticing the scene, pats Julian on the back and shouts, "Being in a bad mood doesn't help. Go over and interact with them. Go meet the crew." Julian, shocked, replies, "Me?" And the Ginyu insists, "Yes, you, Seo Dojun. Have you noticed their conversation?" Julian begins to approach Seo Dojun, but feels awkward. Gloria and Seo Dojun notice her approach, causing Julian to feel embarrassed while Seo Dojun enjoys her shyness. Then, giving the two space, Gloria says, "It was great to meet you, Kaizel, until next time." Hearing that, Julian grimaced and questioned, "Who is this Kaizel guy?" Seo Dojun replied, "That's my name." Then Julian asked, "Do you have an English name as well?" Seo Dojun, with a sad expression, affirmed, "Yes, it was my previous name. That name belonged to his past life, where everyone called him Kaizel, not Carcelia." Julian then asked, "Did you live abroad as a child?" But thought to herself, "When I investigated, I found nothing about it." And Seo Dojun didn't respond. Julian, annoyed, said, "You never told me this before." On the other side, Kang Kyung Pyong was observing the two, cursing his friend. He commented, "Takashi's story can't deal with the guy," and added, "It seems he will have to resolve this on his own." Julian warned Seo Dojun, "You need to stay alert from now on. Even with more strength, the enemy may not attack openly. Takashi has many allies who want to hurt you." Seo Dojun replied, "Forget about it." Surprised, Julian commented, "Forget? How? They are very dangerous." Seo Dojun said, "They are like kids trying to act tough, but they are cowards." He said this aloud, aware that Kang Kyung Pyong was paying attention. Seo Dojun, enjoying the situation, remarked, "Those worms are nothing to me." Kang Kyung Pyong, pretending to look away, realized the provocation was aimed at him, becoming quite irritated. Meanwhile, Seo Dojun laughed mischievously. Even so, Pyong, with a murderous look, vowed, "I will crush him with my own hands." The party comes to an end, and night settles in. Seo Dojun's team returns to the same rift in Santarem, but this time the rift seemed a bit different. The flow of energy had increased and a dark aura emanated. Then a long-haired man entered and said, "Hey, what are you afraid of? We have two S-rank heroes with us. Let's go in." And a crane also contributed, "Yes, what problems will we have while your dojo is here?" She quickly began to command the members, "Everyone inside!" And they all started to enter one by one. Meanwhile, her dojo sensed something strange. It felt a danger that no one else seemed to feel. Therefore, Julian, seeing her dojo concerned, began to wonder, what's happening with him? She asked Seo Dojun, "What happened?" Seo Dojun questioned, "Don't you feel anything strange?" Julian felt nothing. She asked Jung, an Indian, but she also didn't notice anything wrong. But Seo Dojun's expression was severe as he realized that the mana within the rift was dense. They all entered the rift, where someone was waiting for them. On a phone screen, it was written, 23.61%. This phone belonged to a mysterious man who commented, "It won't be long before it reaches 30%. What this screen showed was a mystery. Perhaps we'll check in the upcoming episodes. The mysterious man commented, "It's going to be fun to crush these bugs. It would be better if they died." As soon as he said that, the mana there became dense and the pressure on Junginju's team increased to the point that they could barely breathe. Seo Dojun realized that the mana there had changed completely. The last time they were there, it wasn't like this. Julian also became anxious seeing Seo Dojun so worried. For the first time, Seo Dojun and Julian realized that they were in danger. At the beginning of chapter 33, Junginju spoke to his team. "Something is wrong in this rift that has raised the mana density here. Because of this, our bodies are heavier than before. Everyone, stabilize quickly, be cautious, and maintain formation." And a crane addressed Julian and her dojo. "Can you help maintain the formation and ensure safety?" Julian replied, "Sure, why not?" Julian said to her dojo. "This idea is good, as long as we ensure safety and uncover the root of the problem." Seo Dojun agreed. That's the right thing to do. Yang Jinju alerted everyone before entering the rift. "No matter the situation, our main objective is to close this rift." The team responded vigorously. "Yes, Captain," and they advanced. Yang Jinju led the team, closely followed by her. Meanwhile, a joint team from France, Korea, and Brazil, sent to the rift in Manaus, was facing a terrible fate. Team members were being eliminated one by one. The culprits were monstrous wasps that, with speed and lethal stings, were decimating the heroes. They were taken down like ants. They didn't even have time to realize where the attack was coming from. The survivors, stunned, couldn't believe they had been annihilated so quickly. Bodies were sprawled around the area. Park Ryo, a member of the Korean team, was shocked by the scene. Damn killer wasps. These monsters are slaughtering rank C heroes. At that moment, a rank A hero fell upon him, but instead of saving him, the hero dodged and left him behind. Park Ryo couldn't believe it. His team was being wiped out one by one. The wasps advanced mercilessly. One wasp attacked Park Ryo at high speed, but he, a famous rank S hero, would not go down easily. With all his strength, he punched the insect, sending it crashing backward, but the wasp was still alive. Park Ryo exclaimed, "That punch should have destroyed it. How have these wasps become so powerful?" Meanwhile, he observed the team fleeing in search of shelter. The wasps attacked the team. Two held a soldier's hands while the third attacked him. It was hard to tell how many team members were left. The scene shifted to Seo Jun's team, barely managing to evade the attack from a massive axe. The attack came from a horde of black orcs, notably different and with murderous intent in their eyes. A long-haired member noticed, "It's strange how these black orcs have become so strong," and Seo Jun shared the same thought. Seizing the opportunity, a guy in a green shirt attacked the orc with all his strength. Another was ambushing behind him. Both attacked, but did no damage to the orc. Furious, the orc raised his axe, launching an attack, but at the last moment, Julian saved the two from death. She warned them, "Don't attack thoughtlessly." Then she vanished in the blink of an eye and launched herself at the monster at an impressive speed. The monster was preparing to attack, but Julian quickly dodged and positioned herself behind another orc. With a powerful sidekick, she struck a blow. The second orc, noticing the opportunity, threw a punch towards Julian, but she simply disappeared and ascended into the air. The monster began to search for her frantically. Before it could react, Julian, with all her strength, delivered a vertical kick that hit the monster directly in the head, sending it sprawling to the side. Another orc, wielding an axe, attacked. Julian had precisely that in mind. She vanished again, causing the orc's strike to hit its companion, effectively ending his work. The orc, in a moment of despair, thought, "What have I done?" Seeing her chance, Julian appeared behind the orc and delivered a strong kick, making its weapon fall to the ground. The orc fell with a loud thud. Team members commented after seeing Seo Dojun, "We forgot we have another S-rank hero. The power of an S hero is truly impressive." "Indeed, the power of an S hero is incredible," the orc shouted in rage. Then, without warning, a violent punch hit its mouth, breaking a tooth and ending its work for good. This blow was delivered by Seo Dojun, who had been merely observing the orcs. A Guiju commented, "If such powerful monsters appear right at the beginning of the rift, what will come next? If this continues, it will be impossible to close this rift, even with two S heroes." The orc fallen on the ground made Seo Dojun sit. Beside it, Julian questioned, "What are you doing?" Seo Dojun replied, "Do you notice any black color wave from these monsters?" Julian, astonished, asked, "What? Black color wave?" Seo Dojun explained, "Look closely, a black color wave is emanating from them. This is not normal. Because of this, these monsters have become powerful. It must be black mana, but how it got here, I still don't know." Upon hearing black mana, everyone was shocked, as they had never seen anything like it. Seo Dojun continued to observe the orc, trying to learn more about it, while his team remained still, just watching. It was the same rift where Seo Dojun and his group had gone hunting, a place where they were attacked by a monster that resembled garbage. This monster was exactly like a Pokemon whose name nobody knew. A team member attacked the monster with a sword and sliced it in half. The monster exploded like a balloon with ease, but at the last moment the young man stepped out of the line of fire. On the other side, the long-haired guy spun his spear while the other, aided by his shield, attacked the other monster, leaving several cuts on its skin. Wrapping up his work, the long-haired young man commented, "Since when have these common ogres become so strong? If we're having trouble with just one, how will we face the others?" As they were talking, the monster they thought was dead exploded, shocking both of them. They were both thrown forward. The young man in green fell on his back, but the long-haired one quickly recovered. The young man in green shouted, "Treacherous monster! A surprise attack! That hurt a lot! Not even my combat suit could take it." The situation was repeating itself on the other side, but two team members were facing two monsters and could barely keep control. Suddenly, a monster opened its mouth and attacked one member from behind, with its sharp teeth, catching him off guard. But at the last moment, Yoonginju attacked and defeated the monster. The condition of the long-haired guy and the other member was also worsening. A large ogre attacked, but in that moment, a sword strike hit it, ending its work too. This attack was delivered by Hyung-Jin-ju, who reflected to herself, "Have these weak ogres become so dangerous? How strong will that Valkyrie monster with black mana be that Seo Dojun mentioned?" She wondered if those monsters had become powerful only in that rift, or if the situation was similar in other rifts around the world. Meanwhile, on the other side, the monsters injured by the black mana were trying to rise again. The scene shifted to the Manaus rift, where a team of S-rank heroes embarked on a new mission. A guy was running with all his might. It was Park Ryol, the S-rank hero from Korea, whose face reflected undeniable fear. Sweat was dripping down his face, the result of panic. As he ran, he remembered the monstrous spider-like being that had defeated the S-rank heroes from France and Brazil, David and Harp, in battle. The scene changed to Guy, who was fighting monsters, and asked her dojin, "Valkyrie?" Meanwhile, her dojin destroyed the monster with hand strikes, confirming, yes, the same Valkyrie, which has a large amount of black mana. We must be very careful with it. The black mana refers to that very same black aura that came from the air. A mutated ogre appeared before them, emanating a strong presence of black mana. Upon spotting the monster, exclaimed, "Let's go!" Now I understand. An ogre with black mana is what was making these monsters so powerful. At that moment, as June confirmed, a mana attack struck the ogre near Junie, scattering parts of the monster. With such a devastating attack, all attention turned to the culprit, June explained. Imagine that similarly, a highly concentrated mana was injected into this monster, which made them so powerful. While eliminating the monster, Ji pondered, I get it. It's like in games where we need magical power to cast spells, right? Yes, you can think of it that way, Seo Dojun replied. A frustrated June shouted, mana really exists in this world. Meanwhile, Seo Dojun continued to destroy monsters and stated, the main difference between an ordinary man and a hero is the possession of mana. A hero possesses mana, while an ordinary man does not. That said, he delivered a powerful blow to a large ogre that immediately fell. With a series of punches and other strikes, smashing with his fists, he quickly eliminated all the monsters. The team members breathed a sigh of relief at the sight. Ji then questioned Seo Dojun. So you mean that this mana only increases the strength of these monsters? Seo Dojun confirmed. Yes, it's as if someone injected a huge amount of steroids into themselves. Ji inquired, now I understand. But how do you know all this, Mr. Seo Dojun? Seo Dojun disdainfully replied, how I know is not important. What matters is why you still do not know all these things. They continued exchanging ideas while facing the monsters. The narrator mentions that the Silk Magnolia Guild had already passed through the rift, and that the duo of Jungginju and Seo Dojun followed his instructions toward the location of the Valkyrie monster. As they walked, they reached the area of the monster and stopped at the site before them. Jungginju interrupted their march and declared, Mr. Seo Dojun, it seems we have arrived at the monster's area. Ahead, an orc and a large spider wasp were trapped in a web on a tree like a Gijul's cocoon. He commented, this must be the food of that Valkyrie monster, that she tied up like a cocoon. All right, Seo Dojun stepped forward and warned everyone to stay alert. A Valkyrie monster was nearby. Then, moving forward, Seo Dojun activated the flame mana in his hand and remarked, the real threat is those cocoons. Everyone turned to him, intrigued. Seo Dojun continued, it's good that we find these cocoons first. Agwinji asked, wait, are you a mage? How can you assert that these cocoons are the real threat? Seo Dojun then unleashed a flame attack that consumed all those cocoons. He explained, the Valkyrie is a cunning monster that controls the cocoons like puppets and strikes by surprise. If we don't exterminate them now, they will combine and attack us later. Now that all these cocoons have been eliminated, only that Valkyrie remains. Seo Dojun's team then found the area of the Valkyrie monster, where they observed many cocoons that Seo Dojun quickly burned, knowing that the creature could control them. The burning cocoons were testament to the information Seo Dojun shared. The Valkyrie possesses black mana, controlling her cocoons to hunt. A cunning monster that doesn't easily show herself. If we don't destroy her now, she will unite all the cocoons to attack us later. Now that all these cocoons have been defeated, we only have to deal with the Valkyrie monster. Behind, Julian and his team hear Seo Dojun's words. Surprised, Agwinji thinks, this guy is handling this for the first time, but he seems to have plenty of experience. The more I discover about him, the more he surprises me. I thought he was just a strong hero, but his power goes beyond human limits. Seo Dojun speaks with such confidence that he seems to know everything. His team watches in awe, hearing everything for the first time. Julian, surprised, approaches Seo Dojun and asks, say it clearly, is this your second life? How do you know all this? Even the Hero Association doesn't know all of this. Seo Dojun is taken aback. What? Second life? He begins to recall his past life, when he was known as the most powerful swordsman. Yes, you could think of it that way. Seo Dojun asks Agwinji, how much longer until we reach the center of the rift? Jungginju replies, as soon as we cross this forest, we will have covered half the way. Seo Dojun says, if that's the case, let's close this rift before the day ends. Jungginju and Julian are shocked. They think, What is this guy saying? This is a rift, not a video game that can be completed in a day. By the way, hasn't this been in the marshes since the beginning? There's always someone surprised coming back to the story. Well, it might be possible for you, Seo Do-jun, but the rest of the team can't keep up. They are too tired after fighting in the swamp. Seo Do-jun observes his team, who are really exhausted and some are injured. Seeing this, Seo Do-jun says, "Rest here for a while I go take out the Valkyrie and I'll be back." He turns and advances like a rocket. The team can only watch him. Jung Jin-ju observes and says, "He still has so much energy to run that fast." Seo Do-jun keeps running, scanning the area for the Valkyrie. In no time, he finds a monster sitting in the forest, weaving a web. The monster notices Seo Do-jun and takes an aggressive stance. Seo Do-jun skillfully leaps and charges towards the monster with his sword drawn. The Valkyrie monster is quick too. Before Seo Do-jun can strike, it launches a web towards him, which he dodges, landing on the ground. In the next moment, the monster quickly attacks the ground, but Seo Do-jun nimbly escapes, causing the attack to smash into the earth at high speed. He passes by the monster, delivering a powerful slash that splits it into 3 pieces. Seo Do-jun lands as the monster falls mutilated. Seo Do-jun reveals that he used mana control technique, which is why he never gets tired and is always ready for battle. After eliminating the monster, Seo Do-jun returns to the campsite where his team is resting. Julian and Jung Jin-ju watch, as surprised as before. They think he defeated the Valkyrie so quickly and alone, and it seems he's not tired. Seo Do-jun approaches and says, "I didn't see any more monsters in the forest, so we can rest peacefully here." Soon after, everyone sets up camp and starts to organize. Some are eating, and Jung Jin-ju helps a teammate bandage a wound, while another is stretching. Meanwhile, Seo Do-jun is cooking monster meat happily, which emits a delicious aroma. The long-haired guy approaches and asks, "Can I taste that meat too, Seo Do-jun?" Seo Do-jun looks at him and replies, "Sure, why not?" The name of this long-haired guy is unknown, but for now he will be called Korean Metalhead. Back to the story, Seo Do-jun. He offers a piece of meat to the Korean Metalhead, who thanks him and sits down next to him. The Metalhead's friend, Jim, asks why you suddenly decided to eat this meat. The Metalhead replies, "Maybe the power of your dojo is increasing because of this meat." "Then I want to try it too." Jin approaches and asks, "If that's the case, can I eat it too?" The Metalhead answers, "Of course, why not? People, if there's no problem here, go ahead and try." The two start to eat while Young watches from a distance, and the guy next to her starts salivating. Seo Do-jun clarifies, "This meat has no special effect. It's just to fill your stomach, but it's good to see that you didn't hesitate to try the meat of this monster to increase your power. Come on, I'll help you a little." He then pulls out mana from his hand and begins to transfer it to the two. Although they can't see the mana, a new power starts to grow inside them as they eat the meat, which excites them. Seo Do-jun watches the two with a smile. If we can reach the core of this rift, it won't take long to close it. In the next scene, Jung Jin-ju points to a circle on the map, presumably the core of the rift. She states that although Seo Do-jun wanted to close the rift today, everyone is tired and their backpacks are full of mana stones. Therefore, it makes sense to attack tomorrow. Seo Do-jun questions Julian, "Do you agree with this plan?" Julian replies, "We are all tired, and with the black mana, the monsters have become much more powerful than before. Attacking tomorrow makes sense." Seo Do-jun listens carefully and reflects on his situation and that of his team. He reveals that the real plan was to spend as much time as possible in the rift completing rare materials, such as the heart of the blue crocodile and other materials. But with the arrival of the black mana, everything has changed, and this significant alteration is not a good sign. Apart from the black mana, there's something that's bothering me. I'm just trying to figure out what it is. Seo Do-jun takes out a bag and pours all the mana stones on the ground. He tells Julian and Jung Jin-ju, "You two go to the hotel with these materials. I'm going to clean this rift alone today." Julian and Jung Jin-ju are left speechless. The two just look at Seo Do-jun, who grabs his bag and moves forward. He says, "Go back. I'll close the rift quickly and go to the hotel." A determined gleam appears on Seo Do-jun's face. Indeed, because of this unknown risk, he didn't want to put anyone in danger, and he planned to close the rift alone. If anyone enjoys the video, don't forget to like and comment. We saw Seo Do-jun sending his team back to the hotel while he advanced to the center of the rift alone. He felt the presence of some danger there. The scene cuts to a trash-like monster attacking Seo Do-jun, which destroys him in a single blow. Zhuo intended to quickly reach the core of the rift, collecting valuable items along the way. Among those items, there were monsters that, although not valuable, were obstacles to reaching the core. He eliminated the monsters that appeared, taking any valuable item he could obtain. Meanwhile, Seo Do-jun's team was returning to the hotel. Jangandil sees Julian looking sad and asks, "Why are you in such a bad mood?" Julian responds, "Seo Do-jun's words felt like a goodbye. There was a strange tension in what he said. It seems something was profoundly troubling him." Jang and Jutsu Jerry says, "Maybe he is upset because of that. You felt it, but I trust him completely. After all, Who could resist his power? And you seem worried about him, huh? Julian shifts the conversation. It's nothing like that. I feel ashamed that, even though I'm at the same level, his power is far superior to mine, like an S-rank heroine. How can I find someone like him in this world who can match his level of power? The scene changes to Seo Dojun running with the sword in hand. As he runs, he approaches an orc and leaps, spinning the sword to cut off the monster's head in a single movement. The force of the attack is so great that it also hits another orc coming forward. Seeing their companions fall, the other orcs attack Seo Dojun together. Seo Dojun remains unshaken, as if he had a clear idea of what awaited him. An orc swung a fierce blow with its axe, but Seo Dojun dodged the attack in a single move. Using his mana, he conjures a massive fireball and then hurls it towards the monsters. The colossal fireball strikes the orcs, instantly, consuming them in flames. The bloodthirsty monsters now lay dead on the ground. Meanwhile, Seo Dojun stays focused, collecting the magical stones from the slain enemies. Seo Dojun's team had already exited the rift, carrying bags filled with materials and magical stones. Feeling regretful, they realized that even after delving deep into the rift, they could not clear it due to their weakness. Seo Dojun had to face the rift alone, leading the team towards the hotel. As he advanced, Seo Dojun eliminated the monsters with a single blow, without hesitation. However, as he penetrated deeper, the pressure of the black mana became more oppressive, increasing his restlessness. He took down another monster, ripping out its heart and storing it in a glass vial. Then, he carefully closed the vial and placed it in his bag. In this way, he continued killing monsters and collecting mana stones. Gradually, they formed a pile of mana stones, and, putting everything in the bag, he moved toward the forest, heading for the center of the rift. The scene shifts now to the control center of the Hero Association of Brazil, where everyone is watching the rift intently. Suddenly, they all feel a strange energy in the air. Stunned, they exchange glances. On the screen, some activity is visible inside the rift in Santarem. Although they can't clearly discern what's happening, they realize that a team has reached the core of the rift. Excitement takes over as they think that the rift in Santarem will soon be closed, and they start shouting enthusiastically, "Close it quickly! Close the rift!" The team leader questions which team entered that rift. Someone replies, "The Korean team, members of the Skillflower Guild." An older lady interjects, "They left the rift 10 minutes ago," she confirms. The leader and everyone else are confused. If the guild has exited, then who is now heading toward the core of the rift? The scene returns to inside the rift, where two-headed orc monsters present themselves to Seo Dojun, emanating a powerful dark aura. Seo Dojun observes the monster and reflects. The black mana caused this rapid evolution in the orc. The orc prepares to crush him with a massive leg, but Seo Dojun dodges at the last second. His gaze fixes on a dark vortex behind the giant, believing it to be the energy core of the rift. With this in mind, he draws his sword, infusing it with mana, determined, "Let's close this rift now." The monster prepares to attack, raising its hands over its dojon. At this critical moment, Seo Dojun imbues his sword with fire mana, while the orc also energizes its attack, increasing its strength and speed. Faced with the tense situation, he activates the second form of the Verdian family sword. We return to that scene where Sudojun, all furious, faces a two-headed monster with his sword. Of course, when he infuses fire mana into the blade, the beast, already ultra enraged, activates its dark mana as well, making everything even crazier. In that tense moment, he decides to use the second sword of the Vandane family. His sword shines with a burning fire, and the monster notices, yelling truths with a scream of hate. It lunges in with a devastating attack. The sword strikes the beast's shoulder. The monster tries to block with its hand, but it's too late. It gets seriously hurt. The pain makes it scream, intensifying the scene even more. Sudojun is toying with this creature. Dude, if he wanted to, he could finish it off with a single blow. The guy smiles, taunting the monster as he says, "Hey, bald guy, having fun? This is just the beginning," and he launches into an even fiercer attack. The sword pierces the monster's chest, splitting it in half. Honestly, it was so fast that the beast didn't even have time to react, but its scream follows right after. But hold on, there's more. The monster tries to attack Sudojun again, but our hero simply leaps, escaping the charge. In midair, he says, "This isn't working out, brother. Let's end this quickly." He uses a special form of the second sword, the magical wave slash. The sword splits into several, and each one unleashes a heavy attack. Well, that power is surreal. The beast gets scared and jumps to escape, but the wave of attacks creates a ruckus on the ground, mercilessly. The trees around are cut like paper. The monster thinks it's safe, but Sudojun goes in and strikes its leg with next-level speed. Then, with a single blow, the foot is severed from the body. The monster screams again. Before it can react, Sudojun begins a shower of attacks. Each hit turns the monster's body into pulp. It's grotesque. Pieces of it are falling. Man, Sudojun lands while the remains of the monster scatter across the ground. He sheaths the sword and comments to himself, "I'm going to encounter more and more monsters, even crazier ones here in Brazil. And for now, I need to close this rift." Looking closely, he notices that you still haven't left a like. Are you kidding me, brother? All right, I'll keep going, brother, but I'm waiting for your like, right? You're not messing around, are you? No. Then I stopped. He notices that the rift's core looks strange. The dark mana there wasn't from the rift itself. Something odd for a low-level rift. He starts saying that someone injected dark mana into the core of this rift. Who could it be? Only high-level monsters like Lamote, Royer, and Lash Emperor could do something like that. But if it were them, there should have been a visible impact on the people, like everyone turning into zombies. But that didn't happen. In other words, someone is behind all this. You can't conclude anything without discovering the real cause of this madness. And if someone is indeed messing with this, it will be a problem for the other rifts as well. So first, it's time to eliminate this one. Then he executes an attack that would make anyone drop their jaw. A powerful charge. Cracks appear on the core. In the next moment, everything disintegrates. What he didn't know was that it was necessary to discover the truth now. The scene shifts to the headquarters in Brazil, where he is reading the reports. Upon seeing what is written, his eyes go wide. How is this possible? A team from 3 countries made up of S-rank heroes and some A ranks has disappeared. Only one S-rank hero survived, and you already know who it is. The badass from Korea, Park Ryo. The headquarters leader reflects, thinking deeply. He is contemplating the absurdity of that situation. A strong team and only one escaped. This is pretty sinister. Meanwhile, that team led by Young Anju cleaned up the rift all on their own and without getting hurt. Reports from other teams indicate that they couldn't do the same. The leader takes a deep breath and thinks, an S-rank hero should make a difference here. But only the Korean team is managing to close the rifts. He turns and says, calm down. It's not right to say that it was only Miss Jun Isi. Ryo who did this, right? Then he asks, was the Santarem rift closed by Junryo's team? He quickly reads and is astonished. Everyone had left before the closing. How did this happen? He asks the assistant. Where is Miss Junryo now? And the assistant replies, sir, they are on their way to headquarters. That leader immediately gives the signal. As soon as they arrive, schedule the meeting for me. I want to talk to them right now. A little later, the scene shifts to a beautiful but completely abandoned place. Also with those wooden houses falling apart around and a tranquil stream in the middle. The atmosphere is just too beautiful, you know? It is in this setting that our hero 2-1 appears. The guy approaches the stream holding a bag in his hand, all focused. I'm in another rift now, and it seems like the core is right here, beneath this stream. He murmurs, curious, wanting to find out what mischief they are hiding here this time. With courage, he steps into the water. Next, we see the leader of the Brazilian Association, who looks more tense than a guitar string, knowing that only Dojin handled a rift in Santarem alone. He turns to Jurinho and incredulously asks, how can one person close this rift? Jurinho, firm and strong, replies, that's right, boss. 2-1 is such a powerful guy that he can handle any rift alone just fine. The leader still can't believe it. Are you serious that you want me to swallow this story? Junyo, calm down, just let it go. Look, if it weren't for 2-1 being here with us, we would be cursed just like the other S-class heroes. The boss of Brazil reflects for a moment and retorts, Juninho, everything you told me about your 2-1 and this black mana thing stays between us, okay? But tell me how one guy can clean a rift where thousands of S heroes have already died. Juom said that if it weren't for your Dojin, we would be screwed, man. The leader listens with suspicion and says, a great power? That's superhero stuff, you know? How can only one guy be capable of dealing with something like this? Dojin then emphasizes, believe it or not, but the power of your Dojin is surreal, way above the norm. Although still in doubt, the leader remembers the reports he received from me. If most of the rifts around here are being closed, and there was only black mana, that tells me there might be some connection. Jurinho says, could be, but stay alert, okay? The danger level is already through the roof, and any viral power shift can cause some trouble. And then he says, I need to clarify a few points before moving on. He picks up the phone and gives orders. All the rifts appearing in Brazil need to be reassessed, and I need the report right away. The boss just wanted to confirm the changes that happened and find out if everyone was connected to black mana. As soon as that meeting ends, Junior leaves the office and makes a call to Netwang, who apparently is the head of the Heroes Association in Korea, and keeps an eye on everything going on. After she drops the bomb, Netwang listens to everything and says, so black mana is what's making the monsters evolve, and his power is rising, right? She asks if anything related to dark mana has happened in the Korean rifts. Netwang replies that so far nothing has occurred, but they always keep monitoring everything to avoid being caught off guard by whatever comes. Upon hanging up, Junior is left thoughtful and worried. What if a boss-level monster transforms because of black mana? This trouble is going to be insane, man. Meanwhile, Netwang is on the same wavelength thinking, we need to be ready before the problems arrive, otherwise I don't even want to see the size of this bomb that could blow up. And so the scene shifts to Junior, who is already on River Lake Island and is crawling towards the river. Once in the water, Juom warns that rifts of this type, with a submerged core, are a trap because the water makes breathing difficult, which ultimately leaves the creature to die. He starts to tell tell about a badass hero, Ivan Rupert, from New Zealand. The guy is tough in underwater battles, clearing rifts and asking for high pay as well. This is all because he has a skill that allows him to breathe underwater. With that, our crazy guy Dois is already diving into the river, feeling deep in the water. With everything submerged, he starts to feel that dark mana taking over the place and says, "I'm feeling this." The dark mana is in the whole river. Then he dives and quickly heads for the core of the rift, but as he goes down, the dark mana seems dense. And deep down, various aquatic creatures begin to surround him. But for now, there's no attack. Dojin realizes that the water, due to that dark mana, is very dense, and the deeper he goes, the more pressure is building up. He thinks he needs to close this rift soon, and says so. He creates a mana shield around himself and descends quickly to the bottom of the river. But then, suddenly, the sea monster strikes. Dojin sees it and dodges at the last second. The creature flies past, but there's already a second attack up its sleeve. Thinking he's escaped, the crazy one is grabbed and squeezed with all its might, but for him, that doesn't change anything. This is the monster Arsenide. He amplifies the mana shield and purifies the dark mana around him, saying, "Thanks, dark mana." Instantly, Dojin releases a colossal pressure of mana, stretching the monster. But he soon senses another danger. A swarm of ancient aquatic creatures like fish approaches, devouring the remnants of the destroyed monsters. But they aren't satisfied. A little further ahead, he sees those fish so still, staring fixedly at him. In the next instant, they charge towards him, attacking mercilessly. He thinks, if Ivan Rupert were here, I bet he'd be freaking out right now. And with that, he activates the shield again and speeds through the monsters. He knows that fighting continuously would be a waste of time. Now, all he needs to do is reach the rift's core quickly and shut everything down. So, true to his nature, Dojin continues his journey, defeating every monster that appears before him. He attacks without mercy or pity. Man, his speed in the water is the same as on land. Bizarre, right? Along the way, he was handling aquatic monsters. Occasionally, a giant octopus would show up. At other times, a cheeky shark. Man, and what are you thinking? Just imagine, there are sharks in the river. Chill out, man, those sharks live there. In fact, there are some rivers in Brazil that have sharks. As Dojin proceeded, it seemed like the creatures were getting crazier and crazier. His defense didn't stop. Everything was calm until, boom, he found himself surrounded by a troop of monsters. If it were anyone else in his place, they would have lost it. But the way he looked at all of that, he burst out laughing. Fighting one by one is really boring. He was just wasting time. So, out of nowhere, he sped up and cut through the path between the monsters, aiming straight for the core of the rift. The place was so dark that you could feel the tension in the air. In the middle of the darkness, something shone as if it were screaming, "Come see me!" And he, all curious, approached and came face to face with a strange fish. It had golden and purple eyes, and instead of swimming, the creature was lying on the ground. Dojo started to get curious and said, "Wait a minute, could this be the same monster?" History repeats itself. Rosen, not wasting any time, also headed for the nucleus underwater, and guess what? The shine again. Looking closer, he found the same fish with golden and purple eyes, completely flattened at the bottom of the river. And Dojo didn't miss the joke, laughed and said, "Dude, who would have thought I'd find this monster here? Check it out, this so-called Acromos looks chill, but in reality it's super cunning, a walking danger." Dojin remembered his past universe of heroes who became legends. All of them, before becoming famous, had to capture that Acromos creature. His eyes shone as if he had found a treasure. Dojin thought, am I going to let this chance slip away? No way. But as he got closer to the fish, the creature opened its mouth. And out of nowhere, a dark vortex began to grow inside it, sucking everything around. A black hole, you know? So he had to hold on tight to the ground, using all his strength not to be pulled in. He explained, "This monster has no natural enemies because when attacked, it simply opens its mouth and devours everything." He was close to the fish, struggling not to be sucked in. And there his internal struggle was, what matters more, defeating this monster or taking advantage? Because he knew that stealing its power would be the play. This big fish had the ability to create a subspace to store whatever it wanted, but for that, it had to be completely full. 2. 1. Feeling the pressure, he thought, if this continues, I'm not gonna hold on. What can I do? He needed to fill that vortex with his own mana, so he started releasing mana from his body. His fire mana was so intense that it almost burned the bottom of the water. Fish that got close to his mana shattered. Dojin continued to release mana, but the situation was looking grim for the creature. If this keeps up, I won't last long. And that's when he decided to send even more mana to the monster, which seemed to be devouring itself inside the vortex. Time passed, and look, Dojin began to bleed from his nose. He covered it with his hand and groaned, thinking his body was at its limit. And if he didn't get out soon, it was over for him. Then he started to absorb the dark mana around and send it to the hole after purifying it. The scene cuts to the outside of the river, which looked desolate and calm, and out of nowhere, an explosion, jets of water bursting everywhere. From the depths of the river emerged the same fish monster, with dark mana flowing out of it, closely followed by Dojin, who also emerged from the water chasing that creature. The black energy swirled in Dojin's hands like a crazy circle. The whole deal was that he had injected so much mana into that space that the monster couldn't take it, and the energy exploded underwater, breaking its connection with the vortex. Seizing the chance, Dojin went for it and managed to steal the beast's ability. After days of hard work, he finally took possession of that subspace ability. Now he could use that thing whenever he wanted, but in a different way. Instead of trapping and killing, he would use it as a storage room. Look, it might be the same ability you see in cultivation mangas, you know? It's like inventory, got it? After stealing this ability from the creature, Dojin fell into the water and tranquility returned to reign, as if nothing had happened. Hours passed, and the guy didn't leave the water. Then the scene cuts to another place where the landscape was lush and the birds flew high happily. After a while, the flock of birds gathered into a group and started looking at something curious, as if they wanted to understand what it was. And that was the scene. After a while, all those birds gathered into a flock and started looking at something with great curiosity, as if they wanted to figure out what it was. But lo and behold, those birds were actually eyeing our fierce Seo Dojun, who was there passed out and drenched in water. That very same guy, unconscious, sneezed so hard that the feathered crowd got startled and flew away like mad. Then one of them finally woke up, opened his eyes and shook himself awake. That was all. He had, of course. He was completely soaked. The guy couldn't accept fainting in a fight like that. He got up, looked at his hands and was thinking, man, how did I end up fainting like this? That's when he noticed that his muscles were much stronger now. He stretched his arm and felt his muscle shield more swollen than a balloon. And that's not all. He could now master spa his techniques in open space at will. Seo Dojun was very happy, already imagining the rewards of his hard work. The dude had his bag and sword placed in that space and let out a shout of joy. It was, without a doubt, his second greatest achievement in this new world. He laughed, saying, "And I just hope I don't find anything better in this rift." You see? Then the scene cuts, and we are taken to the Korean Hero Association inside the Netwang building. The founder of that association and his secretary, Shang, were there. Shang began to summarize the current situation, mentioning that many heroes from various parts of the world had gone down in the Brazil Rift mission. Nate Wang, clearly upset, said that many talented heroes had been lost in this whole mess. "We can't lose another soul in this game," he shouted vehemently. The secretary also mentioned that all these problems were occurring in some specific fissures, and for some reason, they were only increasing. And Netwang proudly emphasized that Seo Dojin, even in this crazy vibe, managed to clear a rift by himself. He realized that the power he estimated over Seo Dojun had been surpassed, or the guy was monstrously stronger. That secretary brought the attention of the crowd back. Since the Korean team entered that rift in Brazil, the fame has skyrocketed both for Korea and for the name Seo Dojun. He comments on the first incident with Ryuma Takashi, where Dojun was the only one who fought hard. That gossip is still trending on social media, but prior to that, over in the UK rift, Rangu discovered the creature's weak points, starting to shine and gain fame. It's a true honor for the Korean heroes to make their mark this way in the world. But Netwang cuts in, asking the secretary, "So how's the situation in Korea? Any movements over there?" The secretary replies that in South Korean territories, everything's calm, nothing new for now. The changes happening seem to be only in isolated areas. Neto Wang agrees and asks them to keep an eye on the Eastern Rift. There's no room for mistakes there. The secretary assures him that he will keep a keen lookout. All's good. At the end of the meeting, Netwang jokingly says, "Man, this Doi Sum showed he's not just anyone." The atmosphere in the room was relaxed when suddenly the head of Brazil breaks the silence. "How can you demand so much? This is outrageous." Doi Sum doesn't miss a chance and retorts, "Wow, it's really tough, huh? If that's the case, it makes no sense for me to stay here. So, I'm leaving." He gets up and starts to walk out, but the head of the Heroes Association immediately tries to hold him back. "You are an S-rank hero, Dojin. Help prevent dangers that threaten our citizens." Dojin, a bit pissed but composed, responds, "I've already closed 2 fissures, buddy. What more do you expect from me?" He continues, "Oh, you could send your S-class heroes and the Brazilians to clean up your own house, right?" The chief, speechless, retreats into the corner. The secretary, trying to lift the mood, mentions that all those fissures 500 kilometers from Santarem are going out of control. The chief realizes that everything is calling for help, and if this continues, the monsters are definitely going to burst out of those rifts, and Brazil will be doomed. Everyone on Team Tarlin exchanged glances, already understanding that the chief just wanted to try to redeem himself, and in the moment, Junior backs the Brazilian chief up by saying, "If that's the story, only one path remains." She approaches the boss and says, "Have the humility to respond to what your dojo asked for in the name of Brazil's safety." And so yet another twist unfolds in the air. Joam's demands weren't absurd. absurd. Sensing the mess, João makes a joke, knowing that the head of Brazil is caught in the fire he started himself, right? And because of that, he ends up yielding, telling Dojum that the government will meet all his demands and will release $50 million for each hostage he frees. Upon hearing all this, Dojum shines and says, "If you had agreed from the start, you wouldn't have said so much nonsense. So, that's it. Transfer $100 million to me for the 2 hostages I've already released." Hearing Dojum's words, João comments that Dojum must look like a bounty hunter to everyone, taking advantage of the situation and asking for more money, but it's not quite like that. Dojum is facing fierce monsters to climb the ranks, and for him, this money is worthless. To make matters worse, the Brazilian government does not intend to reveal this money demand to preserve its honor. If this leaks, Dojum won't care. He'll just laugh. João, thinking about all this, couldn't hold back his laughter while Jang was there observing that scene like, what's going on with him? In the meantime, Dojum closes his eyes and recalls the promise he made to the real Dojum. He gets excited at the thought of having enough money to take care of his family and buy a safe house for them first. Now the scene shifts. At the grandmother and sister's house, they watch the news about Dojum on TV. One, all cheerful, seeing her brother on screen, and on the TV this bombshell headline, "The Brazilian government accepted all of Dojum's demands." After a while, Dojum signs a contract with the Brazilian government that will ensure neither he nor the government will go back on what was agreed. Meanwhile, Congo Pew is furious about Dojum's success, trying to calm down with wine, as if that would solve anything. On the other side, here in Rio, the second S-rank hero from Korea is still recovering in the hospital. A few days later, we see the bodies of the fallen heroes being placed in coffins and taken on a ship. A crowd gathered to bid farewell to those brave heroes who gave their lives for the safety of the country. Dojun connected with this situation as he remembered witnessing them dying before his eyes in a previous life. So, if you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and leave a comment here, my friend. And don't forget to share the video, because it takes a lot of work, you know? Time flies. And everyone is back at the hotel, gathered around a table during a meal. Then, Young asks her Dojun what the plan is, if there will be a group hunt. But Dojun is there pondering his ideas without answering. She insists, "Dojun, are you listening to me, or is your mind somewhere else?" He then reveals, thinking about how they can profit more, and proposes that while he cleans one rift alone, Jang Anju and his team deal with another rift, where there are no powerful monsters. After Dojun cleans the first rift, he will head to the central part to close everything down. In the meantime, everyone, along with Jang Anju, will grab the loot from the second rift, thus managing to close 3 rifts in one day and get some good loot. Just so you know, rift means fisher, okay? Jang picks up on Dojun's plan even before he finishes, which makes him praise her sharp mind, and we are left with the promise that the loot from the rifts they close together will be shared. Hearing this, the team cheers with excitement. Dojun, narrowing his eyes, says, "Don't wander too far into the rift until I get there. I've got your back, you know?" Doi feels embarrassed, and Dojun responds, "So the rank S heroine can handle this, right, Doi?" All flustered, she exclaims, "Of course I can handle anything." The group starts talking about the two going out together, and Dojun warns, "Let's head for the next rift right after this meal." Everyone agrees. As soon as he finishes eating, Seo Dojun sets out to clean that rift, while the scene shifts to a forest. He is approaching the core of the rift, almost there. Suddenly, he feels something, turns, and comes face to face with a cyclops swinging its fists. But it's Dojun. He doesn't flinch. With a smile on his face, he says, "Ah, finally, my first target." And he rushes towards this cyclops with absurd speed, getting ready to attack. The creature has no idea where its opponent has gone. Dojun, with that adrenaline pumping, shouts, "Let's go! It's time to make some money!" And just like that, a cyclops lunges at Dojun in a lightning-fast attack. But the crazy guy isn't intimidated and exclaims, "Finally, my first target!" The relaxed scene shows the world spinning. The beast stares into the forest and hears the sounds of the fight. Everyone runs away in terror at the situation. If not for Dojun landing a brutal punch on the monster, it would be equivalent to total destruction. The punch is so powerful that it seems half of the Cyclops' face has gone down the drain. But hold on, the beast isn't going to die that easily. The wound bleeds, but it doesn't. Take the monster down immediately. It steps back, pondering what happened. The hit landed, but the Cyclops is still alive, and the fight continues. Up ahead, sensing Zubi's fear and witnessing the brawl, Dojun takes a moment. He's already realizing that this beast is much stronger than it seems, and that makes him crack a slight smile. Rose, for his part, realizes that this monster is the perfect target to test his new ability. The Cyclops, terrified, tries to flee desperately, but before it can, Dojun appears in front of it with absurd speed and delivers a heavy kick. The kick connects with all its force to the Cyclops' face, breaking teeth and causing the monster to bleed. And even after 2 to incredibly powerful attacks, this creature doesn't die. On the contrary, it enters full rage mode. The monster's body is already red with fury, and Rosen, noticing this change, sees that now the beast is more aggressive. Quickly, he turns and unleashes his new water explosion power. Dojin had realized that the crazy guy wasn't going to bail, so it was time to unleash this new ability. The Cyclops' attack heads towards the water vortex, causing great confusion in the creature's vision. And suddenly, another vortex. Water appears behind the monster, hitting its head squarely. Dojin realizes that this skill doesn't fit very well with his fighting style because it consumes an absurd amount of energy. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the Hero Association of Brazil, the news that the rift was closed arrives from Supertão. And guess what? That was the same rift that Dojin had closed. He wasn't happy about it at all. He was a bit surprised. It was almost a battlefield for having sealed a huge fissure in just 8 hours. So, he messages the secretary and asks if the money has been transferred to Dojim's account. The secretary confirms that yes, $50 million were already in the crazy guy's account. The president, visibly worried, comments that if this keeps up, he might lose everything soon. And seeing the president so anxious, the secretary suggests holding back some payments to Dojim. But the president, with a firm look, shoots straight that delaying the money would have Dojim take off from Brazil before sealing the rifts, meaning he'd leave without wasting time. He orders the assistant to gather all the heroes on Brazilian soil to form a new special team. And what's the objective? Compete with Dojim, of course, to see who can close the most rifts first. The priority now was to send the message to Dojim. The call the president made was to Kenge, and the worst part was that he was chilling at his hotel, passing the time. Pure joy rolled over him when he read the president's email, thinking that finally things were changing. In the email, the Brazilian government announced that it was forming a new elite team of S-level heroes, all ready to hunt rifts together. Each closed rift would yield $10 million to be divided among everyone. Even though there would be a larger team, the amount of money would be smaller for each one, but at least safety would be guaranteed, avoiding deaths in the rifts. But then, Kangi didn't really like the idea of having to work with that fool Dojim. What a lame situation, right? But when he asked, the assistant quickly replied that Dojim's name didn't even appear on that group mission. He checks the list of names and falls out of his chair. Neither Dojim nor the others from Yang and Zhang Anju's team were scheduled. Total confusion. The scene then cuts to Dojim, who has a big grin on his face seeing that notification about 50 million in his account. He and Ion were exchanging ideas about how things were going at the association, and the team was doing their job right. The money from the deal was already in hand. 2-1 confirms that yes, but warns that it's tough. He formed an elite squad with all available heroes to seal the rifts before he does. The association staff even found a way to save costs, but the pressure is high. And On says they are trying to close a bunch of racetracks before Dojim arrives, without letting him get his hands dirty. Now Dojim had shifted his focus. He used to want money. Now he just wants to show who's in charge, sealing all the rifts first. Meanwhile, the energy in Dojim's team is flowing well. The guy is encouraging competitiveness to make the work productive. And in the midst of this, someone is monitoring the rifts, recording who sealed each one. Number 03 was sealed, solely by Dojim at 9:50, while his team was also finishing another rift. Crazy, as soon as he launched his attack, the boss of the rift was sliced in half with a single strike. The guys were a bit stunned. Dojim looked like a true monster. Now, the golden aura emanating from his eyes was surreal, man. Then, as the days went by, the Hero Association folks were worn out. Their eyes were sunken, and their energy was down, creating a demotivating atmosphere. They were swapping drinks, everyone looking like zombies with all the tasks piled up. With this race between 2-1 and the elite team, the rifts crowded with dark monsters were being dealt with such tranquility that the normals hardly got any attention. The association's team had to be on top of it 24 hours to avoid surprises. 2 figures from the association were chatting while working comfortably. Then, finally, a last rift was closed, leading to a state of total surprise. And so, 2-1 and his team smashed it, sealing more rifts than everyone else. With that, the last rift, filled with dark creatures, was completed. After closing that rift in Zone B16, a wave of joy swept over everyone at the Hero Association of Brazil. A general atmosphere of happiness engulfed the place, and everyone was swept away by tears of relief. The danger lurking around the rifts had finally dissipated. Of course, there were still many rifts open, but now it was the norm, and the government could handle it just fine. And that's what the secretary rushed to inform the president, revealing that everything within a 500-kilometer radius of Centauri was in order. The president let out a sigh of relief, grateful, already knowing that Brazil's greatest threat had been contained. The excited secretary added the cherry on top. "We closed it all, Chief. Only the zombies were sealed." The president, proud, thanked everyone for their hard work. Finally, the struggle was bearing fruit. He almost left, but but paused to reflect for a moment, as if he was thinking of something more. The president commented that there were still some rifts open, but at least that advancement was already a great progress. The secretary was like, "What do you mean by that?" But the guy seemed to have entered a black hole of plans, completely oblivious to that situation. Instead of giving a direct answer, he suggested you should leave a like on the video. "My brother, you've come this far and haven't liked it. Don't mess with me, right?" Then he suggested throwing a party for the staff who had worked so hard. The scene then shifts to the hotel where the meats were being grilled and everyone was enjoying the celebration. There were Kanggu, Pew, and others. Everyone was happy, chatting, and reminiscing about past troubles. Dojum, Join, and Joan-Diu were there, all dressed to impress. That vibe was high, you know? But some thoughts still lingered in the president's mind. Noticing the lively conversation, he decided to join in and start a chat. Junho and Ju cut straight to the chase and said everyone wanted to go home. Everyone was thinking about heading back, but the president had his eyes fixed on Dojin. He didn't even care if the other heroes from Korea had gone first. Trying to convince them, he said that there were still many fissures open in Brazil and that it was their turn to take care of closing that stuff. If they hesitated, the mission would never end. Zhuo and Ju reminded the president that they had always taken care of the rifts in Santarem since the beginning. So with all the heavier rifts already sealed, it made no sense to continue in the territory. The president got straight to the point and declared that, at the very least, Mr. Dojum should stay for this mission. Ju and Ju realized that, in reality, the president always wanted Dojum for himself, without giving credit to others. Picking up on the vibes, Zhuo and Ju turned to Dojo and asked him what he wanted. Shortly after, the president pulled Dojo aside, clearly wanting a somewhat private conversation, you know? Zhuo and Ju had already caught on to the president's intentions, but Dojo's mind was still a mystery. Filled with anticipation, Zhuo and Ju asked Juju if she thought Dojum would stay or go back to Korea. Juju believed he would go back since he had made a nice sum of money and needed to find some materials, like the heart of a blue alligator. Her somewhat discouraging answer left Ju and Ju with a nagging suspicion. It seemed like she didn't want Doju to leave. Then, in a conversation going on between Dojum and the president, Dojum showed that he was running low on patience for the offers being made. He just listened, and his face clearly indicated that the decision to return was already on his mind. When he finally rejected the ideas and left, the president was left downcast. When Dojum made a move to exit, he ran into an incredible model. He started chatting her up, and Zhuo and Ju wasted no time telling Zhuo and Ju that she should go over there. They could see something was happening between the two. Zhuo and Ju were confused and asked, "But why would I flirt with him at a party full of people?" Junior took this seriously, saying that, come on, any guy in the presence of the hot girl wouldn't just stand still, right? At first, Junior didn't get it, but soon her insecurity showed up. With courage, she started to approach and began to catch snippets of the conversation, and the story continued to unfold. Meanwhile, Kaso wanted to make a proposal to Dam Zhuom, which seemed like a great gift. Junho's mind started to spin, filled with questions about what was really going on between them and if all that chemistry was hinting at a little couple forming. In the conversation between Dojum and the couple, it was already moving towards the end. As they walked away, the couple added, "I'll wait for your decision, you can call me whenever you want." Dojum, with a simple, "Oh, all right, I'll think about it and let you know," was left on his emotional roller coaster. He wondered what the real connection between the two was. Looking at them, he noticed that Dojum had a rather neutral expression, while the couple was shining like a goddess, leaving his head even more confused. Taking a glance, Ju focused back on Dojum, who was returning towards the couple. Then he spoke, "Since we're here, I wanted to ask you a favor." The couple, all eager, said they were all ears and that it wasn't just any request. Dojum wanted an invitation to gold marketing this year. Ju had a nagging feeling, thinking about what he could want from that event, known for being the biggest auction in the world in Las Vegas. The couple beamed and agreed to help Ju, but with a rather bizarre condition. She asked him to show up at her house a week before the auction. His mind wouldn't stop racing. He thought the couple might be interested in a different way. Meanwhile, he seemed completely lost in thought, while the couple acted calmly, waiting for his response. Dojum stood there like a robot waiting for an update. The tension in the air was palpable, swirling around without much idea of what to do. As the atmosphere grew heavier by the second, one could feel his anticipation. He needed to decide quickly. The couple, sensing that Ju looked like someone who just lost at a video game, realized that her presence was leaving Dojum even more confused. So, like a lady who knows when to give space, she stepped back a little and announced that she was still waiting for his answer. Then came the surreal part. Out of the blue, she sent Dojum a VIP invitation to gold marketing via cell phone, much fancier than any simple invitation. Dojum was like, "Huh, what's this, bro? Am I that famous?" He looked at the cell phone, unsure whether to go or cry at the couple's bold gesture. Meanwhile, Ju, lost in this numbers exchange story, was thinking about how they swapped information. Amid this tense atmosphere, another character appeared in the conversation with a rather peculiar style. Kanga, the master of ironies, showed up throwing a dubious compliment.
Saying it was incredible to see two beauties together, the Korean and the American, and as if on a mission to provoke, he sends to Dojum, "Dude, it looks like you're surrounded by two super talents. You think you're the king of the playground,
happened, huh? Dojum was already used to this guy's antics, just giving a look that said he had seen it 1,000 times, always looking for trouble. He pointed at Takashi, who was still all bandaged up, and said, "Don't you think you have an old friend to meet?" The tension in the room was palpable, my friend. This guy was always playing with fire, and the situation felt like it was about to explode at any moment. The three, despite the laughter, began to think about Kang's true intentions, as the atmosphere was foul and reeked of trouble. He also noticed Takashi, who appeared out of nowhere. He had a fury in his eyes that would set anyone's hair on end. Everyone around was making comments about the trouble that was about to break out. Join and the couple exchanged glances, wondering, what's going on here? Join's thought was that Takashi had been released from the hospital. The kid might have gotten out, but his intentions seemed pretty dark. The president, who had been watching the movement, was startled to see Takashi there. The president thought to himself, I had already put the pieces together. I knew that this Takashi wouldn't miss the chance to cause chaos. That's why I didn't invite him to this gig. With Takashi staring at Dojum as if he wanted to blow everything up, the atmosphere was charged. After an eternity of silence, he finally broke the ice with a provocative line. Finally together again, Dojum cut in. Looks like you've recovered well. And Takashi, with a sarcastic grin, added, Sure, thanks for the fight, I learned a lot. It was quite an experience. Dojum, taken by surprise by the response, tried not to prolong that conversation too much. Good to hear that everything was a good experience for you. At that moment, the president, already nervous, approached Takashi. He tried to get a read on the situation, saying, Hero Takashi, it's great to see you recovered. He, with a fire in his head, pulled Takashi to a corner and said, I didn't call you because I was worried about your health, but seeing you well eases my mind. Kang, noticing that the president, it could mess up his plans, he got irritated and thought, this guy is good, but he won't out-of-tune my provocation. He focused on Takashi again, saying, you need to take care of yourself now after getting hit by Jun. You're more broken than a phone that fell from the 15th floor. My brother, from the box upon hearing this, started to get restless, his anger rising like boiling water. Damn. President Jun and Quinsel, watching everything from a corner, realized that Kangero was really setting fire to the playground. Then it all got even crazier when, suddenly, Jun, with that destabilizing calm, poked Takashi. Hey, Takashi, you know what Iatsusa is, right? Jun's presence felt like another beat, like a rhythm that no one expected. Everyone was intrigued by that question, especially Kangwei and Pyu, who couldn't understand anything about this dynamic. Meanwhile, Juo and Kisu were completely lost, surprised at how Jun was ruining the mood. Meanwhile, Takashi, completely beside himself, turned to Dojo and shouted desperately, What did you say? Repeat that, please! And, without any fear, Dojo replied firmly, Accuse! It's a joke, and you're worth nothing in this world. Rosen's reaction was brutal, and everyone was in shock. Damn, my brother, why did that guy get himself into this? Kangaroo Pyu, for his part, seemed to have bugged out, and to complete the drama, pressure fell on Kangaroo Pyu, who was completely lost, not knowing how to defend himself. That tension rose. Takashi, filled with rage, shot a deadly glance at Kangero Pyu. Takashi's eyes shone with anger, and Kangero Pyu sensed that the situation was heading for a sinister turn. Kangero Pyu could only think about how weird Takashi was acting. Then, without thinking twice, Takashi pulled out his phone and started playing a recording. The revelation was a total shock. That recording showed him and Kangero Pyu exchanging ideas. When the audio started, an awkward silence took over. The place and everyone froze. In that tape, my friend, Kangero Pyu was discussing eliminating Jun on a mission in Brazil, leaving everyone in a state of shock. That recording continued, and Takashi mentioned taking Dojum to one place and finish it with the response of Kangweo, Pyu, haha. He said that wherever he went, it was calm. And look, to make matters worse, he made a grotesque comment, saying that after eliminating Dojum, he wanted to have fun with the girls like Gloria or Hanjorinho. These words left Gloria and João Arthur Duardos never imagining they would hear something so absurd about them. When the recording ended, everyone turned their gazes to Kangeo, who thought everything was under control. João and Gloria, so shocked, couldn't even open their mouths. The scene then shifts to Dojum, who had a sinister look and was chuckling, praising the lynx eyes. What was really going on? The guy hypnotized Takashi and took the situation into his own hands. With the lynx eyes, Takashi was completely under Dojun's influence. Dojun just wanted Takashi to reveal his dark intentions in front of everyone, and he thought, Kangwei, worst of all, you messed with the wrong guy. From here on, I'm going to torture you until you can't take it anymore. Kangwei, the turkey, in total shock, felt the heavy eyes on him. Everyone's words and jokes were a bullseye, and he felt exposed. The image of superiority he had built over the years began to crumble, but soon this story turned into insane laughter. He fired, my friend, you messed everything up. Takashi, turning to Takashi, began to unleash his power, filled with rage. The guy is tough too, you know? But Takashi, not wanting to fall behind, also unleashed his aura. Then, Kangwepyu said, I think you messed up enough. With that, he charged at Takashi, landing a direct punch to his chest. It was a brutal blow, leaving Takashi hurt. My brother, a bit of blood began to trickle from his chest and mouth as well. After the attack, Kangweopi began began to run for the exit. The president ordered soldiers to stop him, but Kangweopi, being a Class S, was much quicker. At that moment, Zhuang, who was back there, shouted for Dojum to get the guy, but got frustrated when he noticed that Dojum wasn't following Kangoo. He was just watching everything with a sly smile. In reality, he had other plans in mind that night. And throughout the day, the news aired. The newspapers and TV channels trumpeted the image of Kangepyu and the chaos from the previous night. This sparked quite a bit of gossip about what had happened in Korea and Japan. People started feeling insecure about being a Class S hero in action. Thus, the press was desperate, begging Netwang to give an explanation and clarify what had happened. From that moment, that event became the biggest sensation in the news, with everyone speculating about what went on between Kangeropyu and Takashi. Then, out of nowhere, a vase of flowers came crashing down in front of the viewers watching the news on TV. And guess what? It was Dojum's stepmother, Angie Ri, who was furious, raining hate down on Kange. Her face started to turn red with rage, and as she raged, she clenched her jaw like a pit bull and unleashed a torrent of curses on Kang and Pyu. Thief Kangero Pyu had failed in all his missions. Fueled by fury, she lunged at the flower, vases with a golf club, destroying everything around her. The manager who was there, only observing the scene, was in panic at Hongo Enju's explosion of rage. He thought that with all that destruction going on, it was better not to assert himself in the middle of that fury. Meanwhile, Hongo Enju continued smashing the TV on the wall, along with the other remnants of the vases. After some time, her anger began to dissipate a bit. She flopped onto the couch to light a cigarette and asked the manager if there were any updates on that bum Kangero Pyu. The manager told her straight, Kangero Pyu, that guy is on the run, no sign of him. The World Alliance of Heroes is looking for him, trying to find him everywhere, and Hongo Enju kept spitting her venom. It would be better if that Kangaroo Pyu got caught and disappeared for good while he's still on the run. She then threw a question at the manager. Did you sort everything out that needed sorting? The manager replied, somewhat trembling. I got rid of all the evidence you wanted, and that could also cause problems for you. I eliminated all transactions made with Kangaroo Pyu, and also deleted all CCTV footage of you two together, along with all the minor evidence. Then the manager, visibly terrified, asked even more. Ah, there, my lady, is something else bothering you? I barged in without saying anything, and your phone unloaded on the manager. He picked up the cell phone, totally shocked, and the manager said, this is my phone. Then, nervous and anxious, Hong Renju started biting her nails. This is my personal cell phone, and only my family has this number. On the outside, everything seems calm, but take a look at the messages that came in. The manager turned on the screen, and the most recent message said, if Han Hanju doesn't meet all the demands that damned guy wants, he will expose everything he knows about you to everyone. The truth is, Hong Renju was being blackmailed. Now, the name wasn't revealed, but it was pretty clear it was that Kangwei and Pyu. The manager confirmed, this number definitely belongs to Kangwei and Pyu. Now what does he want from us? He shouted at Hong Renju, already nervous and full of anxiety. Are you getting it? If we stay connected to this guy, we'll soon be in deep trouble, right? Desperate, she poured the flower powder she had next to her on the table. The manager, rolling up his sleeves, managed to dodge it and ran outside. But as he opened the door, he came face to face with a large old man who looked like a mountain, with a very serious face and eyes that showed he wasn't joking around. And also that he wasn't just anyone. He was none other than Hong Renju's father-in-law, the famous Damjuan John Chenu, the ingredient of Group P. Upon seeing the president there, we went into panic mode today and turned pale. He moved away at lightning speed as if he had seen a ghost. The president entered the room casually, and upon spotting Hong Renju, the ground beneath her feet seemed to collapse. She froze in fear, glued to the spot with sweat running down her face and her voice trembling. She questioned her father, "Are you here?" Just as she finished speaking, a strong slap hit her cheek. The girl let out a laugh, but ended up losing her balance and fell backward. Zhuang Rinju, poor thing, had a face that looked like a popped balloon. Meanwhile, the president, gritting his teeth and with a serious expression, stared at Rang Enju. "Do you think I'm an outdated old man?" he questioned. She questioned whether she should or not, for a well-placed slap left her cheek throbbing. Then, out of nowhere, another heavy slap hit her left cheek to even things out, right? The president stepped right in front of her and shot out, "So, do you think I don't know it was you who gave money to the gangster Pew to eliminate Dojum?" They burst into loud laughter and continued, "This Dojum of yours, who is part of my family, is a Class S hero. How would I not know that? We need to bring him back. Home!" Rengenju was speechless and nervous about the president's decision. What she feared the most finally came true. The president, with a serious look on his face, thought, "These Sangenju from Group P think they're all that. Besides disrespecting us, this is our moment. So, dude, what do you think? Hey man, I want to help Dojum, or are you just trying to use him? And I'm thinking that, for now, Dojum is in a tight spot. managing to take care of his sister and grandma. Hank Rinju, after that beating from the president, was lying on the ground, poor thing, worried about what would come next. After all, the president wanted to set everything straight. How did Hank Rinju act against Dojum? The scene then shifts to a plane, where Dojum and his team were flying to Korea after completing that mission in Brazil. Everything was planned. There was actually no fight between Dojum and that mysterious guy, but suddenly, in the future, there will be an insane conflict. Dojum was just chilling, looking out the airplane window, reflecting on everything that happened in Brazil, thinking about how profitable the trip had been. He managed to grab not only the cash, but everything he needed to create his rewards. Jean, who was sitting behind him, very irritated because she had 1,000 questions, broke the silence and asked, "I have a lot of questions to ask you, Dojum," in his usual fashion. "What kind of questions? Go ahead, no beating around the bush. You let the gangster Pew escape on purpose. Are you messing with me? Why did you do that?" After a while, everyone landed, and the beautiful scenery of Seoul appeared. In the midst of it all, a charming little face emerged, biting into a hamburger with incredible joy. In fact, Dojum took his little sister, Junior, to eat at that fast food place they love. After a long time, seeing his sister's happiness left him jumping for joy. But he couldn't help but feel a cloud of despair wrap around his thoughts when remembering the past. After returning home and reuniting with his family, Dojun was shocked to see his grandmother in bed. Her health had clearly deteriorated, and he wondered why she hadn't gone to the hospital and why they hadn't even called him. But his little sister didn't say anything, just lowered her head, and Dojun watched her coldly while thinking that he couldn't be too hard on her. But he still had many doubts in his mind. The little girl, with a trembling voice, said that their grandmother was very sad because he was risking his life to make money. Even then, for that reason, she thought he shouldn't waste money frivolously. But apparently, she was listening to everything. Dojin said that going to the hospital because she was sick didn't mean wasting money frivolously. He whispered in her ear that he had made a ton of money in Brazil, and no one needed to worry about the hospital bill or the things she needed to do. The things she wanted to do from now on, don't hold back. It's for her to do everything she never did in her life. The grandmother didn't say anything, but tears welled up in her eyes, and she closed them, a slight smile blooming on her face. Then, immediately after, he admitted her to the best hospital in Korea, and he would visit her every day along with his sister. While eating burgers became part of their daily routine, look, he was going to end up gaining weight along with the little girl, huh? Then, in the hero's complex of Gazan, the guy was saying that the more he sees this, the more impressive it is. It's the first time this guy has seen a blue croco heart in such good condition. So with that, he would be able to forge a sword with better effects than expected. Dojin asked how long it would take, and the old man said it would take about 3 weeks, so he would start working on it immediately. Besides the sword, he had something more to request. Could he? After all, it would be very good. An old man asked what it was, and while he said that, anything, if it was his request, he would do it. Dojin pulled out a bunch of items from his bag, while saying that bag, he holds the Valkyrie blades, the thread, and the poison sack. Upon seeing those items, the old man realizes that the boy wants armor. Does he want armor in his size or larger? Dojin says no. The old man is left confused. What does he mean? Well, his plan is basically this. He is planning to make his younger sister wear it. Now he gets it. He understands everything. It's for his sister. But he doesn't understand why armor made of Valkyries has such high defense. There must be many heroes in line to buy it, right? He asks if his sister is a heroine too. Dojin shows him a picture of her and says, no, she is actually a child and she looks like a lovely young girl, but it also seems she has no combat skills or power. Dojin asks him to make regular clothes, not a combat suit. The blacksmith understands. Dojin asks if there is a problem, and the blacksmith says that children grow up too fast. Even after he makes this armor, maybe that girl won't be able to wear it for more than a year or 2. Then Dojin sighs and says, I already foresaw this. He pulls out a bottle with a green liquid from his bag. But what is this now, huh? Dojin says that it's the frog liquid. If you combine it with fabric materials, the elasticity increases by about 10 times. Now you're speaking the blacksmith's language. That frog is just an ordinary plant-type monster, right? So since everything is fine, he has already made all the requests, delivered all the items. He said he would leave. Everything in the blacksmith's hands and is already leaving there. The blacksmith is still in disbelief. This guy brought the blood of a cyclops last time. Where the hell does this guy get all this stuff to give me? But Dojin says nothing. Then he gives a little smile and turns while saying that he is in his second life with a big grin. Everyone knows it's not a lie, right? So sometime later, under a sunny sky with blue clouds, a figure that seems to be important, wearing shoes. Well, those shoes are very strange, my brother. They might resemble the shoes from Dragon Ball. He is walking pensively, thinking a lot, until he climbs some stairs in a corridor. And apparently he is in Coffee Paradise in the Yanggu district. That cafe down there is in the basement. He thinks the owner there can't be a sensible person. Then suddenly he notices a hooded figure, but thanks to that, this is the perfect place to find people quietly. Welcome to the underground cafe. The place was in complete silence, far from the noise of the streets. Ideal for having a chat in a more civilized vibe. You know, after all, this place was perfect. And this guy praised the customer's choice. Look at that. The customer was sprawled on the sofa, looking like he was waiting for someone else, right? And to be honest, to be a true poster. Then, the briefcase guy arrived saying, "Nice to meet you," but the pose stayed quiet, without responding. The briefcase guy's head was full of questions. Who was that figure, and why choose such a secluded place to meet? He approached, handed over a business card, and introduced himself. "I am Park Sang-hoo, a former executive and secretary of Group S, now an independent consultant." Then the other one introduced himself. "I am So Do-jum," and he knew So Do-jum well. He also spoke formally, like a famous hero. "Do you remember me? Today, Dr. Jun explained that your friend Joyeon suggested you to me. That's why I called you. And she said you are competent and honest, and that's what the rich are looking for, isn't it? And that's also why I chose you for this mission." At that moment, a waiter approached to take the order. Park Sang-hoo asked for a piping hot espresso, real coffee, and Park replied to So Do-jum, "I can do whatever you need as long as it doesn't involve anything illegal or breaking rules." Then, So Do-jum said, "I want to build a house for myself." Park was somewhat surprised and said, "You just want to build a house and decided to hire me instead of calling a construction company? All right, just know it won't be a normal house, is that clear?" So Do-jum hated that cleverness from Park and revealed that he wanted the fanciest house in the whole world. At that moment, Park lifted his coffee and asked, "What is the desired location and what is your budget?" Park started to savor his coffee while listening. So Do-jum commented that he wanted his house in Seoul with a budget of at least 500 billion Korean coins. Wow, man, are you crazy? Look, that's outrageous. When Park heard this, he was in shock. I would be too, you know? I'm also in shock. Almost choked and spilled his coffee all over his dojo, ruining that expression of his, Seo Dojun, who looked like one of the calmest guys in the world. He wondered, "Is this the first time you're trying to do such an expensive job?" Park, all flustered, immediately apologized and started wiping the client's face. Clearly, nervous about the mishap, right? "No way. Dude, I'm also putting money in the house." He tried to change the subject, then blurted out, "It seems like you're not just looking for a house, but I don't know, a castle or a palace?" Seo Dojun raised an eyebrow and interpreted, "A palace?" Then he paused and seemed to think about it, and finally said, "Hey, I like the idea. Is it a palace? Then I'll increase the budget to 1,000,000,000,000 coins. Goodness gracious. Look at this, how outrageous." Park was in total shock. It felt like he was frozen in that moment. Man, he went ahead and asked, "Seo Dojun, can I ask a question? Do you know what the most expensive house in Korea is right now?" Seo Dojun replied, "Honestly, in my opinion, the safest house is the one belonging to the president of the SE Angum Group, which is in Gangnam." Park agreed and commented that indeed, that information was accurate. He added that President Angum's house was valued at 110 billion Korean coins and went further. But honestly, the construction cost was only a few million won. Thinking about Seo Dojun's huge budget, he said that money would be enough to build a house that would be a record breaker. But to be honest, Park claimed that with the current situation, there was no way to find land in Gangnam. The situation there was different. Buying land there was almost an impossible dream until now. The area still hadn't shown any signs of decline or fissure in that region. In Pabi, reality, prices were skyrocketing crazily day after day. Park repeated to Seo Dojun, "Look, I can make that little house of your dreams, but finding the safest place isn't that easy, you know." Then he followed up, "What's your decision?" Your dojo, which until then had been laughing at the jokes of the Park, replied, "Gangana is not the safest place." The Park, in shock, listened attentively. Your dojo explained that thinking Gangana was the safest area was pure illusion, fueled by the perspective of those who lived there. In reality, the safest place doesn't have to be the one that shines or draws attention. And then, it brought to light what was about to happen. Totally unpredictable fissures began to erupt in various places, around the world in a terrifying manner. A huge crack opened right in the middle of the street, filled with people, and suddenly several of these gaps began to appear everywhere. Sometimes, a large opening emerged. Other times, the cracks popped up in tall buildings, as if they were portals to death. It became clear that what everyone thought was a safe zone was just a mirage. For your dojo, it was evident that the greatest danger was coming. So, we needed a house that was, I don't know, as safe as possible. The Park, already sweating cold at this talk of fissures, asked, "So, do you have any idea where you want to build your house?" He was eager to hear the answer from Mr. Dajun, who with the utmost calm said, "Let's go to the Guru district. We'll buy a plot of land there." The Park was in shock, as if he had just received a jolt of 500 volts. bolts. Stupefied, he exclaimed, "Guru? But sir, I heard that a fissure opened in that place years ago, and it doesn't stop there. A crack was also spotted right in the neighboring market recently." Mr. Dajun, sipping his coffee casually and with a carefree demeanor, replied, "Yes, that crack in the market was something I took care of myself." The park was completely lost, unable to understand why Mr. Dajun would choose such a dangerous place. Unable to contain his anxiety, he asked, "But why does Guru have something special there?" Mr. Dajun, with an air of mystery, said, "Because it's near our house. That must be reason." Enough. The park was paralyzed upon realizing that this entire giant plan was based on something as simple as the proximity of the house. At that moment, the scene shifts and cuts to a dense, dark forest, where a huge red fissure gaped terrifyingly in the sky. Then, in a very dramatic touch, the feet of a colossus appeared, and it was no ordinary monster, but a gigantic fire T-Rex, spewing flames everywhere as it hunted in the forest. In an instant, the beast sensed danger, but before it could grasp the whole situation, it was cut in half. And there was our dear Seo Dojin. He had taken down that monstrous T-Rex with a single lethal attack, and was radiant at realizing how precise and powerful his strike was. After dispatching the T-Rex as if it were nothing, Seo Dojin decided to showcase his new armor, and, my friend, it was the sword that the old blacksmith had made for him in one of those forges that had seen it all. The blade shone with fiery energy, almost blinding in its brightness. It was so light that he thought he could wield it with one hand. Taking a closer look, he couldn't help but admire it. This sword is even better than I imagined. He recalled the day he went to pick up the new outfit at the blacksmith's workshop. The scene was truly a source of pride, you know? The old blacksmith, all sweaty, looked like he had run a marathon to make that thing. The guy had worked non-stop, but when he handed the sword over, his eyes sparkled, as if he had reached the heavens. "This is by far my best work." The guy was full of himself, and it was no wonder. He had used extremely rare materials that Seo Dojun had brought him. It was the culmination of a lifetime. He remembered that, in a quick analysis, the blacksmith even commented, "I don't care about money. This was for you, my friend." Good guy, right? But Seo Dojun didn't forget his principles. At that moment, an alert popped up on the blacksmith's phone. Upon taking a look, the man was left speechless. Seo Dojun had sent an insignificant amount to his account. The blacksmith was astonished. The sword was undoubtedly worth far beyond measure, but that amount Seo Dojun sent was rather absurd, something most people would take a lifetime to gather. Then, with a subtle smile, Seo Dojun justified himself. "I don't like leaving debts with anyone, my brother." And then we return to the present moment. One with everything in hand charged ahead, and was annihilating the fire-breathing T-Rexes that could make anyone faint. As buzzing insects surrounded him, the new sword shone like living fire. Without blinking an eye, he was shredding the carnivores. Those beasts turned into ground meat quickly, as if they were nothing. The crazy guy pushed forward, and more carnivore bodies disappeared to the ground. There were heads and bodies scattered in the wind. Seo Dojun had a mission: to reach the center of the fissure and exterminate everything in his path. With the sword in hand, he realized, this sword is worth 100 billion wons, and the hunt became even simpler. At that point, it was clear that Seo Dojun was methodical. After deciding to team up with the park to build a house, he became obsessed with the idea of hunting in the fissures. For months, he was searching for 10,000 pyongs, or rather, no less than 33,570 square meters of land in the Grand District. For that money had to circulate between 400 to 500 billion Korean coins, depending on the response from the landowners. If the guys didn't accept, well, he knew he could give more. So, when the park suggested reducing the area, Seo Dojun, completely confident, said, "You get your paperwork and I'll handle the money." After giving a stern talking to, Seo Dojun was heading home with his lovely sister Yooni on his shoulders. They both looked like they were on cloud nine, knowing that their grandmother was about to be discharged from the hospital. And Yooni started complaining that her brother wasn't playing with her anymore, and he, laughing, replied that he was somewhat busy. Suddenly, a fancy car stopped right in front of them and the atmosphere turned tense. A guy in a black suit approached, looking very respectful, and said, "You are Seo Dojun, right? The president of the show association sent me to get you." Well, look at that. This show guy is Seo Dojun's greedy and avaricious grandfather. You get it? As soon as the guy heard the name of the grandfather, that pale white tone totally froze him. Seo Dojun calmly placed Yooni on the ground and said, "Yooni, close your eyes quickly." Yooni promptly obeyed and shut her eyes. At that moment, the terrifying side of Seo Dojun surfaced, and he jumped, causing the car's roof to sink and the windows to shatter. With a powerful kick, he sent the car flying away like a leaf in the wind. In that moment, the armed man started trembling like a Christmas twig, and Rosen, with a deadly look, issued the warning, "Get out of here! Disappear from my sight!" Of course, in the next instant, the man took off, saving his own skin. When Yoon opened her eyes and saw the man fleeing, Do-is-um explained, "Oh, I just gave him a scare trying to protect you, kid." Yoon, with that puzzled look of someone who didn't understand a thing, asked, "So who's going to protect me?" Do-is-um, placing Yoon back on his shoulder, replied, "Relax. Anyone thinking of harming you, I'll take care of them on the spot." The scene then completely shifts. Now we are at a dinner table, full of delicious food and wine. It was at Julian's house, where Ju, Anju, and Julian were chatting away. During the conversation, the name of the dojo came up, and Juonju revealed that he was buying a shared house. Joinha, with a smile, said, "Well, it seems he's buying through the group I suggested to him." Then, out of nowhere, Julanju got up from the chair and made a joke. "And you, what are you going to do?" Joinha, confused, answered, "What should I do?" Julian, now responding that she was going crazy, would remain single until she died. After that, she proposed a bold idea. Julian should rent a room or a house near Juon's place so she could see him all the time. In Junga Anju's imagination, she saw Junhin arriving at Jun's house holding food and asking, "I cooked too much today, can I come in?" Junga Anju started saying, "You have to be the woman next door who lives alone." Junhin, annoyed, shot back, "Are you out of your mind?" But Ju Ganyu didn't stop. "What did you save all that money for anyway? This is the time to use it." And with that joke, the scene shifts to the center of the sky, where the main base of the Hero Association is located. The boss of that Hero Association, Net Wang, arrives with Do Jun and drops the bomb. He closed 9 rifts this week and, even crazier, made a good amount of money from it. But then he got curious. Why does Do Jun still want to hunt more rifts? Net Wang asked Do Jun with a surprised expression on his face. Do Jun relaxed. Geosida, ParamniumpremiritE Foro. Enter 3S, Divisa Space Unskew, F Ger Halferminute, Passage. User minus Kev, from edit source PLEASE, APPA, COVERTUESDAY, OBTAINED, VOTECANOME Visa, VPP, themselves TES, O, yield, 0N0, ENM, UUT, TIO, 01D, 31C, O28DR, T in the excess, R, Ejik, 1DC, O umber im Nothist. Yo, 1. Timan Pour Send. Up ahead, Du Jun, casually dressed, glances at his bank balance on his phone while listening to Netwang respond. "Seriously, I'm curious to know what's going on with you. That's why I called you here. Are you facing some serious danger, like from Brazil, or what?" He remembers that just as the rifts appeared in Brazil, they might also show up in Korea. But according to the information circulating, there was nothing indicating an imminent danger. So why was he so focused on hunting? By the way, Du Jun, still fiddling with his phone, realizes that after closing those rifts, he amassed a small fortune, 45 billion and 2 million in his account. Du Jun smiles and says he wants more money because his plan is to build the most badass house in the world for his sister and grandmother, leaving Netwang speechless. Deep down, Netwang thought that maybe Do Jun was worried about some trouble that could arise in the future, but Do Jun started making a request. Before he could finish, ideally, he hesitated. Netwang receives Do Jun's request to help him obtain all the permits and official processes for building the house. Netwang immediately agrees. Then, as soon as the information leaked that Do Jun was buying land in a certain area, prices started skyrocketing. Youngju, Netwang, and everyone from the Skill Floor Guild also began investing in land there. Soon, other heroes and large property owners started getting in on the action and buying land too. The scene changes to a grinning monkey. Sorry, it's Do Jun's greedy grandfather, laughing happily with some crazy ideas in his head, thanking for the food. When he discovers that Do Jun is making moves in the real estate market, he immediately tells his assistant to rush and buy everything around the area where Do Jun is going to build. The assistant then leaves, not wasting any time, moving quickly. Rumors start to spread, and the price of land skyrockets. But Do Jun was quick and had already secured 10,000 piaos for himself, meaning 33,000 square meters of land, before the price increase. So there stood Do Jun in the park, evaluating the plans he brought for building the house. The papers showed a super space of 10,000 piaos, a circular place surrounded by sturdy walls. Right in the center, he had sketched out a house of 150 piaos, with plenty of land around. Dojum thought the layout was quite stylish, but the architect decided to question whether it was serious for him to want to build such a small house on such a large plot. The guy, with a smile, said that to be the most luxurious house in the world, it needed to have a unique aspect. The architect was surprised. The dimensions of the walls looked nothing like a typical house, and he noted that he would need approval from the district office to build it that way. Dojum, laughing, mentioned that President Netwang would sort this out. Then, with that, the architect realized that Dojum was dealing directly with the founder and president of Hero Association, the very Netwang, to get this authorization. So it cuts to Netwang's office, where the secretary asks what Dojum's second request was. Netwang reveals that the guy wanted to tame a monster and use it as a shadow for the house. The assistant who heard this story was completely stunned. No one had ever thought of taming a monster until now. "Dude, you're crazy, man. This guy is awesome. Wow, it's almost like Solo 11. Netwang was shocked, but curiosity struck. How was Dojum going to do that? The craziest part is that Netwang confirmed that the monster Dojum wanted to tame was a Carcelian, a beast of S classification. Now the scene transitions to a forest, where a red rift starts to form. Dojum strides through the rift, all elegant and stylish, ready for the troubles ahead. He destroys each monster that appears as if they were mere insects, way too relaxed about it. In no time, he reaches the heart of the area where the boss of that rift resides, a giant, sinister wasp. Once upon a time, it was quite active, almost as if it had just awakened. He approaches the volcano cave where the rift boss is. Just as he's about to enter, the beast suddenly wakes up and lets out a roar so powerful that it makes Dojum's heart race. Its name was Carcelia. With the head of a dragon and the body of a spider, it charged at Dojum, but Dojum stood firm, showing no fear on his face. He draws his sword and says, "Get ready, I'm relentless." The Carcelia tries to attack with its tail, but Dojum says, "Not even a lightning bolt." Not letting it go, furious, the Carcelian releases a beam of light from its mouth, but Dojum barely manages to escape. The Carcelian, who thought it would be easy to defeat, starts scratching itself. Damn, why did I mess with this guy? For a while, tired and wounded, the creature fell to the ground. Dojum didn't come to eliminate it, but rather to make an alliance. Juom slowly approached the Carcelio and then gently petted it as if it were a pet. "Stay here, I'll be back tomorrow." After that, he left the cave as Cargella started to recover. And so ends today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like and comment here. I want a continuation, my brother, because it takes a lot of work to make these videos for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.